What's that? Tier list? You got it, fam. Here it comes. FE7 tier list coming right up. Hi, everyone. How's it going? Welcome to another tier list. It's 2026. How's it going? Everyone living such fulfilling lives that they need to watch a tier list on whether we decide Nino is a good or bad unit or not. Oh, really? We need to do this again? I already made the bottom of the bench tier video. Do we really need a full-on tier list? Sure, why not? They're fun to make. Let's just keep this nice and brief. It's FE7, it's Blazing Blade. Everyone knows the deal at this point. You got your 3 lords, you got your 3, well, more like 2 different modes. Everyone is kind of like, I got a general understanding of this tier list. And this tier list is going to be a little bit different to your average tier list on YouTube, I guess you could say. Let's just go over the rules real quick. Rule number 1, Lin mode is going to be included. Now, I know I've stated on multiple occasions, in multiple different videos, in multiple different realities, that I don't like Lin mode. I've never liked Lin mode, and upon replaying through FE7 to get information about Lin mode, I still didn't like Lin mode. That's besides the point, very much an opinion piece. When I say Lin mode is going to be included in regarding unit strength and just overall viability of said units, what I mean is I'm going to review the units that you acquire in Lin mode, such as your Lin, your Sain, your Kent, your Florina, your Wills. All of those units are going to get a review for how they perform with Lin mode included, and how they perform without Lin mode included, i.e. if you just skip to Hector hard mode. So when we review Lin as the first character, spoilers, Lin will get a review for her Lin mode performance, aka I've played Lin mode and have transitioned into Hector hard mode, and also get a review for her performance. I skipped Lin mode and just moved on to Hector hard mode. I hope I just really made your brain get really bored and tired with that incredibly long and arduous explanation, but I hope you understand. So look for the little LM and the little HM next to units, because Lin and like Sain and Wallace and Rath are going to appear twice on the tier list because they're going to get 2 different ratings, effectively. Rule 2, going to be playing on Hector hard mode. Hardest difficulty available. Hector hard mode, it's not, FE7 isn't super difficult, but I think it definitely does have its difficulty spikes throughout the game, and definitely has its fair share of annoying and difficult chapters. And this is going to just be a guide. Like, I've seen a lot of people, like a lot of comments on the other tier list videos, where it's like, I make tier lists for fun, just because I think it's fun to rate units, and I think that's what most people do, but some people use these as, like, guides. It's like, I've never played hard mode before, I want to get some, like, information about what units are good to invest in before I start playing. So this will almost be, like, a little bit of a guide for newer players who haven't played Hector hard mode, who want, like, a nice little head start into the game mode, so they don't accidentally, like, invest all of their resources into Will and Rebecca, because they thought archers were good. But I would also say Hector hard mode isn't, like, difficult to the point where you can't just use your favorite units. Either way. Number 3, no grinding. You know the deal. No arena spamming, no boss abusing, no waiting for, like, infinite reinforcements on Raging Beast. None of that. We will be playing relatively quickly. I'm not going to place that rule because that's just part of no grinding. And number 4, most importantly of all, do not parrot these opinions to your friends as lore. These are not martial law. Tier lists are for fun. Unless you are playing at LTC level, these don't matter. You can use the weakest characters in the game exclusively if you want to, because you just like those units. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You want to play with the best units, you want to play with the worst units, there's no wrong way to play Fire Emblem. Use whoever the hell you want. You want to be a Nino enjoyer? Go right ahead. You want to be a Will sophisticator? Be my guest, friend. Now that I have laid down all the ground rules, fucking hell, this took 4 minutes. God damn, it's supposed to be light. Oh! Let's begin. And I believe I've already mentioned her stupid ass at this point, so we have to start with Lin. Or Lady Lindis, if you want to give her a full title, which I will not be giving her, because that would require me to have a modicum of respect for Lin. Fuck, man, what do you even start with Lin? Wow, what a wheeze. Holy shit, I didn't realize my lungs were capable of that. Anyway, Lin is both really straightforward and really annoying to talk about. Let's just go ahead and give her... We'll talk about a Lin mode version first, but for starters, with Lin mode investment, I think Lin is a C tier unit. She is kind of just average, maybe a bit below average. Without Lin mode investment, Lin is a D tier unit, and I think D tier has actually been quite generous for this pile of rogues masquerading as a ninja. Samurai, whatever, close enough. I'm whatever. Pretend it's like 4 in the morning, it's not, it's 1 in the afternoon, but whatever. Where do you even fucking start with Lin? I guess we'll just start with her... Let's just go, okay. Yeah, let's just go ahead and break this down into 2 separate things. Let's start with a Lin mode investment. With Lin mode investment, Lin will start as a level 1 Lord in Lin mode, but due to the fact there is 12 chapters in Lin mode, and she has by far the best availability of any unit in Lin mode, due to being available for literally every single chapter. Prologue all the way up to chapter 10 or 11, I forget. There's a guiding chapter in there. Either way, Lin has perfect availability for Lin mode. She is perfectly capable of gaining, I want to say, like an average of 7 levels or so. I want to say Lin will end Lin mode on average at around level 8. Obviously, with Lin mode, it's a little bit tricky to talk about because you are free to do whatever you want in Lin mode. You are not forced to be like, well, I have to get Lin to level 6, and then Pent to level 10, and then Sain to level 8. Like, you don't have to do any of that. You could fucking make a level 20 will if you really wanted to. You're allowed to do whatever you want. But on average, you're probably going to be using a bit of everyone, and on average, Lin will turn out to be around about level 8. So she will join from Noble Lady of Kaelin, which I believe is chapter 16 of Hector hard mode, with level 8 Lin bases, which on average, man, I have to say on average so much. That's the theme of this tier list for most of the Lin mode units, is on average these units will be better with Lin mode investment. Lin's bases will be far more impressive than her Hector mode bases, which we'll get to in a sec, but they're very, like, not good at all in any way. So that is nice. It means Lin's start will be a lot better. I want to say Lin will have like an average of around 13, maybe 14 speed, and for like 14 speed, 14 skill going into Hector mode, and like a strength of like 6 or 7. God fucking, which is nice. 14 speed is like it's a nice juicy amount of speed to be able to double the majority of things. Maybe not like mercenaries or myrmidons, but they're not that frequent that it's that much of an issue. Regardless, the point of what I'm trying to say is Lin's start will be much better with Lin mode investment. That being said, we now need to move on to what Lin doesn't do well. Lin, I'm sure you're aware of this at this point. Lin is like one of the most famous, like arguably, I'd say other than like Ike and Marth, probably the most famous Fire Emblem character. Maybe like Lucina is more famous, but Lin is like up there. She's a top 5 unit in terms of like popularity. So you know she is a lord, she's a blade lord, she is the equivalent of a myrmidon in the lord class, boasting high speed and skill, but low strength and low bulk to compensate for her admittedly good ability to double. So Lin can double things, even if her strength isn't great, helped by the Manikati, her personal weapon, which is a good personal weapon. A lot of people like to poo-poo on the Manikati. It is just basically like a strictly better rapier, which is nice. It's got good might, it's got good hit, it's got good, nice crit. It's effective against Cavs and Armor Knights, which, while almost all of them are going to be wielding lances, it's still nice to have some effective damage. That is good. So what is bad about Lin? Okay, let's just do this in stages. Number 1. This is one of the most glaring issues, and I think it's pretty famous at this point. Lin is exclusively a sword user until she gets to promotion. We'll get to that in a sec. Which, as a lot of you may know, being sword-locked, especially in a GBA Fire Emblem, is kind of a death sentence. Because swords are, like, other than bows, I'd say are inarguably the worst weapon type. It's not even close. You have no consistent form of 1-2 range. And FE7 especially, where I want to say like 60 to 70% of the enemies are wielding lances, being an exclusive sword user, being a fucking sword weeaboo, is a really bad time. It's not good. It means you have basically permanent weapon triangle disadvantage unless you're able to, like, pluck some fruit from the Lance Reaver tree, which doesn't exist. There's, like, you can buy Lance Reavers eventually, but by the time you get that, it doesn't matter. The fact that Lin is exclusively locked to 1 range for the majority of the game, only getting 2 range when she gets to promotion with bows, but again, that's another can of worms. It's an entire fucking pod of worms. She has no 1-2 range, and she basically has permanent weapon triangle disadvantage, which is really bad for a unit that's supposed to be a dodge tank, aka someone who uses their high avoid to just outright mitigate damage through avoiding it. So when enemies get an extra boost of hit against you, it makes it very difficult to justify Lin as an enemy phase unit. Especially when she's probably just going to get pelted by javelins and hand axes and bows and fire tomes and light tomes and flux tomes and all that garbage, because fucking FE7 loves its 1-2 range. I'm just going to state this now. Again, very common knowledge for FE7 if you aren't aware of this. The best weapons in the game are the javelin and the hand axe, because my god, do enemies in FE7 love having 1-2 range. It's really frustrating. The fact that Lin can't have a consistent form of 1-2 range, and the fact that she has no weapon triangle advantage, sucks! It's really bad. Number 2 of the bad parts for Lin are, while she might receive a, like she can receive a nice boost to her bases with some Lin mode investment, that's not guaranteed. Lin mode growths are very much still growths, and growths at the end of the day are completely luck-based. So it is entirely possible that you just might not get a Lin with any strength, or a Lin with any HP. Or in my case, which I never knew could happen, I'm just going to post the screenshot right here of my, I believe, level 8 Lin going into Noble Lady of Kaelin. This was my Lin from the end of Lin mode, in which she got speed screwed. I've never seen this happen before. I've never seen a level like 8 Lyn with 10 fucking speed. Again, looking at the average stat, that's around like 4 points of speed screwed. That's really bad. Absolutely outstanding. So, in my case, this is basically just to represent the fact that while with Lyn mode investment, on average, she will turn out better than just her regular Hector mode variation. In my case, I believe she is strength blessed. I believe she has more strength than average, and like the rest of her stats are fine. But in my case, the regular old level 4 Hector version would actually be better because that Hector version has more speed. What I'm trying to say is, investment into Lyn in Lyn mode is nice, but it is also just luck based. Number 3 for why Lyn is not a particularly great unit. For all of the lords in FE7, you cannot promote when you like really want to, effectively. Or I mean, you kind of can for the non-main lords. So, depending on whether you're playing on Eliwood mode or Hector mode. But Lyn always has to wait for the first Heaven Seal to show up before she can promote. Which can be kind of annoying, because that first Heaven Seal shows up in chapter 25, I believe. It's the chapter where you get Pent and Louise, which is pretty late into the game. That's like only 10-ish chapters left remaining in the game. So, not a whole lot going on there. Which means that Lyn and Eliwood and Hector will not get to play around with the promotions for very long. Now, in regards to Lyn's promotion, it's a little bit... It's not even a little bit awkward, it's very, very awkward, because it means if you decide to early invest into Lyn and just dump a bunch of XP and weapon XP and like, oh, I'm just going to give her all the like stat boosters and blah, 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 blah. If I'm going to give her all of that, it means I can't get a proper payoff from my early investment until that Heaven Seal shows up. Which is frustrating, because, for example, if you early invest into a unit like Sain or Kent or Florina, all they need to do in order to promote is get the Night Crest or the Elysian Whip, which show up like plentifully. There are definitely enough Night Crests and Elysian Whips to the point where it is not like a massive annoyance to get a promotion item for them. Like Sain and Kent can promote, I believe, in chapter 17, which is nice and early, and a Florina is like chapter 18, I think. So they have no issues with promotion. Whereas Lyn will have to wait for promotion, meaning she's probably going to get to a very high level and then just not really accomplish much. At which point you could just say, okay, I'll just bench her for a lot of that. Which will lead us into 3.5. Lyn is actually force deployed on a lot of maps due to being a main lord. I believe on Dragon's Gate, the final chapter, maybe Victory or Death. I forget if she's force deployed there. Regardless, there is a few chapters where Lyn is force deployed, so it can just be kind of an annoyance to train Lyn and then either be forced to use her or not forced to use her, or forced to use a non-train. Like, Lyn is just such an awkward unit to use, man. Like, it's so much easier just to train someone like Guy, because Guy's really simple, you know? You can just do whatever you want with Guy. You can train Guy, you can give him the hero crest, bam, he's a sword master, he's going, you know, 1-2 range, who cares? Whereas Lyn has like a million, like, little, like, 3.I, section B, paragraph 3. If Lyn is in this chapter with this, like, blah, 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 like, all of that crap. Oh, and before I forget, she's also, like, competing with the other non-main lord of your story, in which, in this case, it's going to be Eliwood. We're going to be talking about Hector mode. So she is competing with Eliwood for said promotion item. And we'll get to Eliwood. I'm Eliwood's biggest defender, so if I have to pick between which kid I'm taking in the divorce, you better believe my children are going to be redheads. Eliwood's promotion is better than Lyn's. Like, even if Lyn gets massively stat blessed and Eliwood gets massively stat screwed, I'd still probably promote Eliwood just because his promotion is that much better than Lyn's. Because, I guess moving on to point 4, Lyn's promotion just isn't very good. It's not. It's just not really that impressive. A lot of people really, like, after playing FE7 and FE6, really speculate that if there was a remake, she'd probably just promote to, like, a Nomad Trooper, which would probably work a lot better balance-wise, but flavor-wise, it's kind of like, it's a little bit boring. Regardless, she promotes to a Blade Lord, which gets +1 move and access to bows. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Those bows are never, ever going to get used. This is FE7, it's 2 times effectiveness. Bows are even more garbage than normal. And while, like, the 1 point of move is nice, it's not game-changing. Like, Eliwood gets +2 move, and he gets access to lances and just better stats. Or, like, it's just a better promotion. But yeah, I feel like I've been gabbing on Lyn for, like, fucking 20 hours at this point. The sun has gone down, and I'm losing hope rapidly. The important parts about Lyn. Good points. With Lyn mode investment, she can be a very nice unit to have around. She is force deployed. She does have good growths, like 40% strength growth, paired with 60 skill and speed is great. If her speed gets high enough, even with weapon triangle disadvantage and like some terrain bonus, she can be a decent dodge tank. Bows are nice to have as a form of 2 range, but I'd much rather just have some consistent form of 1-2 range, which is nice, but like, there's a lot of just like, it's okay. I'm not even going to bother mentioning the Soul Carty, that thing's a fucking joke. The bad parts about Lyn is she is very much not built for FE7. Let's just go over that real quick. FE7 is an enemy phase focused game. The enemies are quantity over quality, as in they'll rather throw 30 enemies with crappy stats at you than 10 elite enemies with really good stats at you. Like, for example, Engage is enemy quality over quantity. They have actually very strong enemies on maddening mode, but there isn't that many of them. FE7 is the opposite. So you need to have some good enemy phase, which means having, ideally, some form of 1 to 2 range, weapon triangle advantage, aka more than one weapon type on the weapon triangle, and some form of bulk. Because dodge tanking's only good when you can consistently, like, get 0 hit on the enemy, so to say. Or be able to take a hit. With Lyn, her defense growth is so garbage that I wouldn't be surprised if she ended the game with 2 defense. It's 20%, it's real bad. So the fact that Lyn has no 1 to 2 range, no decent bulk, and, like, no way to consistently gain weapon triangle advantage on enemy phase means that Lyn is just, she just doesn't fit in the game's parameters. I think she's still decent and, like, as good as someone like Guy on Hector hard mode with Lyn mode, but without Lyn mode, she's very poor. Like, her bases are just so... Let me just look at her bases real quick. Yeah, no, her bases on Hector mode without any Lyn mode investments are so fucking atrocious. She's level 4, which means she'll gain XP relatively quickly, but 11 speed is enough to double nothing. 5 strength is awful. Her bulk is an effective health of 20, which is terrible. Like, oh god, yeah, she's so bad without Lyn mode investment. She, like, putting her in D tier is actually being quite generous, but we'll leave her there for now. Regardless, I could go on. I could fucking, like, rant about Lyn for legitimately, like, 4 hours. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. Lyn is a decent unit with Lyn mode investment and a very poor one without it. Moving on. I hope you enjoyed my TED talk about Lyn. Man, I really just yacked and yapped about Lyn for a good old 2 hours, so let's just try and keep it brief for a lot of these other characters. A lot of these characters are going to be really simple to talk about. I know I talked about Lyn for literally 20 minutes, but let's just go ahead and move on to our first Christmas cav. Let's start with Kent. Kent is not a fascinating unit. I think it's really easy to say that. He is purposefully designed to be as plain and simple and boring as possible, and that's a-okay by me, because it means there's a lot less to talk about. He's a Christmas cav. Cavs are always pretty much good, so his rating won't be that low. I'd say with Lyn mode, Kent is a definite A-tier unit. You could maybe make an argument for S-tier, but I think A is about fine. And without Lyn mode, I'd say about B-tier. For a number of different reasons. Lyn mode really, really, like, helps the Christmas cavs especially. We'll get into that in a bit. But for starters, let's just go over Kent's strengths. Kent's a level 5 cav in Hector mode, which is fine. In fact, yeah, let's talk about his Hector mode version first, because I feel like a lot of people really like to gush and, what's the opposite of, like, raving? They'd like to compliment the Christmas cavs a lot, I think because of their Lyn mode performance and how they can transition from Lyn mode into Hector mode really, really well. But in my professional opinion, the cavs in Hector mode, without any Lyn mode investment, really aren't anything to write home about, honestly. Yes, they're on Cav. Cav is arguably the best class in the game if you don't include Flyers, but Flyers require less investment, whereas Cavs just kind of do what you want them to do right out of the gate. They move really fast, they have rescue drop shenanigans, they have good con, they have 2 weapon types for some reason, they get a 3rd upon promotion because Incis just fucking loved their horsey ponies during this era, but they're very good in regards to their class. But with Kent, his Hector mode stats really just aren't anything to write home about. At this point, you've likely been training a Lowen who, while Lowen has poor growth, he'll probably, like, just turn up being better than both Kent and Sain at this point, because Kent will be having 8 strength and 8 speed, along with an okay bulk of 6 defense and 23 health. This is fine. It's very much the definition of fine and passable. Along with having Ds in both swords and lances, which is good, but in order to use the best lance in the game, the javelin, you need to have E rank, which is staggeringly high. So as long as you have E rank and lances, you are good to go on that front. Kent is more geared towards being the all-rounder of the Cavaliers, if I had to, like, put them into a category. Sain is very much the hard-hitting one, with his very, very high strength growth, and Lowen is more of a bulky one with his high defense growth. Whereas Kane kind of just does a bit of everything. Like, he's probably arguably the speediest. I think his speed growth is the highest. Whereas his strength and, like, defense can maybe fall behind a bit. He'll generally just turn out to be your traditional paladin. But in Hector mode, he's good. He's definitely good in Hector mode. He's a good unit. He's a good unit for deployment slots. There's absolutely nothing wrong with training him. But I find that in Hector mode, due to reduced deployment slots, it can be kind of difficult to justify bringing 3 cavs when you're, like, having to divvy up promotion items, so to say. Like, the first Knight's Crest appears in Chapter 17, so you can just give that to a Kent or a Sain, but like in Chapter 17, they won't be level 10, and you shouldn't promote them at level 10. Spoilers. I know I always say early promote, but when I say early promote, I mean like level 15. So it can be kind of hard to justify bringing both Kent and Sain and Lowen, so you're likely just going to pick one. And I'm not going to say like, oh, Kent's the weakest, because it's pretty much just a case of whichever one you get the most lucky with. So in regards to that, it's a good class, good weapon types, good stats, but he's very much just good on Hector mode. He's not great like a lot of other units. But when you factor in Lin mode investment, Kent becomes incredibly strong. Kent becomes absolutely like ludicrously powerful with Lin mode investment. He'll start off as level 1 in Lin mode, but he'll join from Chapter 2 onwards, so he has basically the entire mode to train up. And I found that on my most recent playthrough with a little bit of it's not even really favoritism for Cavs. They just get to combat the quickest. That's why Cavs are good, because it doesn't take 2 turns for them to get to combat. It takes 1 turn. And bam, like the enemy's dead by the time Dorcas gets there. But I found that Kent and Sain ended up at around level 10 by the end of Lin mode, which, funnily enough, allowed them to be in level range for the Knight Crest that Wallace brings in Chapter 9. You might be familiar with Lin mode giving you a Knight Crest to promote Wallace, but the game forces you to promote Wallace. Whereas in hard mode, you are fully able to use that Knight Crest on whoever the hell you want, including Kent or Sain. And in my case, I used it on Kent, a level 10 Kent with a nice amount of stats, and he turned out pretty well. He basically just turned into a second Marcus. Like, he had similar HP, similar strength, similar speed. He was just very, very useful. And in this case, it's great. Like, genuinely just having a second Marcus from Chapter 16 onwards is absolutely fantastic. And in that case, you probably should go in S tier, but the fact that you can just do this with Sain and Kent, like, they're very similar units. Like, as I said, Sain will hit a bit harder, Kent will be a bit faster, but they're still very, very good. I'd say with Lin mode investment, Kent is like potentially a top 5 unit along with Sain. I kind of just categorize them as the same unit for the most part, but they're definitely like top 10 units with Lin mode. They just become very, very dominant on the battlefield. Great weapon triangle advantage pretty much all around, amazing mobility, rescue drop shenanigans, blah, 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 blah. Pretty much just like no weaknesses with Lin mode investment, outside of the fact that they can't fly and their availability is a bit worse than characters like Marcus. Yeah, I think that's kind of all we really need to say about Kent and Sain. With Lin mode, these two absolutely flourish. Without it, they're good. They're definitely solid units, mostly just because of their class, but their availability is worse. Their stats aren't that impressive. They can definitely fall behind if they don't get lucky with levels. And yeah, they're going to be competing with that Knight Crest really, really heavily. It can be a little bit tough. But yeah, Kent, very plain unit, but solid, very, very strong. Which will naturally transition us right into Sain. He's totally insane. Sain is going to get almost the exact same rankings and like positioning as Kent. He is an A tier unit with Lin mode investment and a B tier unit without Lin mode investment. Same as Kent, very, very simple. Moving on to what is actually unique about Sain. I'll try not to repeat anything that I said because it's very much the same case. You could just promote Sain early in Lin mode if you really, really want him to be the equivalent to Marcus for Lin mode, or you can have him be the one that grows more. Personally, I think Sain is just a little bit better for growing just because he has better offensive growths. The best part about Sain compared to Kent is, I'd argue like his growths are just a bit better. Like 60% strength growth on a cab is fucking disgustingly good. That's very high. A 60% strength growth means on average every other level he's getting strength, which is very, very good, helped by his reasonably high base of 8 in Lin mode. I believe in Hector mode it's like 9, which isn't even that bad. That's really good. Sain's damage is never an issue, especially the fact that he is a lance cav. Or I guess if you do Hector mode, it doesn't really matter. They both start with Ds in swords and lances, but you get the idea. That's all great. The issue with Sain over Kent is very much an all-rounder unit who doesn't really disappoint on any front, but he doesn't really impress on any front. Whereas Sain is like, wow, my damage is really good, and my health is like really fortuitous. But when you get to his speed front, this is where you start to see the little bit of the little crack in his armor, so to say. It's not great. Sain has a 40% speed growth, which is the same as a unit like Bartre. And Bartre is not a good unit. But like, Bartre is a bad unit for a lot of other reasons, but the 40% speed growth certainly doesn't fucking help. 40% speed growth is kind of iffy. That's on average a point every, it's 2 points every 5 levels on average, which isn't amazing. Like, his base speed is, I believe, 6 in Lin mode, and maybe 8 in Hector mode. It's either 7 or 8, which is fine, but it means Sain can definitely have some trouble doubling things, because despite the fact that he will be gaining a lot of XP in Lin mode, I find that on average he'll be gaining like 3 points of speed in Lin mode, and while he will definitely be doubling virtually everything in Lin mode, because the enemies in there are comically underpowered, once he gets into Hector mode, the enemies just step up a bit, like their stat thresholds just get a bit higher, and the speed thresholds just get a little bit higher, and it means Sain won't consistently double for a while. Definitely not with just Hector mode Sain, because 8 speed just isn't enough to double consistently, outside of soldiers, obviously. But even with Lin mode, I find it'll take Sain a little bit more time to find his footing. That's the main difference. Kent will just be like, oh, it's pretty good, like 7, maybe 8 out of 10 unit right out of the gate. It's like, he's doubling more consistently. Maybe it's not one rounding, but he is doubling. Whereas Sain is like a 7 out of 10 cav, maybe a 6 out of 10 cav, until he can double, and then he's absurd. Then he's easily the strongest paladin in the game, because his damage output is by far the highest. In regards to like the boosters you can give in Lin mode, we'll discuss that more once we get to Florina, because I'll just say this now. You get an energy ring and an angelic robe in Lin mode. Both of those, in my professional opinion, my professional Fire Emblem opinion, should go to Florina, but we'll get to that more with her. I don't really think Sain and Kent really benefit that much from boosters. I think their stats are like just kind of good enough, and like they are bulky enough. They're good. Again, like I said with Lin, how Lin isn't a good enemy phase unit, Sain and Kent are definitely good enemy phase units because they have access to javelins. It's kind of as simple as that. If you can chuck a javelin, you're a good enemy phase unit. Excellent Lin mode investment, because you simply just get a paladin in return, and a paladin's really fucking good. Even if you don't promote him early in Lin mode, you get a fantastic cavalier with great stats, great mobility, rescue drop utility, pretty good availability, perfect weapon triangle advantage as soon as he promotes, and like the biggest factor above the other cavs like Isadora and Lowen and Marcus, and Kent, his brother in Christ, is just Sain's monstrous damage output. He is like, I'm not going to look at his average stats because that would require far too much effort. But I'm willing to bet Sain, if you got him to level 20, would probably cap strength. Yeah, Sain. Very, very strong unit. He takes a little bit longer to get online than Kent, so I'd say he's a little bit better than Kent, personally, just because that damage output is so high, but the two are very, very similar. They're going to go right next to each other on the tier list. Very, very strong, with Lin mode investment. You can make an argument for S tier. I think like the top of A tier is fine. But without, I'd say he actually suffers more than Kent without Lin mode, just because he takes even longer to get online. And like, while high damage output is nice, unless you're doubling, it's not that nice, so to say. But yeah, still a very, very strong unit. I feel like I can just leave it there. And next up in the Lin squad is Florina. Florina is a really interesting unit to talk about because up to this point, I think it's generally just a safe assumption for a lot of Lin mode characters to just place them up a tier when you include Lin mode investment, i.e. Lin is D tier without Lin mode investment, but C tier with investment. Florina, though, this might come as a little bit of a surprise to some people, but I'm just going to go ahead and say this now. I think Florina with Lin mode investment is an S tier unit. I think Florina, as long as she gets that nice boost from all the fucking tons of XP in Lin mode, becomes fucking ridiculous. But without Lin mode, I'd say she's like Kent and Sain and mostly just a B tier unit. Actually, like lower than Kent and Sain, I'd say. But we'll get more into that in just a moment. But now, let's go ahead and discuss why I think Florina is so heinously strong. Florina will join from like chapter 4, I think, with Will in chapter 4. Fucking Will, we'll get to him. What an absolute joy it'll be to talk about Will. But Florina will join as a level 1 Pegasus Knight with pretty solid bases, honestly, for a level 1 Pegasus Knight in Lin mode. Like, her bulk is kind of iffy with only 17 health and 4 defense, but honestly, that's like higher than Lin's effective health, so I have no complaints. But 9 speed and 5 strength for a level 1 Pegasus Knight, not bad. It's pretty good. Those are pretty good offenses. Helped by the fact that her growths are great. Well, great might be an exaggeration. 40% strength is maybe a little bit low, but for a Pegasus Knight, it's actually quite good. 55 speed actually isn't that fast for a Pegasus Knight, but it's still pretty good. Her offensive growths are good. Her defensive growths aren't great, but they're a lot more salvageable than you think. The important thing is, Florina joins as a pretty decent unit in Lin mode at level 1 with pretty good bases and pretty good growths on a fantastic class. Pegasus Knight is a flyer. Flyers are pretty much universally busted, as we've discussed many a time at this point. It is in the annals of history. We have discussed this so many times, it's practically just like a catchphrase at this point. Pull my string. Flyers are busted. Yeah, no shit, we know. So the fact that she has access to the ability to just ignore a lot of mechanics and fly all over the map and rescue utility, all that fly utility stuff, excellent. Paired with the fact that she has good combat to start with, because Lin mode enemies are so aggressively mediocre. Not even mediocre, they're just stupidly weak. So Florina can get a ton of XP in Lin mode, basically for free. She's like probably the best investment unit in Lin mode, because she has no limiters on what she can do in Lin mode, since she can just fly all over the place. Like on a lot of maps, a lot of Lin mode maps are just like mountain in the center, you gotta go around it. Florina doesn't have to give two flying fucks about that. she will just fly right to the boss, right to the Dark Mages on, I think, the Nils chapter, and just cleave through those units. And you might be thinking, well, Florina's bulk is actually pretty bad at base. And you would be right. It is bad. It's only an effective health of 21. But like I said with Sain, I believe, you get an angelic robe in Lyn mode. And other than Lyn herself, I can't think of a better recipient of that. It'll boost her health from 17 to 24 without any level ups whatsoever, which is massive. And because Lyn mode enemies are doing such little damage, HP is a huge defensive booster. By just giving her the angelic robe, it effectively lets Florina do whatever the fuck she wants in Lyn mode. Like, you can just move her all over the place. Because bows are only 2 times effectiveness, so flyers are even better, especially paired with the fact that most archers have garbage for stats. Yeah, Florina's Lyn mode performance is great, and she will transition exceptionally well into Hector mode with Lyn mode investment. I believe my one was around level 8, level 9 when she went into Lyn mode, or into Hector mode. She received the angelic robe. She actually didn't receive the energy ring because she got super strength blessed, which was lovely to see. So she had, I think, 11 strength going into Hector mode on a flyer, which is disgusting. That's so high, especially when she had pretty good speed as well. I believe she had 12 speed. She was, I think, a little bit speed screwed, but super strength blessed, which I will take any day of the week for Farina. So yeah, she'll gain a bunch of XP in Lyn mode. She'll become an absolute juggernaut into Hector mode with rescue utility, amazing utility and amazing combat, and she's not hindered by the map at all. But she's not completely perfect. I do think S tier is maybe a little bit presumptuous for her, but I like to have, if you've viewed my previous tier lists, I like to have S tier as the top 3 of the game. And I believe Florina is the 3rd best unit in the game with Lyn mode investment. She does have some weaknesses. She has iffy con in the sense that 4 con is poor. She will get slowed down by everything that isn't a Slim Lance, which you can just remedy by leveling her up over time, because she will eventually just gain so much speed that losing speed with weapon weight isn't actually that bad. And she will also gain swords upon promotion, and honestly, swords are probably a better weapon type for her for the most part. If you can't use 1-2 range consistently, you should probably just switch to swords for higher speed and better accuracy. That's besides the point. Her main issue is con, which is something that's only really an issue until she gets enough speed to just mitigate that issue entirely. And her other issue is the fact that you might just be skipping Lyn mode. And without Lyn mode, I don't actually think Florina's that great. A lot of people like to proclaim that Florina is a goddess amongst the mortals, even without Lyn mode investment. I think that's completely wrong. Without Lyn mode investment, Florina's stats won't get boosted by that much into Hector mode. I want to say she gets an average of, I want to say she'll get 1 point into every stat on average, which means 6 strength, 9 speed. 9 speed for a Pegasus Knight joining from chapter 16 in Hector mode is bad. That's really not good. That's the main issue with Hector mode Florina, is that she will have no speed whatsoever. She will have no doubling capability. And while her strength, again, strength of 6 for a Pegasus Knight is actually pretty good, but the inability to double or use heavier weapons, she can't use heavier weapons at all. If she uses a javelin, her speed goes to -2 because her con is so garbage. Florina's speed is genuinely atrocious without Lyn mode investment. Now, you can still invest into her with Hector mode. You'll get an early Elysian Whip and probably be the best recipient of that. She can still get fed a bunch of XP, and she'll be level 3, so she'll gain a bunch of XP. In fact, she can just be fed the Cav reinforcements in Noble Lady of Kaelin, chapter 16. But it's a little bit harder to justify using Florina in Hector mode, because Fiora is right around the corner, and Fiora requires much less investment for a unit that's only slightly worse on average, I'd say. Fiora is a very solid unit, and I'd say just a better unit overall on Hector mode, but we'll get to her later. But yeah, Florina's performance with Lyn mode investment is absolutely despicable. She's like a server admin. She just gets to do whatever the fuck she wants. Insane offensive stuff. Her bulk can be a little bit iffy, but she's a flyer, man. Just have her go and fly to Priscilla or Serra, and boom, she's back to full health. Her health pool is really, really nice. Her offense is insane. She's a flyer. She can just ignore mechanics. The only weaknesses of this character is that she requires Lyn mode investment, but she is the best recipient of that and the best recipient of boosters, and con is kind of iffy. That's kind of it. She's an incredibly strong unit with Lyn mode investment, and without it, she's not even that bad. She's still pretty decent. And now that we've discussed a good unit, a great unit in fact, a unit I thoroughly enjoyed talking about, let's go ahead and find our way to the bottom of the list with Will. Much like how I talked about how Florina is arguably a top 3 unit with Lyn mode investment, I'm just gonna, I'll get to his Hector mode placement in a sec. I'm gonna say this for Will with Lyn mode investment. He is one of the worst recipients for XP in Lyn mode. Just, he's a GBA archer. If you're familiar with the class, that should tell you all you need to know. Will with Lyn mode investment is an E tier unit, which is being kind of generous, and without Lyn mode investment, he's an F tier unit. Like I said with Farina, much how she's arguably a top 3 unit with Lyn mode investment. Without Lyn mode investment, I'd say Will is a bottom 3 unit. And even with Lin mode investment, I'd still say he's a bottom 5. Like, he's real not good. Where do you even start with Will? There's not really that much we need to talk about. As I've established at this point, bows are 2 times effectiveness, which means Archer's innate niche of being able to do big, like high, strong damage to flies is rendered much, much weaker, because stuff like the Iron Bow, I believe the Iron Bow has like 6 might, will only be multiplied by 2 instead of 3, so it's only an extra 6 might, which is like nothing. So effective damage is really poor in this game, which sucks for a class that needs to do effective damage in order to be helpful. Other than that, Archer is just a really crappy class. I haven't even got into his bases and growths yet. We'll fucking get into that big dumpster pile in a second. But Archer is just not a good class in an enemy phase focused game because it has no one range, and having no one range means enemies are just going to bum rush you. All the mercs and myrmidons and calves are just going to use their iron lances and their iron swords and just continuously poke Will to death. And he'll have no ability to counterattack whatsoever, which completely blows. And even when he promotes, he'll still have no one range whatsoever. Sniper is like, it's a cute class, like the stats you'll get are nice, and Silver Bow is a good damage, I guess. I'm really like searching for positives here. Yeah, no one range it's a death sentence. Much like how being a sword locked unit is kind of a death sentence because you have no consistent form of 2 range, Archer is a bad class because you have no consistent form of 1 range. Very simple. It's just as simple as that. Now that I've discussed why Archer is just generally a bad class, let's discuss why Will is bad. Will's bases, regardless of which route you take, are fucking abysmal. I want to say Will is like the only unit in both modes that basically won't consistently double. Ever. Will start with 6 strength and 5 speed, which even for Lin mode standards, that's really bad. Like, he starts with less... Isn't that like the same strength as Florina? Isn't that just atrocious? He starts with like the same strength as Florina, but with less speed and a worse weapon type. Like, how is that fair? Like, I want to just really emphasize the point that the fact that Will can't even double in Lin mode of all things is absolutely horrendous. Will can't consistently one round in Lin mode. A game mode where the enemies are basically just made of cottage cheese. Like, you'll just poke them and they'll dissolve into mush. So even investing into Will is actually kind of difficult, because you'll need to set up kills for him in Lin mode. Like, come on! That's so bad! That's so atrocious! And even if you decide to invest into him in Lin mode, all you'll get is an archer with slightly better stats. Like, not even significantly better. Will's growths are like fine. It's like 50% strength, 40% speed, 50% skill. They're fine growths. I don't have an issue with them. He'll have plenty of time to grow, but it's just such a fucking hassle to give him kills when you could just be giving them to better units. Like Sain, or Kent, or Florina, or even someone like Rath is better. You get Rath in Lin mode. You can just feed him to Rath instead. Like, there's just so many reasons why you shouldn't give kills to Will, unless you really like him. Even as an archer fanatic, like, I like Rebecca a lot, I have no fondness for Will. Will is just, even for me, he's too garbage of an early game archer. And that's his Lin mode performance, which is his better performance. When you move on to his Hector mode performance, Will has gained a grand total of 1 speed! Let's fucking go, Will! 1 speed, that's all he got. In 2 levels, he got 1 point of speed. His strength is the same at 6. I want to say his bulk is slightly better with 1 extra res. Who the fuck cares about an archer's bulk? It doesn't matter. Yeah, Will on Hector mode is so atrocious. He has like no time to grow whatsoever. At this point, Rebecca will have had far better availability. Rebecca isn't like a particularly good unit at all, but she has far better availability than Hector mode will. Better growths. I'd almost argue better bases as well. Like, the only thing Will has over her is, like, a couple points of con, and that's it. I want to say in Noble Lady of Kaelin, on Hector hard mode, your calves are, like, mostly fine. Lin can be in danger, but the biggest liability in that little pod in the bottom right, the Kaelin army, is Will. Will will actively be a detriment to the rest of your little team there. Your little... it's a scrub squad, fuck it, I'm calling it a scrub squad. Your little scrub squad in the bottom right. Will is just a liability. He's very likely to die in Noble Lady of Kaelin if you don't constantly just surround him with your better units. He won't be doing anything in Noble Lady of Kaelin, like... And then by the time you get to the next chapter, your deployment slots is like 10. So unless you gave him a bunch of XP in Lin mode and you really want to see him get to Sniper, like, he's not going to do anything. He will be on the bench for the rest of the game. Just an extremely weak unit. Piss poor bases on arguably the worst class in the game. I'd say Armor Knight's even better, honestly. Not a good weapon type. His growths aren't good enough to justify his inclusion. He's just very, very poor. It takes so much to make him, like, competent. It's just not worth it. Don't even bother. Will. This is a bottom 3 unit. I'm sorry, Will fans in the audience. I'm sorry I had to do this to you. What happened to Dorcas? There you go. I did the funny joke that people have been laughing at for 40 years. Please, fucking find a new joke. Anyway, Dorcas. Dorcas is kind of an interesting unit to talk about. There's a lot going on here, despite his outwardly simple appearance and the fact that most people obviously won't use him very much due to a lot of stuff that we'll get into later. But for now, this might sound a little bit odd. I'm going to give Dorcas with Lin mode investment a D tier placement, and I'm going to give Dorcas without Lin mode investment D tier placement. Right next to each other. Both better than Lin. He is still very much better than Lin. That might sound a little bit peculiar just from the outset, but it'll make more sense as we go along. So let's just dive right into Dorcas, shall we? Dorcas, he's just kind of an unfortunate unit. Obviously, he's a D tier unit, so he's not particularly strong. D tier is what I classify as just poor. C is like average, maybe slightly below average, and D is just not great. Pretty poor. Dorcas, okay, let's just discuss what he does well first. Dorcas has great availability in Lin mode. He'll join from chapter 4, so there is plenty of time to train him. And he's also one of the few characters that doesn't get hindered that much by not training him that much in Lin mode, due to the fact that he'll join both Hector and Eliwood's army very, very quickly, regardless of whether you're playing Hector or Eliwood mode. So that's nice. Dorcas has, I think Dorcas actually has the highest availability in the game. He has access to hand axes. That's really good. As I've said, just having consistent form of 1-2 range is excellent. Starts with C rank and axes in Lin mode, which is actually like surprisingly high. That's great. Amazing con means he doesn't get slowed down by the hand axe at all. Good stuff. Decent strength base of 7, not too bad. Base speed of 6 for a fighter is actually pretty nice. He'll double occasionally in Lin mode, which is good. And like you're hearing all of these positives, and that is good. All of these things that I've discussed are good. The biggest problem with Dorcas isn't his bases. It's not really his class. It's not his weapon ranks. It's not his availability. The biggest issue with Dorcas are his abominable growth rates, and it's not even really all of his growth rates. Let's just just fucking cut the fat off of the animal right away. Is that the expression? Whatever, it's fine. We're talking about Dorcas, anything goes. You just gotta dive right into that speed growth. That's the problem. It's not a secret. Everyone knows this is the problem with Dorcas. Dorcas has a 20% speed growth, which is awful. No other way to put it. It's just straight up awful. It's straight up dookie dog shit. A base speed of 6 is nice, but chances are it's going to stay at 6 for almost all of the entire game. Getting speed on Dorcas feels like getting the holy goddamn grail. It is just such a rare occurrence that every time it happens, I just have to bask in its glow for a little bit. Yeah, it's a big problem. As I've stated, FP7 just loves to throw crappy enemies at you, so like you need to be able to deal with the hordes of red units just rushing at you, and the best way to deal with that is to one-round them, aka dealing a good chunk of damage twice. Now, Dorcas will be dealing a good chunk of damage, since his base strength is good, and his strength growth of 60% is also great. No issue with that. Axes have high might. His damage output isn't the problem. It's the fact that he won't be doubling, like, past the first couple of chapters. And that's really bad. The only, enemies Dorcas will be consistently one-rounding is soldiers. And maybe not even one-rounding, because they have high health. That's just his biggest issue, is that Dorcas has a decent start, especially compared to someone like Bartre, who we'll get to later. Even, I'd say, out of all of the units in Eliwood squad, outside of Lowen and Marcus, I'd say he has the best start. He has the third best start of those units, which is nice. It's commendable. But the problem is he just gets overshadowed by better units, like mounted units and flyers and wyvern knights, and even someone like Oswin, who just kind of does what Dorcas does, but better, because he actually has bulk and Dorcas doesn't. He just gets overshadowed by better units really, really quickly, and he'll just be reduced to, doing chip damage in the early game after a certain point. I find that with Dorcas, it's just you're going to be one-rounding this soldier in chapter 1, and then after that, you'll be, doing a good chunk of damage to the soldier. Yeah, I'm contributing to the team. And then the next chapter's I need you to throw a hand axe at this knight. And the next chapter's I need you to just take hits from this myrmidon, please. And the next chapter's oh, cool, the bench is here, bye, Dorcas. Then that's it. That's the last time you'll ever see Dorcas. And because of this negative quality, I find it really difficult to just invest into Dorcas at all in Lin mode. In my most recent playthrough, I just found that he actually received the lowest investment out of all of the units in Lin mode, outside of Wallace, obviously. We'll get to him. So going into Hector mode, he was actually 1 level higher, and that was literally it, which isn't good. But it meant his stats were virtually the same, but honestly, his bases are good enough to just go into Hector mode due to his great availability. So I'd say his Lin mode performance and his Hector mode performance are basically identical. He's kind of just the same unit. Promotion to Warrior is okay. It's not as good as it is in FE6. In FE6, the promotion gains for Warrior are actually very, very good, but here they've been nerfed rather heavily. I don't believe he gets any speed. which is rather unfortunate. Yeah, there really isn't that much to talk about else with Dorcas. Very good, like, early game, just nice chunk of damage. Think of Garcia from FE8, but FE8 is a much easier game overall, and the enemies are even weaker than they are in FE7. Garcia falls off in Sacred Stones, but it takes a little bit longer than Dorcas, so I think he's a bit better. Whereas Dorcas just... I'd say the moment you get, like, proper battle prep and you actually have to decide which units are going to be grayscale, like Dorcas, he just hits the bench, man. Anyway, yeah, Dorcas D tier for both Lin mode and Linless mode, so to say, performance. Very, like, okay early game, but just quickly becomes outdated. He's old news. He's the iPhone 5. I don't know. What is iPhone at this point? Like 27 or something? Either way, Dorcas, very below average unit. And who do we have coming up now? Oh, God, it's everyone's favorite little pigtailed banshee. It's Serra. Fuck, what do you even start with Serra, man? Serra is kind of an unfortunate unit in the overall scheme of things. Does Serra even get that heavily improved from Lin mode into Hector mode? Like, I feel like Serra is kind of like Dorcas in that she's one of those units that just doesn't get that different from mode to mode. Serra is both, you know what, she's not even very complicated. She's kind of like Natasha in Sacred Stones in that she will be quite simple to talk about, so let's try and keep this brief. Serra, with Lin mode investment, is a C tier unit. Without Lin mode investment, she's a C tier unit. She's obviously slightly worse without Lin mode investment, but it doesn't make that much of a difference. She's mostly the same mode to mode. Serra will join you as a level 1 priest on both routes, so if you skipped Lin mode, she will receive no compensation levels, but due to the nature of her class, it doesn't really matter that much. As I've established with many a review at this point, healer stats don't really matter that much. Until you can fight, you may as well have 0 in every stat. It doesn't really matter. Mend heals a bajillion. If you can use the Mend staff, you're a-okay for topping people up. Obviously, it's nice to have bulk on healers if you need them to take a hit, but it's kind of like a luxury that you don't need most of the time. But let's just talk about what Serra does well first. Serra has good availability. She will join from Chapter 12 in Eliwood / Hector mode and join relatively early in Lin mode. So she can get, like, a fair amount of XP in Lin mode. I want to say she'll gain, like, an average of 2 to 3 levels and gain, like, probably +1, maybe +2 to stats in general, making her bases a little bit more impressive because her bases are not, like, good at all. Base 2 magic for a level 1 cleric is Ellen in FE6 levels of terrible. That's just embarrassing, man. 2 magic? Do you even study the staff? Along with D rank and stars, which will probably get boosted to around C rank, maybe B rank if you heavily grind her in Lin mode, means she can get a slightly better, like, start, but it's not going to matter that much. Overall, you will be using Serra for the early chapters, aka Chapter 12, Chapter 13, Chapter 13 Guide, and Chapter 14. She'll be healing most of the time. She'll be, like, a nice boon for your army, because it means you don't need to play defensively with someone else and, like, chug a vulnerary. Good stuff. And then this little itty-bitty thorn arrives on her side called Priscilla. This is the issue with Serra, is that Priscilla exists. And I know I'm not comparing apples and oranges here. I'm comparing apples and an apple that gets a horse for free. There is no other way to dance around the fact that, much like how Mulder is basically just better than Natasha in Sacred Stones, Priscilla is just better than Serra in Blazing Blade. Priscilla has better bases, even with Lin mode investment on average, a better staff rank, even with Lin mode on average. She has, most importantly of all, a horse, so an extra 2 points of move and rescue shenanigans. And also Priscilla recruits Raven, so you will be bringing her into Chapter 17. So you're, like, arguably incentivized to bring Priscilla into a lot of chapters, whereas Serra doesn't really do anything special. Like, her promotion is fine, Bishop is an okay class, but Light Magic is nothing exceptional. Getting to something like Aureola from D rank is an exceptional amount of combat, like, it's fine. Her growths are fine, her bases are fine. Serra's very fine, she's a fine unit. Like, she's C tier, not D tier, because it is nice to have a healer in the early game before Priscilla arrives and completely fucking invalidates her. But after that, it's really difficult to justify bringing her with reduced deployment slots. I'd say she's better than a unit like Dorcas, just because if you want to invest into her, you will get her, like, a pretty good unit. Like, her magic and speed growths are perfectly fine. I find that her combat's probably going to be a bit better than Priscilla's on average in the long term, but there's other mages that can do what she does, but better. Like, as soon as a trained Urk or a trained Lucius or a trained Canas promotes, they will basically just do what Serra does, but better, because they'll also have staves and just better combat. Yeah, that's kind of it with Serra. Outside of unit bias, there's very little reason to justify deploying her in the first place. She's helpful in early game. It is obviously nice to have a healer in early game. She recruits Urk, and then the moment Priscilla hits the battlefield, she just doesn't pass the bar anymore. She doesn't have a horse. She isn't able to keep up with your Cavs and your Paladins, and now your Troubadour and your Flyers and stuff like that. She has utility in the form of being able to use the sleep staff once it appears, but I mean, Priscilla will also be able to do that. I will say that Serra doesn't eat up any XP that other people will be eating, or like other people would be using from Lin mode, because she levels up through a completely different mechanic. So I will say that for Lin mode investment. Her Lin mode investment is basically automatic. Like, she doesn't require enemies to level up, which is nice. So with Lin mode investment, I'd say her stats and weapon rank are either on par with Priscilla or better than Priscilla. But I don't care because Serra doesn't have a horse. That's really all there is to it. You don't have a horse, you can't keep up with the rest of the army. Yeah, that's Serra. She's fine, but Priscilla's better, and that's the problem. And now that we've discussed Serra, let's go ahead and discuss her partner in crime. Maybe not one who wants to be the partner in crime, but too bad, buddy. You're in the carriage whether you like it or not. It's Urk! Urk's kind of a cool unit. I used to really dislike this guy, this boy, this Urk. But he's grown on me over time. I've definitely warmed up to him. Urk with Lin mode investment, I think, is a very solid B tier unit. I think he gets much, much better with Lin mode investment. I think this is one of the most heavily improved units, up there with Florina. But without Lin mode investment, he is without a doubt a C tier unit. Honestly, you could almost make an argument for D tier. Urk without Lin mode investment is not good. But let's go over his good parts first with Lin mode investment. Urk joins as a level 1 mage in the same chapter as Serra with competent bases. They're not bad. For Lin mode, they're good. Like, 7 speed is enough to double a good amount of enemies in Lin mode right off the bat, and Urk is more geared towards speed rather than magic. I believe he has a 55% speed growth. So that's nice. Being able to double in Lin mode is really, really good. He can consistently one round in Lin mode. I think he just needs like 1 point of magic to be dealing enough damage with the Fire Tome. I don't believe he gets access to a Thunder Tome, unfortunately, but still. He is definitely competent enough in Lin mode where it doesn't feel like a fucking hassle to give him a bunch of XP and get him to like level 6 to 8, I'd say. I'd say any higher than like level 8 is like, you are really favoritizing him. I think mine ended at around level 5, maybe 6. With Lin mode investment, Urk will transition into Hector mode very, very well. He will enter chapter 14, the Eric chapter. God, I forget the fucking name of it. I hate that chapter. Either way, he will enter that chapter with, I want to say like 20 health, like 9, maybe 10 speed on average, like 7 magic. Just much better bases. Because like Serra, Urk will receive no compensation levels if you don't play Lin mode. He will enter Hector mode as a level 1 mage with the same 17 health, same 5 magic, same 2 defense, same 4 res, same 5 con, all of that nonsense. If you're not investing into Florina, I'd actually say he's a pretty good candidate for the boosters that you get in Lin mode. He'll actually make pretty good use of an energy ring just because his magic growth isn't the best, and the angelic robe will also just improve his bulk to the point where you can almost frontline with him. Urk is like, out of the 3 mages, out of Urk, Lucius, and Canas, Urk's bulk is the middle of the ground. Like, it's okay, and it can become like decent. It's not great. It's not like he's not someone you want to leave on the front line, but he's someone who can take a hit. Whereas Lucius is made of like wind and Canas is reasonably bulky. But yeah, Urk with Lin mode investment is a unit. He's a mage who will be hitting res, but like enemies don't really have that high defenses in general, regardless of whether they're defense or res. And he will be doubling. Out of the 3 mages, he's the one that will be doubling the most, which is really, really nice. Even if his con is slightly low, because he'll be getting slowed down by literally every tome that isn't fire, which sucks, but what are you going to do? Having a innate 1-2 range on a unit who is consistently doubling is great. It's just a shame that in order to get to a point where Urk will have a great enemy phase, will require some heavy investment. Like, it'll be late game before Urk can really, like, properly dodge tank or just take hits. Stuff like that. Urk requires a lot of investment to get properly going, which is a shame. But he does also have access to Lin mode, which a lot of other units don't have. So I find that Urk, as long as you are comfortable with favoritizing him a bit, can grow into something good. Helped by a decent promotion. Stage promo gains are okay, they help us bulk a lot and they give him access to healing, so there's some nice utility there. Unfortunately, there's no like horse. I'd much prefer Urk to be a mage knight. Honestly, like, if we had Sacred Stones branch promotions, it feels like Urk would turn into a mage knight. Urk with Lin mode, very solid unit, nice B tier. Urk without Lin mode into just Hector mode, Urk's fucking garbage. I actually really don't like him. C tier is very generous. I'm gonna place him at the bottom of C tier. Urk entering chapter 14 as a level 1 mage is awful. He's really not good. Like, honestly, C tier is very generous for him, but just 7 speed is enough to double nothing. It's enough to not get doubled by anything, but his bulk is so flimsy without any Lin mode investment that he really should not be on the front line. All Urk will do on Hector mode without any investment is, one, be completely inferior to the other two mages, and Pent, but we'll talk about that more once we actually get to Pent. But he'll just be doing chip damage as long as you feel the need to deploy him, so to say. Like, deployment slots early in Hector mode are pretty generous, so you can use them for a little bit, but I'd say as soon as you hit, like, chapter 17, like, you really gotta slim down that roster, so to say. It's just, okay, who do I have to bench to make a reasonable army? And Urk will fall behind due to his low move and low stats. His growths are good. Like, I have no issue with his growths or his class or his weapon type. Animus are a perfectly fine weapon type. Maybe he's competing for the guiding ring, especially he's competing for the fucking guiding ring without limb mode investment. Like, he's competing with Canas and Priscilla and maybe Lucius for a guiding ring, and he's down there for priority. So it can be just very hard to justify using Urk without limb mode investment, purely just because he requires so much effort to get online. And I said this with Will, how it's like, in order to get Will, quote, online, it's not really online, it's like AOL levels of online. In order to get Will active, you need to invest a bajillion resources into him. Whereas Urk is less resources for a better unit, but it's like, I could just invest into Canas without Lin mode, because Canas requires no investment from Lin mode, just has better bases, and the availability isn't that much worse. Like, Canas has, like, what, 4 less chapters? That's fine. Lucius joins in chapter 7. I'd actually argue Lucius is better than Urk without Lin mode investment. I would go so far as to say this. With Lin mode, Urk is the best of the 3 mages. Without Lin mode, he's the worst of the 3 mages. Highest potential, worst initial performance. I think that's all we're willing to say about Urk. I'm just going to preface this upcoming character with a brief statement and say that this is probably the character that I am least familiar with in all of FE7. So without further ado, let's talk about Rath. I've never liked Rath, I'm just going to be completely honest, therefore I have not used him that much. I think I've used him for basically like half a playthrough, and that's kind of it. So I am very unfamiliar with this character. Rath is a bit of a weirdo, I will say that. He's not like the other Lin mode characters, in the sense that I would actually make an argument that Rath is better without Lin mode, which we'll get more into in a sec, but for now, I'd say Rath is both C tier with Lin mode and C tier without Lin mode. But yeah, I'll try and keep this one brief because I'm not super knowledgeable about Rath, and his strengths and weaknesses are both like kind of simple to talk about. Rath is the only Nomad and Nomad Trooper available in FE7, which is kind of irrelevant. He's a mounted horse unit, which is nice, but this isn't like FE4 levels of Canto or Tellius Games level of Canto, where you can attack and then move afterwards, so having the mount is nice for the extra move, obviously, but ultimately it's not that valuable. It makes him better than Will and Rebecca, it gives him an innate edge, which is nice, but it's not super important. The important part about Rath that I am familiar with is that Rath, when you don't do Lin mode, will start with B rank in bows as a level 9 Nomad, which is great. That's really fucking good. B rank in bows allows him to use the Brave Bow at base, and the Brave Bow will come in chapter 20, I think it appears in Dragon's Gate, so it'll be super available at that point. And there's not a whole lot of other units at this point that are going to be competing for that Brave Bow. Literally just Will and Rebecca, because Louise hasn't shown up yet. So he is basically the sole user of the Brave Bow, which is really, really good. It gives him a great niche in being able to like deal enough damage to a good amount of enemies to just straight up one-round them from afar, which is, it's really nice to have. Paired with okay bases for a level 9 Nomad, they're not great. Like, his bulk's actually really nice for a unit who's permanently stuck at 2 range, which is kind of bizarre. But his offensive stats of 9 strength and 11 speed are like, you probably could have done a bit more training with that one. That's kind of not great. Either way, the important thing is he'll be able to use the Brave Bow, which has great base stats, and he'll be doubling regardless of his speed stat, so he will have a niche in combat. But that's all well and good. Rath basically has the same weaknesses as Will and Rebecca, in that yes, he has no form of 1-2 range. He will get it once he promotes in the form of swords, but like I talked about with Lin, I'd much rather just have something like Lances or Axes so I can attack at 1-2 range all the time. So it's not that great. It doesn't really fix his major issues, so to say. But with the extra mobility and the fact that he doesn't require any investment to use the Brave Bow at base, gives him a niche which is like enough to put him in C tier. He's okay. He's decent. He has a nice little niche. But in regards to his Lin mode performance, it's actually like detrimental to Rath's overall performance. Because if you play Lin mode, Rath will join you as a level 7 Nomad in a mode where you don't gain that much XP once you hit a certain level. I'd say XP kind of plateaus once you hit around level 6. So joining at level 7 actually makes it really difficult for Rath to get to level 9 and equal his Hector mode performance. And more importantly, Rath will start with C rank in Lin mode, meaning that if you play Lin mode and you don't train Rath at all, he will join in Hector mode as level 7 with around like 1 less in every stat, More importantly, C rank in bow, so he won't actually be able to use the Brave Bow at base. And a Rath that can't use the Brave Bow at base is not good. He's just very, very poor. Also, for some reason, Rath loses a point of con between tails. I don't know if there's like a specific lore reason for why Rath has 8 con in Lynn's tail and then 7 con in Hector and Eliwood's tail, but sure, maybe he had a war injury, maybe he tripped to the gym, who knows. The problem with Rath is that in order to get him to Hector mode levels of strength, he will need to be used very heavily in Lynn mode, which just isn't efficient at all, because he's an archer, I mean he has no enemy phase, you can't just stick him into a bunch of really weak goobers and watch him come out on top. Yeah, Rath is... He's still, like, fine on Lynn mode, because I'm going to assume he'll still gain, like, a level and be close to B rank. And if at least he's close to B rank, then his performance is mostly the same. So if you're unfamiliar with why this character is actually worse if you play Lynn mode, now you know. Anyway, I'll leave it that, because again, Rath is probably my, like, least familiar unit. He's a blur to me. I need my glasses to see him. And coming up next is... Oh, cool! It's Matthew! I will just go ahead and say that Matthew is probably my favorite FE7 unit. Period. I fucking love Matthew. Matthew is such a cool unit, and probably my favorite thief in the entire franchise, even with Thrashia Thieves included, where you can just steal enemies' weapons when they're holding them. Matthew is such an interesting unit to talk about in Blazing Blade. For starters, with Lynn mode, he's an A-rank unit, and without Lynn mode, he's an A-rank unit, probably right next to each other. Lynn mode doesn't really affect Matthew that much, but let's go on down Matthew Street and figure out why this seemingly like very unimpressive unit at first is actually incredibly strong. Matthew is a thief. He's the first thief you get. He has pretty excellent availability, especially on Hector mode. If you play strictly Hector mode, he will be available for literally every chapter in the game, which is excellent. I believe he joins in chapter 7 with Rath in Lynn mode. He'll be unavailable for one chapter in Lynn mode to go do his own, like, gardening or what have you. I forget what the story is. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is, with Lynn mode, Matthew doesn't really change that much, because the only things he'll be able to gain in Lynn mode are XP and stats, both of which Matthew doesn't really need. Matthew is a fascinating unit, because all of Matthew's worth doesn't really come from his combat. His combat's more of an afterthought. It's nice to have, but it's not, like, the real meat of this character, so to say. It's not the spice that makes him interesting. The thing that separates Matthew from every other thief, especially in GBA games, is the fact that Matthew's thief utility is basically unmatched, since the game has so many good stealables. In Hector mode especially, money is reasonably, like, tight. It can be very difficult to, like, procure a good amount of funds in the early game. Matthew is here to make sure that you are always getting some form of money. Now, I don't mean like literally getting strict cash, I mean money in the form of money that you don't have to spend on other items. Such as, in Pirate Ship, there is a stealable guiding ring and a stealable Elysian whip, both of which Matthew can steal. Not at base, mind you, he does need to get a little bit of speed in order to be able to steal the guiding ring, which is noteworthy. But the important thing is, Matthew is giving you 2 promotion items that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise, because you have no other way of getting them. There is no Legault at this point. There is no... Jaffar can't even steal, so Jaffar wouldn't be able to get them. The fact that you have Matthew means that you are saving a ton of money, because you don't need to buy these promotion items later, if you get my message, so to say. And I think the most important thing that Matthew will be able to steal is the silver card in Prisoner of Magic, the Gaiden chapter after Dread Isle. I believe the boss has the silver card, and Matthew, I forget if he can steal it at base. I don't think he can. But, like, it's so easy to get XP on Matthew. I will just say that as well. While Matthew's combat isn't very good, his strength is low, he is quite frail, he's still reasonably fast, so he should be able to double a good amount of enemies. The most important part about Matthew's, like, ability to level is the fact that he's a thief in a GBA game, meaning he gains bonus experience. For some reason, thieves have a multiplier in their experience. I believe they gain like 1.6 times the XP or something like that. It's a nice little bonus and makes him level really quickly. And while Matthew's growths aren't really like anything to write home about, like I think his speed growth is around 70%, which is great, but everything else is super mediocre. The important thing is he will probably just be gaining like on average a level every other chapter with very little investment. And I find that Matthew's combat stats are just good enough. Like his strength is just high enough to deal a good amount of damage, his speed is high enough to double and be like a reasonable dodge tank, his bulk is just high enough to take a hit. Like he's just so reliable, man. Oh, he'll even get like items in Living Legend. Oh, I guess he'll have Legault at that point. That's not really a point in his favor. I guess I should compare him to Legault. Legault will probably replace him once you recruit Legault, just because Legault has better combat stats. But at that point, Matthew has done so much for your army. He's gotten so much money, so many items. Like, Matthew is so good because of how much fucking cash you save with him. The silver card will save you so much money. He gets you 2 promotion items. He gets you stat boosts. Like, he just does so much. And he doesn't require that much investment either. Like, I will say he'll need a few points of speed to steal stuff like the Guiding Ring and the Silver Card, but because of how quickly he gains XP, and the fact that he also has access to Lin mode, where the enemies are made of wet tissue paper and he can just farm to his heart's content, basically means you don't have to invest anything into him. He will just grow. Like, he's not some deity of combat or anything. His combat is just good enough to get him by, and I wouldn't recommend promoting him to Assassin, because Assassin is a really bad promotion, and he'll lose the ability to steal. But, like, he just does so much in the early game, so much in the mid game, so many chests to open, so many doors to open, so many things to steal. Like, I talked about how Safi is so good in Thrasher, because she is basically the exclusive staff user for so much of the game. Same can be said for Matthew here. Matthew is the only thief for the first half of the game. Sure, he's inferior to Legault once Legault shows up, but Matthew has just done so much at that point. He's absolutely invaluable. More thieves should be like Matthew. Build the game around thieves. I love it when thieves have things to do that isn't just opening chests and doors. Give them a mission. Steal that shit from the boss. That shit's fun. I love it. Anyway, Matthew, A tier. Love this unit to pieces. What a cool guy. Okay, we can just talk about the Dancer nice and early. That's good. These two are effectively the same unit, so they're not even effectively the same unit. They are the same unit. They have the same stats and some such. The only thing that separates them is the haircut and a name. It's Nils and Ninian. Nils and Ninian, I'm just going to be referring to Nils just because you get Nils first, are both A tier units. Plain and simple. I know a lot of people like to put Dancers in S tier because they can just refresh your strongest units. They effectively just act as a copy of your strongest unit. But you know me, I like to have S tier as my 3 strongest units because I'm a dork and I'm fine with that. So they're probably just going to go at the top of A tier. They are fantastic units. Not much to talk about here. Dancers are good. If you're unfamiliar with Dancers at this point, Dancers are inarguably, like, probably, across all of the Fire Emblem games, probably the strongest unit type just because they can make other units move again, and that's incredibly powerful. It's only one person dancing in this game, so it's no, like, 4-person AoE dancing shenanigans or anything like that, but it's still very, very strong. Nils in Lin mode is super overkill. You don't even need to use him there because the enemies are so weak. No, I'm not counting fucking 19 Gaiden as a chapter because that chapter's a joke. I've never played 19 Gaiden, and I never will because I'm not grinding fucking Nils in Lin mode. That sounds like an unbelievably miserable time. Nils and Ninian both have exceptional performances. When they show up, Ninian shows up in New Resolve with rings, which I guess I could talk about real quick. Dancing's really good, and the stats don't matter, so I won't even talk about that. But rings are a new addition for dancers in FE7, and for some reason, exclusively in FE7, which is really weird. Rings are effectively a different form of buff that you can apply to other party members. Instead of dancing for the party member and allowing them to move again, you can dance for them beforehand with a specific ring and grant them a bonus to a specific area of their stat field, so to say. So Nini's, I believe it's Nini's Grace, will give them plus 10 defense and plus 10 res for an entire player phase and enemy phase, which is super strong. Well, I guess I should specify. The first 2 rings you get, the offense one that I forget the name of, it's like Filia's Might or something, and Nini's Grace are both very strong because they give you an insane boost to offense and defense. But the last 2 you get, Thor's Ire and the other one, Set's Litany, are both incredibly weak because for some reason they made it so it's like, well, it's like 10 strength and 10 skill, 10 defense, 10 res, and it's like 10 avoid and 10 hits. It's like, this is fucking nothing. This is like a shitty personal skill from Fates. So that's kind of unfortunate. And I will say, they are very strong, and you can do some great things with that. You can do stuff like giving Fila's Might to Athos and in-game to let him one-shot the dragon, which is fucking hysterical. But I would also say that for the most part, they are incredibly overkill, just because FE7 isn't that difficult. And dancing, for the most part, is both faster, more efficient, and just more helpful. Sorry, Rings, maybe that's why they got rid of you. I would love to see like these come back on a class that isn't tied to Dancer, though. Like, I'd love to see a pure support class that kind of existed in Engage, but I'd love to see, like, Bard become a class that gets the buffs and Dancer just stay as Dancer. That'd be really neat. Either way, A tier. Really, really simple. They make your best units even better because they get to act twice. I've always had a fondness for this character, so let's get off on the right foot with Lucius. Lucius is interesting. A lot of people really like to talk about whether Urk is better than Canas in the grand scheme of things. I personally think Canas is better with Hector mode and Urk is better with Lin mode included. But no one really talks about Lucius. I feel like he gets kind of just slid under the radar a lot. A lot of people really like to ignore this wonderful monk. Lucius... I'm going to go ahead and place Lucius with Lin mode investment into B tier, similar placement to Urk. And again, without Lin mode investment into C tier. Because at the end of the day, as much as I like to pretend that he is a very different unit to Urk, the two have pretty similar strengths and weaknesses overall. They fall very much into the same class and the same scheme of things overall. But let's go over Lucius. Lucius will join with Nils in Chapter 8 of Lin Mode, which is kind of... Or is it Chapter 8? Chapter 7 or 8? Either way, it's very late in Lin Mode to the point where Lucius actually doesn't get that much time to get heavy investment, which is kind of annoying and unfortunate. Compared to Urk, who joins in Chapter 5, which is much, much earlier. Urk gets plenty of time to level. Lucius will join, I believe, 2 levels higher with pretty good base stats, honestly. Like, Lucius's base stats are surprisingly good for his level and class. Like, obviously his bulk is pathetic at 18 health and 1 defense, and that's never gonna change, because his defensive growth rates are absolutely abysmal. He is very much a glass cannon. But 7 magic and 10 speed for a level 3 monk is, like, genuinely really good. That's excellent. I really like that. 10 speed is enough to double, I want to say literally everything in Lin Mode, maybe outside of, like, super fast mercenaries that high roll or something. But either way, it's very, very good. And Lucius's growth rates, I'd say... He's the opposite of Urk for the most part. Where Urk is more geared towards speed, Lucius is more geared towards magic, with a monstrous 60% magic growth and an okay 40% speed growth. His growths are basically like the inverse of Urk's offensively, which is good. I think I'd rather have it this way. I think this is the reason I prefer Lucius over Urk, is that while Urk requires investment to get going and doesn't really start good at anything, Lucius does actually start fast to the point where he can double stuff at base, even on Hector mode. But the unfortunate part is Lucius might fall off in terms of speed, but his magic will definitely catch up, and Lucius will start hitting like a truck. I'd say where Urk falls into the category of the all-rounder, Lucius is absolutely the glass cannon of the bunch, because as I mentioned, his defensive growths are absolutely abhorrent. Fucking 55% health growth might sound good on paper because it's above 50%, but as I said numerous times in my numerous encounters with Fire Emblem, HP is a dump stat. You want that shit to be at like 75 or higher. 55 is actually quite low for an HP growth. And 10% defense growth is nothing. He's never going to grow it. It's basically non-existent. Which is fine. You don't really need to frontline with him. You definitely have enough units to frontline and act as a barrier for him, but it means he doesn't have a particularly good enemy phase, unless you're fighting a bunch of mages, in which case you're probably not going to be doing that much damage, because while Lucius's magic is very good, his weapon type isn't the best. Light magic isn't very good in this game. Out of the 3 magic types, it's almost certainly the worst, because it weighs the most and has the lowest might. I have no idea why they decided to make light magic super heavy in this game, but like not give it anything to, like, no, there's no compensation buffs. There's no like high might or random crit or status effect or anything. Light magic's just bad. It's just stinky. I think Lucius is still good, and probably as good as Urk if you decide to invest in him instead of Urk. On average, you'll probably gain like 2, maybe 3 levels in Lin Mode if you decide to evenly spread out your XP, which is fine. On average, you'll gain like 2 points of magic, 1 point of speed, maybe like 2 points of health if you're lucky. So I think with Lin Mode, he can have a reasonably good performance of just being a pretty good glass cannon with an iffy enemy phase. And I will say that promotion to Bishop is pretty good compared to stuff like Druid and Sage, because while the promo bonuses are relatively similar, Lucius will get C in staves instead of E in staves like Sage and Druid, which is very good. It means he'll get closer to getting stuff like Warp and Sleep much quicker, which is nice. So he'll get better utility than the other 2 mages. As for his Hector mode performance, again, he's in C tier like Urk. I think he's better than Urk in C tier without Lin Mode investment. Just because, like I said, his bases without any Lin Mode investment are just better. 10 speed is enough to, at the very least, not get doubled by anything for a good while in Hector mode, which is nice. It might not be enough to consistently double things, probably like slower units, like you'll be able to double like Steel Lance, Pegasus Knights. I just think it's easier to get a Linless Lucius online than it is to get a Linless Urk online, just because Urk's start is much worse. A level 1 mage, regardless of the fact that he has better availability, is harder to get online just because his bases are that poor. Whereas Lucius's bases are a lot better. I still don't think he's that great without Lin Mode, just because a crappy weapon type and a lack of any real enemy phase can hinder him, but he gets good utility once he gets to promotion, so I'd say without Hector mode, he is the second best of the mages, and with Lin Mode investment, he's probably the second best of the mages. I think he's the middle ground, regardless of which route you take. I don't really feel like talking about this unit, but he's on the list of characters, so I feel morally obligated to talk about him. It's Wallace. Wallace is not a good unit at all, by any means, by any stretch of the imagination, by any definition that you might find in any form of dictionary, any form of language, any form of communication this side of the universe. Every single alien across the galaxy will tell you one thing. Gleam glob glub glorp, which translates to Wallace fucking stinky. Not only is Wallace a bad unit regardless of which mode you take, he's also kind of fascinating in that, like Rath, I'd actually say he's worse with Lin Mode. So without further ado, Wallace with Lin mode is an F tier unit, complete garbage, and Wallace without Lin mode is an E tier unit. And the bottom of E tier, I think giving him E tier without Lin mode investment has actually been quite generous. But yeah, there isn't actually that much to talk about with Wallace that I haven't already divulged or exploded out of my mouth yet, so let's just try and keep this nice and concise. Wallace will join you in Lin mode as a level 12, level 14, a high level armor knight with reasonably okay bases for his level and join time. The problem being that Wallace will be the last character who joins you in Lin mode, and he joins basically at the very end. You'll only have 2 chapters to use Wallace. He almost works as like an Athos or a Goto for Lin mode, in that he's very difficult to kill due to his incredibly high base defense of, I believe, 14, maybe 15? Which is good. Like, his bulk is very good, very high health, very high defense. And the intended purpose for this unit in Lin mode is that you early promote him to teach the player about promotions and to give you a very handy unit to have around if you need to use him. That's all fine. His performance in Lin mode isn't really that bad. But due to the fact that he joins so late and is a very, very high level, it means it's very difficult to invest any resources into him because he will gain XP so slowly. It's very difficult to even give him a single level in Lin mode unless you very heavily favoritize him, especially if you decide to use the Night Crest that you receive on him. So his performance in Lin mode in a vacuum is fine. And I'll go ahead and say that his performance in Hector mode, as a general, joining as a level 1 general in Hector mode, is poor. It's not good. General obviously isn't a good class at all in GBA Fire Emblems. I can't really think of a game where General isn't like a standout class. But in GBA Fire Emblems especially, where Cavs just kind of dominate, being a class with low mobility is not good. 5 move just isn't enough. And this really isn't helped by the fact that Wallace's joining chapter of Four-Fanged Offense has a bunch of different caveats that don't help Wallace in the slightest. This man is constantly getting tripped up by this, like, a bunch of tiny little hurdles that add up into one massive hurdle. One of these mini hurdles is the fact that Wallace is a massive pain in the ass to recruit in Four-Fanged Offense, Lloyd's Four-Fanged Offense. He will spawn on the right side of the map, top right, completely separated from the rest of your army, and you need to talk to him to recruit him. But as a green unit, he is quite likely to die as a general, or his green unit AI will just go and just wander around to the north or to the northwest and just become completely unrecruitable, which is really fucking annoying. Another hurdle is that in this chapter, if you decided to play Lin mode, he will be much worse because chances are you didn't use the Night Crest on Wallace if you were given the option. So if you didn't use the Night Crest on Wallace, because it's a fucking waste, why would I use it on him when I could use it on a Paladin or sell it? Wallace will be joining as a level 12 Armor Knight with the same bases as Lin mode, which is not good enough. He will straight up die. This character, when he's not promoted in Four-Fanged Offense, is dead. He's not going to survive. He will get doubled by almost everything, mages will absolutely shred him, his high defense won't matter. Like, if he accidentally, like, wanders, like, fucking casually, cluelessly wanders over to Lloyd, "Hi, friend, how's it going? I'm Wallace." Wallace will get fucking sent into Tartarus. Yeah, that's also a big hurdle, is that in order to survive the transition from Lin mode into Hector mode, Wallace will need to get that Night Crest, because if he's a knight in Hector mode, he's going to be dead by the time you get to him. Simple as, he just won't survive. And I think the third and biggest hurdle for Wallace, other than his poor class, poor mobility, average stats, admittedly like an okay enemy face, but his low speed means he isn't that good at killing things, so he's not that great at it, along with pretty not great growths. Although for some reason his defense and res growth are the same, which as a general is kind of strange, but worthy of note. But yeah, the biggest hurdle for Wallace is that he is directly competing for a spot on your army with the unit Geitz, who we will talk about when we get to him much later, but I'll just say this now. Geitz is a much better unit than Wallace. And while Geitz is actually more cumbersome to get, because you need to level up your lords to an average level of, I think 50 or higher, or like 49, your lords basically need to be like level 16, 17 by the time you reach Four-Fanged Offense, which can be kind of cumbersome to do so. It can be a bit tricky. Regardless, Geitz is a much stronger unit, his class is better, his bases are much better, his growths are perfectly good, his weapon types his weapon types aren't really that much better. But the point is, Geitz is just a better unit overall, so if you're given the option, you will take Geitz every single time. Because he basically just does what Wallace does, but better. He's a good enemy phase unit, he has good survivability, like good speed, like everything Geitz does, you would want Wallace to do, but he doesn't. That's really all there is to say about Wallace. He's arguably, I'd say that he's the second worst unit in the game, maybe the worst unit in the game with Lin mode investment, and you just decide to not use anything on him, because it's hard to rank a unit that you know is just going to be a corpse by the time you get him, but you also have the option to just skip him. by going to Linus's four-fanged offense. Which, again, if given the option, I'm always going to take, because the map is more enjoyable, and Geitz is a better unit. Like, he just has so many weaknesses that I can't, like, reasonably let him pass the curve, so to say. He's a very, very, very poor unit. Second worst unit in the game. We'll get to the worst unit eventually. She'll be at the fucking end of the list. You all know who it is. I hope. It's not Nino. I'll say that. By saying she, it's not Nino. Nino is not the worst unit on the list. Fucking stop clutching your pearls. I don't think Nino is that bad. We'll get to it. Anyway, Wallace, he's very, very bad. Don't even fucking bother using him. If you have the option to go to Linus's four-fanged offense, take it every time. Geitz is better. And with Wallace done, we are finally goddamn done with Lin mode. I'm so glad to be out of these woods. Oh, gosh. So now we can just talk about FE7. Normally, these reviews will be much more brief and, like, succinct, because there isn't that much to talk about with a lot of FE7 characters. So without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss Hector. Hector's a cool lord. He's obviously pretty popular. I have a couple qualms with Hector, but we'll get to them in a sec. We will be discussing Hector as the main lord, as I've said. We'll be discussing Hector mode Hector. His stats are the same on Eliwood mode, but I would say he's a bit better on Eliwood mode just because he isn't the main lord and thus gets to promote earlier, but I digress. On Hector mode, I would say Hector is a B tier unit. Maybe towards the lower end. I think he definitely has a good share of strengths, but also like his fair share of weaknesses as well. Hector's availability, not a problem at all. Level 1 Lord, joining literally from the start of the game. Well, start of the game in Hector mode, effectively. He'll join from taking leave along with Matthew, with very competent bases. No issue with Hector's bases whatsoever. 7 strength, 8 defense, 19 health. Very, very solid. 5 speeds, obviously, like, not particularly good, but honestly, for Hector standards, that's actually pretty decent. Starting with C rank and axes is nice. For a lot of characters, weapon ranks aren't really that important, because I feel like that due to the fact that there are so many enemies in FE7 and they're so weak, you're just going to be engaging in combat so often that weapon rank will mostly just come naturally. So it's not that important, especially since the best axe in the game, the hand axe, is E rank. So as long as you have E rank, you're good. But yeah, alongside these good bases are pretty good growths. I believe Hector has like the second highest growths in the game or something like that. 60% strength growth paired with a monstrous 50% defense growth is incredibly good. Great HP growth, solid skill growth. His only like iffy growth is speed. That's the biggest quandary with Hector, is his overall speed, and we'll get to that later. But for now, Hector's main like strengths are the fact that he will grow to a very hard-hitting, bulky unit. Think of him as an Armor Knight. He's basically an axe armor. Like, Armor Knight is a lance-wielding class in the GBA Fire Emblems, but Hector goes for axes because he's just that much of a baller. Hector's damage output and bulk are absolutely fantastic. And alongside these great stats are, as I said, axes, excellent weapon type, absolutely no complaints. Along with, I guess 2 pref weapons. We could talk about the Armeds for a bit. It's actually, yeah, the Armeds isn't really anything noteworthy. I'm not going to really talk about Durandal, Soulcatty, or Armeds because you get them for 1 chapter. They don't really matter that much. But the Wolfbale, on the other hand, is actually probably the best of the Lord's personal weapons, purely just because it has the highest might. As I said, it's 2 times effectiveness, despite being an effective weapon, so you won't just get to, like, insta-gib every single enemy. But due to the fact that Hector's strength is high and the Wolfbale has innately high might, you will still get to one-shot a lot of Cavs and potentially Armor Knights, especially if you're doubling Armor Knights. If Hector gets to double Armor Knights with the Wolfbale, they will simply cease to exist. That armor doesn't mean squat. So that's all good. As I've said, Hector's damage output, no complaints. You know what I do have a complaint about with Hector is his speed. Okay, yeah, let's just go over Hector's biggest issue. Hector has base 5 speed paired with a 35% speed growth. This is not good. The only things Hector will double at base are the occasional Armor Knight and soldiers. Now, he will one-round soldiers with no issues whatsoever, which is really nice because soldiers are fodder enemies, and if you can kill them in 1 round, that means you can save a lot of actions to deal with a unit that is basically just there to waste actions. But the problem is, while enemies don't scale particularly hard, Hector's speed is on average gonna grow every 3rd level, and it's gonna grow very slowly as well. And it's entirely possible for Hector to get speed screwed. Kind of, it's not obviously not a 50, it is a 50-50 flip, it either happens or it doesn't. I feel like on every other playthrough I do of FE7, I'll get a Hector that's speed screwed. In the footage you're seeing, my Hector got speed screwed. I believe he had like 7 speed at level 12, which was awful. He was doubling nothing. He was barely doubling Steel Lance Pegasus Knights, which are enemies that are made to be doubled. But I will say, if Hector gets lucky enough on speed growths, and grows his strength really well, and grows his defense really well, basically if Hector gets blessed in stats, he's insane. Like, his combat is basically unrivaled, because he's super tanky, he's an excellent enemy phase unit. He has the potential to double a good amount of units, his strength is fantastic, like, he just basically just does everything. On the other hand, it is also entirely possible for Hector to get stat screwed because he's a level 1 unit who obviously needs growths to become good. His bases are okay, but they're not, like, good to the point where they'll carry him for the entire game. Out of all of the lords, out of Eliwood, Lyn, and Hector, Hector definitely has the strongest start of any of the lords, but I also feel like he falls off the hardest if you invest into all 3 of them, due to potential speed issues and his promotion kind of just being bad. Like, his promotion isn't very good. Like, Lyn gets an okay promotion, Eliwood gets an excellent promotion, and Hector gets swords, which doesn't matter in any way, no movement, which is the biggest fucking crippling issue with him, and some, like, okay promotion bonuses. 3 speed is really good, but everything else is, like, kind of whatever. So that's really annoying. Once Hector gets promoted, like, he mostly just does the same thing, which is be a good enemy phase unit, and if he has a bunch of speed, he's really, really good. He's basically just a general at that point, which is nice, but due to his lacking movement, he's gonna fall behind the rest of your army, which can be annoying if he's the main lord. It's less of an issue if he's not the main lord, but when you have to bring him to the seize point or what have you, it can be somewhat frustrating. Either way, I think that's it for Hector. Just a very, very strong unit combat-wise, but kind of a crappy promotion, a little bit reliant on growths, and honestly does just fall off once you get to late game if he gets speed screwed, which is entirely possible. Still though, very, very strong lord. Ellie good. Ellie good. Ellie good. I don't care what anyone says. I like Eliwood, and therefore he goes in triple S plus tier because he's such a cool guy, banks the coolest dragons, and he's my best friend in the whole world. I like Eliwood. I always have had a soft spot for Eliwood, even though I will not defend him in the slightest. Although I will give him like a relatively good placement for how strong I think he is. Eliwood is a D tier unit. He is, with Lyn mode included, the weakest of the lords for sure. Lyn is probably better. But without Lyn mode, I'd say he's the middle of the pack. Eliwood is nice and simple. Level 1 lord, joining from, what's it called? It's like Birds of a Feather, chapter 12, with a bunch of units who are arguably better than him. Most importantly, Marcus, but we'll get to him. Eliwood isn't good. He's not good. The only good parts about Eliwood, as I've discussed, are the fact that his promotion is really, really good into, I forget what it's called, like Night Lord or something, where he'll gain a bunch of stats, access to a better weapon type, some more con, and most importantly, 2 move! He becomes basically just a cav, which is really, really good. But until he gets to that promotion, Eliwood is unfortunately a sword-locked infantry unit with 5 move and real bad bases. Eliwood's bases are really, really poor. I think that's the biggest problem with Eliwood. Eliwood has such... oh god, they're like literally outside of 7 speed, which I'd classify as like, that's okay. Everything else is bad. 5 strength is bad. 5 defense is bad. 5 skill is bad. Like, it's just not good. Paired with the fact that his growth rates aren't even really that great to compensate. While Lyn focuses on speed and killing enemies through doubling, and Hector focuses on just heavy strength and potentially one-shotting enemies, Eliwood is your all-rounder lord, where he attempts to do everything, but in reality he can't really do anything. I find that the most common way to use Eliwood is to try and use him in the early game, where enemies aren't super strong and there's a lot of axe units that he can fight reasonably well, and just give him a bunch of XP that isn't really being wasted, so to say. Like, I feel like early game units aren't particularly strong, so you put a little bit of investment into them just to see if you get lucky with level ups and some such, and if they do, it's like, hey, great, and if they don't get good level ups, it's like, whatever, it's not that bad. Kind of like leveling Ross in Sacred Stones, where it doesn't really feel like a wasted investment, because you're not really using the XP otherwise. So what I personally like to do with Eliwood is just give him like 2, 3, maybe 4 levels in the early game, just to see if those bases become even remotely tolerable. Now, in the fucking footage you're seeing right now, my Eliwood became Ellie good. He was super good. He constantly got HP strength, skill, speed, HP strength, skill, speed, HP strength, defense, HP strength, skill, defense, HP strength, speed, defense. Actually, not a lot of HP. For some reason he was HP screwed. Regardless, Eliwood turned into the holy grail unit, the all-rounder unit, the guy that can do everything except attack at 1-2 range, because swords are a crappy weapon type, but I digress. That's really the issue with Eliwood, is that even though he did turn into something pretty good, like he was tanky enough to become a good tank on enemy phase unit, he was dealing Hector levels of damage, he had like Lyn levels of speed, like he was very solid in combat. The problem was he's still an infantry sword-locked unit for most of the game. But I would also say that he just becomes the strongest of the 3 lords should you choose to invest into all 3 of them. Just because his promotion is so good, man. Once Eliwood gets to promotion, he's so much better. The moment he can use javelins, this unit goes from like a D tier to a B tier unit. If I could promote him as soon as possible, he would be a much stronger unit, just to put it bluntly. But yeah, what else is there to really say? I'm not going to talk about Durandal. The Rapier is fine. It's probably the weakest of the 3 personal weapons, just because the might isn't very high, and it doesn't have the crit that the Manikati does. The most use it has is just having a high hit in early game, which can be nice on occasion. Again, it has the same problem as the Manikati, where it's going to be used against Lance units most of the time, so you're going to face hit issues and getting hit back, and it's only 2 times effectiveness. It's just not very good. As I've said, the biggest issue with Eliwood is that he has a very lackluster early game, and if he doesn't grow well enough, he simply won't do anything in the mid game. He just needs to get very, very lucky on level ups to keep up with the rest of your really good units, like your Cavs and your Florinas and your Marcuses and your Oswins. He'll need to get constant 4+ stat level ups in order to keep up, which just isn't realistic. Like, I was very lucky. Most people won't be that lucky. The only real positive he has in early game is like a really quick support with Hector. Like, he gets to see support with Hector really, really quickly, which will make both of them better, which is lovely. The most important parts about Eliwood is if you want him to grow into a good unit, then you'll need to level him. Or if you want to get Geitz, then you'll need to level him. And what you'll be given in return is someone who'll be okay. On average, if you get Eliwood's promotion, he'll be okay. I think that's really it at the end of the day. Eliwood's a weak unit who, on most occasions, will turn into an okay unit, which really isn't great. If he started with lances instead of swords, I'd probably place him like a full tier higher. Either way, yeah, that's Eliwood. I love him to pieces, and you should too. And now that we've discussed the lords, I believe we can discuss their personal retainers, starting with Oswin. I absolutely adore Oswin. I think Oswin might be my favorite Armor Knight in the series. Man, going through FE7's cast, there's a lot of like, ooh, I really like this unit. Oh, this dude's really cool. And Oswin definitely fits into that category. Oswin's such a fucking lad. Oswin is really, really cool because he's an Armor Knight, so you'd assume, ooh, he's bad. Must be D tier or lower. But I'm actually going to go ahead and place Oswin towards the higher end of B tier. I think Oswin is a very, very strong unit in Blazing Blade, and I would love to discuss why he is so good where other Armor Knights just completely stumble and fail. It's really, really nice to talk about an Armor Knight that actually does what an Armor Knight is supposed to do, if you understand what I mean. Like, a lot of Armor Knights, like your Gilliams and your Wallaces here, your Barths, your Wendys, they don't really accomplish anything because the game doesn't really allow them to accomplish anything. Either the maps are so big that they just fall behind the rest of your units, or there aren't enough enemies to really justify needing a tank, or the enemies aren't tough enough, and blah 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 blah, stuff like that. There's a lot of factors that can just make Armor Knights bad. Oswin is a great Armor Knight because he fits into Hector hard mode perfectly. In my personal opinion, Oswin feels like he is legitimately the perfect unit in Hector hard mode. He works so excellently here. Oswin will join you in Birds of a Feather as a level, I believe, 9 Armor Knight? A very high level Armor Knight with fucking fantastic bases. I love Oswin's bases. They are so good in the just right areas. He has 13 strength and 13 defense, 28 health, fantastic bulk, fantastic damage output, paired with a great weapon type with lances, and lances as well. 5 speed means he gets doubled by nothing outside of like mercenaries, and they're going to be doing like 1 times 2, 2 times 2. Very little damage to him, so his low speed isn't even that bad. In fact, I think the only bad stat of Oswin is his luck, and it's really not that impactful. It's not null from FE8 levels of bad. Like, Oswin's bases almost make him into what I'd say like a mini Jagan. I know mini Jagan gets thrown around a lot, but because of how strong Marcus is, and we'll get to him, Marcus doesn't feel like your traditional Jagan or Seth or Titania or whatever. Marcus just feels like someone who can blitz through the game. Oswin feels like the more traditional Jagan, in that he can soften up enemy targets for your weaker units to get kills, because it's very unlikely that Oswin will double anything outside of soldiers, and I think he, on average, he just deals just enough damage to leave them at like 5 or lower health, which is really, really goddamn helpful. And yeah, Oswin just fits so nicely into Hector hard mode because due to his amazing bulk, he's like virtually invincible for the first few chapters, which is just, he's just such a good unit to have around. He's such a helpful crutch. Whereas Marcus will just blitz through everything. Oswin feels like just a really, really nice bulwark to have. He's a safety net unit, and I love having him around. And he doesn't feel that crippled by his low movement most of the time, just because the maps in early game are quite small, so his low movement really isn't that impactful. And again, in an enemy phase focused game, you'd much rather just have a good enemy phase unit, like an Armor Knight, with good defense and access to 1-2 range. Hell, his growths are even, like, decent. You'd expect them to be pretty poor, but for the most part, they're perfectly fine. 90 health is good. 55 defense is fantastic. Like, 30 speed seems low, but honestly, due to the fact that you don't actually need that much speed to double, like, it's not that bad. I'd say if... Oswin's kind of like a reverse Pegasus Knight. Bear with me. You know how Pegasus Knights most of the time are like, I just need to get a couple points of strength, and then boom, they're online. Oswin's kind of the opposite of that, where it's like, I just need to get a couple points of speed on Oswin, and if Oswin's doubling, he's absolutely incredible. Much like Hector, he's very similar to Hector in early and mid game. But I'd say he hits harder and is generally easier to fall off. We'll get to that in a sec. He just fits into Hector hard mode so well because enemies are so weak, they will just thrust themselves directly at Oswin if he is their only target, and he will just mulch through them. And if he can double, great. And if he can't, great. Because chances are he'll leave the enemies at low health, and your Eliwoods and your Lins and your guys, your Rebeccas can just clean up and get free XP. Wonderful. Really, really helpful for your army. So he even brings utility. He isn't without his weaknesses. I'm not going to say he's without weakness. Knight is still a crappy class. Like, I've said that movement doesn't affect him that much in the early game, but I'd say as the game progresses, having lower and lower move does genuinely hurt you. Some late game maps like Cog of Destiny and Victory or Death are really big, and you want like your mount and your extra movement, because otherwise you're just going to fall behind, you're not really going to accomplish anything. And like I said with his growths, they're not the best. His growths aren't terrific. On average, you're probably going to be getting 3 stat level ups of like HP, strength, defense. I feel like that's what you'll get most of the time, which is fine. I feel like Oswin, unless he gets super blessed with growths, won't survive the transition into late game. But honestly, even without that, I'm still like a big supporter of early promote Oswin. I'm perfectly fine using the first Night Crest on Oswin, especially on Lin mode, where one of the Christmas calves is already promoted. Because General Oswin, like I said, how he's a really good safety net as a knight, General Oswin is like an entire like safety fishing boat. Like, there is no escape. It's like an entire ocean filled with a safety net. You can't die. General Oswin is fantastic. He gets +3 speed, he gets +3 res, it covers his weakest areas, even though his res growth is like 30%, so it's completely fine. He'll get access to axes and hand axes, another weapon type that he can throw. Like, I just like General Oswin, okay? I think Lowen is a weird unit, we'll get to him, that a lot of the times doesn't really justify a promotion, and unless your Sain or Kent is really good, that first Night Crest always goes to Oswin for me. You can call me a scrub, you can call me someone who's relying on crutches, I don't care. Oswin's really good, and General Oswin is really good. I think it's about time Oswin got the respect he deserves. He's very good in this game. Really, really good early game, really good mid game, and then just kind of falls off in the late game, which is fine. He's a very good, almost fits into the Jagan archetype. I really like Oswin. Give Oswin the respect he deserves. And now the exciting unit has been talked about, let's move on to the unexciting unit with Marcus. Marcus is an S-tier unit. Oh my god, what a fucking shocker. He's the best unit in the game. Yeah, Marcus is your traditional Jagan. He is pretty much inarguably the best unit in the game. Even units like Lin mode Florina, who I think is absolutely absurd, and Pent, who is comically strong, don't hold a fucking candle to Marcus. Marcus is almost capable of soloing the game. He's like Seth. A lot of people like to say, ooh, Seth is so much better than every other paladin. Fucking shut the fuck up. No, he's not. All of these GBA paladins are fucking busted. Unless you're FE6 Marcus, in which case you're actually balanced. FE7 Marcus is ridiculous. So let's just go ahead and discuss the strongest unit in the game. He's S tier. Like, no question about it. Marcus joins with the other scrubs in Birds of a Feather, chapter 12. With ludicrous bases. Marcus's bases are pretty much the best in the game when compared to the chapter they join in. Getting a 15 strength, 15 skill, 11 speed, 31 health, 10 defense paladin in the equivalent of chapter 2 with almost perfect weapon ranks on the best class is basically just throwing the difficulty right in the fucking bin. This unit's ridiculous. Like, he just does everything. Like, what do you say about Marcus? He just does fucking everything. He has insane mobility, he has rescue drop utility, his stats are comically high, he will one-shot basically every single enemy for like the first 5 chapters, maybe outside of a couple of bosses. And the worst part about him, in my opinion, is the fact that his growths aren't even that bad. Like, a lot of people say it's like, Marcus kind of falls off towards the late game, and he can if he gets screwed on levels, but even then, he's still like a really good utility bot in the late game with just rescue dropping. Like, he's still a fucking 9-move rescue dropper. What's the problem with that? I'd say on every difficulty that isn't Hector hard mode, Marcus doesn't need a single level up to go to end game. But on Hector hard mode, he will need some level ups. Which, when paired with the fact that his growth rates aren't amazing, 30% strength and 25% speed is low, it's still not that bad. Marcus on average will get a 2-stat level up, usually HP and some other stat, like HP strength, HP luck, HP resistance, HP strength resistance, stuff like that. And honestly, that's fine. Because I will just say that level ups on Marcus might not seem that good, but they're actually fucking ridiculous. I feel like Marcus benefits from stats more than anyone in the entire game. Like, I talked about how Eliwood is like, you need to get constantly perfect levels on Eliwood to have him keep up with the rest of your army. If Marcus gets, I'd say, 1 point of speed, like, he's already bought himself 5 more chapters of usefulness. He's that absurd. That's how good his bases are, and how valuable a single extra point of speed is. Like, if Marcus gets a 4-stat level up, the enemy fucking shivers, man. It's over. If Marcus gets HP, strength, skill, speed as a level, we're done. Like, the game is over. And if he gets bulk, he's even better as an enemy phase unit. Did I talk about how the fact that he has 3 weapon types, so he has access to hand axes and javelins? His enemy phase is absolutely obscene. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about this unit. I fucking hate FE7 Marcus. I think he's really boring to use. I think he defeats the purpose of a Jagan just because he is so superior to the rest of your army. And he isn't fun. Like, I like Oswin because he can fall off, but he's not guaranteed to fall off. It is so difficult to make Marcus fall off. Like, the only way Marcus falls off is that his level ups are literally just HP, HP luck, luck, resistance, HP luck, HP resistance, like over and over again. And even then, he still has rescue drop utility. I'm done. We're done talking about Marcus. I'm not going to waste any more breath on this tyrant, this absolute fiend on the battlefield. He's comically, like, overpowered. His stats are way too high. 15 strength for a unit joining from chapter 2 that's just too much, man. 11 speed is enough to double basically everything for early game, like, except for fast units, and even then he can probably just one-shot mercenaries with a silver lance. Like, he's just so fucking good, man. He just does everything. I talk about how units have weaknesses. The only weakness of Marcus is that if he gets screwed on levels, he can fall off, but he's not even guaranteed to fall off. Yeah, Marcus is absurd. That's really all there is to it. Best unit in the game. Pretty much no question about it. I don't care how good Pent or Florina get. Marcus has been here since the beginning. God, you get so many units in Birds of a Feather. There's like 3 left. Let's just do probably the least interesting of the bunch. Let's get them out of the way. Let's talk about Lowen. Lowen is not a fun unit, in my opinion. Lowen is one of my least favorite units in Blazing Blade, purely just because he isn't very interesting. I guess it fits his character in that he's just kind of a country bumpkin. Oh, I'll help you, Lord Eliwood. Let's go find Albert. Ooh, what's for dinner? Potato. Yeah, great. Anyway, Lowen is very, very simple. He is an A-tier unit. Despite my despisal of him, he is a very strong unit. That being said, I do think he's a little bit overhyped, so I'm gonna, like, place him towards the bottom of A-tier. Lowen is a cav. That's pretty much all I need to say. That could be the strict review for Lowen, is Lowen is a cav, A-tier, done. But I'll explain a little bit. Lowen's a cav joining from chapter 12, which is incredible. Like, it's literally just as simple as that, man. Just being allowed to be on a cav from effectively chapter 2 onwards, meaning you have amazing availability and an incredible class, gives you so much usability, it's insane. That's kind of the only reason Lowen is actually that good. Like, his bases are okay. 7 strength, 7 speed is okay. 7 speed is a nice amount, I will say. Lowen's base HP, strength, speed, and defense are all perfectly good. 7 speed is enough to double soldiers, which is really good, and enough to not get doubled by anything that isn't a Myrmidon. So that's really nice. I'll give him credit. Lowen's start is very good. I guess I should mention that as well, yeah. Lowen's bulk out of all of the calves is definitely the strongest. He has the highest defense growth at 40%, which is very high for a defense growth, and a base health of 23 is actually, like, really good for a level 1 cav. Helped by, I believe, like an 85% HP growth. So Lowen will become a very bulky unit. He's more akin to a Great Knight than he is to a Paladin. Along with the fact that he starts with D in both swords and lances, but he can use a javelin, which is E rank, blah, 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 blah. He's just very good at base. The problem with Lowen, in my opinion, isn't his class, isn't his bases, for the most part. Like, 5 skill isn't great, and 3 luck is a little bit annoying, but otherwise they're fine. It's not the fact that he has rescue dropped utility as a cav and an amazing promotion and all of that jazz. The reason I don't like Lowen, and the reason why Lowen isn't higher, is because Lowen's growths, other than defense and HP, and like maybe res, are bad. Like 30% across the board for strength, skill, and speed is straight up terrible. This isn't good. This means Lowen is likely not going to grow very well. On average, Lowen's level ups will be around 2 to 3 stats, usually HP, strength, defense, HP, strength, luck, stuff like that. It's very unlikely for Lowen to get a strength speed level up, which means his offense falls behind very quickly. I find that on average, Lowen's offense just falls off to the point that he stops one-rounding things really fucking quickly. Not even, like, he's not one-rounding things at base other than soldiers, but like, Lowen doesn't really have much ability to one-round, like, anything. He is basically just an early game bulwark that you'll use, because you're probably going to be sending Marcus on like expeditions like in 13 Guide and the Peddler Merlinus. You're probably going to send Marcus to go get the village, meaning you need someone to guard one of the 3 choke points of the map. Now Oswin guards 1, Hector's a good tank for another one, and then you'll probably use Lowen for the 3rd, because the best part about Lowen is his bulk. But that being said, I just find that Lowen levels up so poorly on average, and the only reason he's better than Kent and Sain is if you don't play Lin mode. Without Lin mode, he is better than them purely because of availability, and he has the chance to become blessed with growths. And if Lowen does get blessed with growths, he's incredible. He's one of the strongest units in the game. But on average, he's just a cab that will be useful, very, very useful in the early game, pretty useful in the mid game, and unless he gets super blessed with level ups, or you decide to invest boosters into him, he's probably not going to make the cut into late game. Yeah. With Lin mode played, the other 2 cabs are definitely better, even with the availability difference, just because their stats will be so much better. Like, they will be like level 10 by the time Lowen will be around level 8. Lowen is definitely good. He has the potential to be good. His start is definitely good. He has all of the good stuff of a cav, but I just find that his offensive growths are so lacking that it makes it really difficult to justify bringing him as the game goes along, especially with reduced deployment slots. But in the early game, he'll be a javelin chuck and 1-2 range and enemy phase and tank, which is really nice to have. So he does have that great utility. I think that's pretty much it for Lowen. He's a rather simple unit. He's good for early game, but then his growths don't really carry him into the mid or late game. Next up is Rebecca. Oh my god, Rebecca, what are you doing down in E tier? Rebecca isn't good. We know the deal at this point. We've reviewed Will, we've reviewed Rath. She's a bit better than Will, I'd say, but like, it's so, like, the difference is so incremental and minor. It's like discussing which piece of bread do you want to eat. The one that's 90% mold or the one that's 89% mold, you know? Like, both Will and Rebecca are terrible units, but I wouldn't say they're in F tier purely because, well, we've discussed Will, but, well, I'm getting off topic. Let's just discuss Rebecca, this E tier queen. Rebecca will join with the rest of your jobbers in Birds of a Feather, as I have mentioned, has a level 1 archer with horrifically terrible bases. Rebecca's bases are fucking awful. There's no beating around the bush. Literally all of her stats are bad. She has 4, 5, 6 for counting upwards as having bases, which is really bad. She doubles nothing outside of soldiers at base, but due to the fact that she's wielding an iron bow at base with 4 strength, she's doing like 9 times 2 to a soldier. So she's barely even 2-rounding them, meaning she'll need 2 turns to kill a soldier by herself, which is insanely inefficient. She's also made of tissue paper with 17 health and 3 defense. Oh boy, 1 res. She's a mage killer. Don't worry about that. Like Rebecca doesn't impress at the start at all. In fact, what Rebecca is going to do most likely in Birds of a Feather is go to the village to get the secret book. That's kind of it. That's all she does in Birds of a Feather. After that, she will be contributing chip damage for the most part, unless you decide, hey, I want to level Rebecca because I enjoy using her, which is a perfectly valid reason to use her. I don't know why I turned into Mickey, huh? And I will say, Rebecca's growths are good. I'd say compared to Will, she's a bit better, because just Will is more of an all-rounder. He's a bit more geared towards strength, whereas Rebecca is just quick. A 60% speed growth for a unit joining this early is very good. So I will say that. If Rebecca can consistently get speed level ups and get to the point where she's basically just consistently doubling everything, she can have very good damage output. But as I have stated, with archers, it's just kind of a pointless, like, it's a fruitless effort. It's a futile attempt. Because no matter how good or strong you make this archer through investments or lucky level ups or just constantly feeding them kills or stat boosters or what have you, you are playing FE7, not having any consistent 1 to 2 range, or even worse, being a class with no 1 range, which is way worse. If I had to pick being stuck on 1 or 2 range, I'd pick 1 range every day of the week. But if you're in that unfortunate position, you can only be so good. Like, we'll get to Louise. I'd say Louise, out of all of the archers, is the strongest. But, like, even she isn't very strong. She just gets by on her very high bases and an A support with Pent. Whereas Rebecca requires a lot of investment to get going, and her start is so poor. Like, she can grow into a pretty good player phase unit. But the problem is bows are only 2 times effectiveness, and the fact that she doesn't even one-shot Pegasus Knights at base, which should be her niche. Like, come on in, sis. Maybe in the Japanese version she does. There really isn't that much to talk about with Rebecca. She just doesn't do very much. she'll be dealing single-digit damage to almost every single enemy in the early game with her chip damage contribution, and most of the time I feel like you don't even really need that chip damage. There's a lot of Fire Emblems where you really get a lot of use out of the early game chip damage from your early game archer. Like, I'd say in Shadow Dragon, the harder difficulties, Gordon's actually really important. The chip damage from Gordon's steel bow is genuinely like a vital part of your strategy. Whereas here, I'd say enemies are most of the time getting killed in 2 hits, and Rebecca's chip damage isn't high to the point where it's super valuable. I guess I could talk about her supports. I don't know, Rebecca's supports, like, she does have good support options because she has a fire affinity, as I've stated in the FE7 bottom of the bench video. If you haven't watched that video, go watch that video, it's a good video. #ad. She has a fire affinity, meaning that if she is paired with another fire affinity, like Lowen, Dart, or Nino, all 3 of which she supports with, she will get a massive damage increase. I believe it's like 3 points, which will help her a lot considering that she will likely be doubling enemies by the time she gets to that A rank support, meaning she'll get +6 damage, which is very, very good. So there are a lot of ways to salvage the weaker parts of Rebecca, but the problem is you could just be using these resources on a unit that is actually attacking at 1 to 2 range, or has good mobility, or has staff utility, or like just does things. Like, Rebecca is going to do one thing, she's going to potentially kill an enemy on player phase. And she won't even do that at base. She will take a long time to get there. She's not unusable, she's not total garbage, but she is very weak and requires a lot of investment to catch up to the stronger units. It's totally up to you. I wouldn't do it, but she can be a very fun unit to use if you enjoy using the early game archer. I like early game archers, I like Rebecca, I like using her, and I have used her on Hector hard mode, she's perfectly usable. Sometimes you just want to use the good units, you know? That's Rebecca. Very, very straightforward unit. And our final Birds of a Feather unit is none other than the Brash Bartre! He doesn't have an official, he probably does have an official title, but I feel like the Brash Bartre is pretty strong. Bartre is a fucking fascinating unit. One of the few units coming from FE6, and I love him. I absolutely love Bartre. Not as a unit, but I do think he's just a very fun character, and a very fun unit to use. I will say that. Like Rebecca, he is very, very fun to use, but also like Rebecca, he's an E tier unit. He is one of the weakest units in the game. Not unusable, not F tier, like not total dookie dog shit, but he is definitely on the weaker side of things. It might seem a little bit strange for me to place Bartre beneath his blowjob brother Dorcas, but it feels correct. Like, I need to separate Dorcas from Bartre, because I feel like Dorcas gets shit on a lot when he's just sort of supposed to be this source of early game damage, whereas Bartre is supposed to be the growth-based unit out of the 2 fighters. He is supposed to grow into something more impactful, meaning his early game should be inherently worse, but I think Bartre's early game is so fucking atrocious that it doesn't justify the fact that he is supposed to be a growth-based unit. Bartre's bases are almost fine. They're almost fine. I swear to God, I feel like I rant about this every other week, but Bartre is so close to being a decent unit, and it's so fucking easy to make him a decent unit. But for some reason, the devs decided, no, you shall be poor because you have 3 speed. Bartre's bases, other than speed for the most part, are actually fine. 29 health, 4 defense, 9 strength, 5 skill. That's all fine. I have no issue with that. The problem with Bartre is 3 speed means he cannot double anything. As I have stated like a bajillion fucking times at this point, Bartre doesn't double soldiers. Not being able to 1-round soldiers is bad. It's really bad. As I've said, soldiers are the junk enemy. They are just there to waste your actions. So if you can kill them in 1 turn, that's great. That's like the standard. That's the bog standard that everyone should aspire to achieve. And Bartre is one of the few units who can't do this. If Bartre had 4 or 5 speed at base, he would be able to double soldiers and would be immensely better because you could just feed him the soldier kills. And this would mean that he would grow rather quickly, you could feed him a bunch of XP and fix his rather mediocre bases. But that isn't the case. In order to double soldiers, Bartre will need to get a level of speed before he starts doing that. And not even consistently, because some soldiers have 1 speed, I believe. And if we go on over to Bartre's growths, for a growth-based character, his growths aren't actually that good. Like 50% strength and 40% speed isn't that high. Bartre is like a funhouse of a unit. He is just flip the coin to see whether he gets good levels or not. Much like Eliwood. Actually, I wouldn't say he's like Eliwood, because like Eliwood needs to impress on like every front to be good, whereas Bartre can kind of lack in some areas. But Bartre does need to get either strength or speed or both on level ups consistently. Otherwise, he just does nothing, because Bartre isn't tanky enough to survive being doubled by most enemy units at this point, like non-soldiers, every non-soldier, non-Pegasus Knight, non-Armor Knight unit will double Bartre, which is pretty fucking problematic. It's great that he has 1 to 2 range with hand axes, but enemies will just shred him because he only has 4 defense and 29 HP, meaning an effective health of 33 is quickly going to get depleted when enemies just jab him to death over and over again. It means he has very little lasting power in combat, and unless you want to dedicate a healer to Bartre, it can just become kind of cumbersome. Much like Eliwood, it is totally fine to just invest some XP into Bartre early on to see if he levels speed. And if he gets speed on his first level, that's great! His start is immediately way better. And hey, maybe on the next level, he'll get strength speed, and then he'll get HP strength speed. And I feel like Bartre can snowball out of control, but it's just very unlikely to happen. It's do you want to take a ride on the Bartre train? I think it is just kind of as simple as that. If he doesn't get speed, he falls behind so fucking quickly, because he's just going to get doubled by everything and die instantly. I guess I could talk about Karla. You need to level Bartre if you want to recruit Karla, but I'll just go ahead and spoil this now. I think we all know who the last unit in F tier is going to be, so I don't really hold that against him. That's more of a Karla's recruitment issue more than a Bartre thing. Regardless, if you want to recruit Karla, you will have to level Bartre up to a level 5 warrior, level 2 warrior. A somewhat high level warrior, which can be annoying, but it can also be pretty much a fun project. I feel like I'm waffling here. Let me just end Bartre's review. Bartre is very, very simple. If he gets an extra point of speed on his first level, fucking excellent. You can invest into him. If he doesn't, don't even bother. Just, use him for chip damage until you get your bench, and then, whip, he's gone forever. Goodbye, Bartre. I won't be recruiting Karla, and I can live with that. And next up is, wow, fucking a lot of unexciting... Well, to be fair, we've had some exciting characters. Either way, this dude is super unexciting. Without further ado, it's Guy. Or Guy, as a lot of people call him. Don't know why they do that. Maybe I missed the official translation. Maybe I'm just a Philistine, but I'm pretty sure his name is Guy, and that's how it's pronounced. It's Guy in my universe, it's Guy. Guy is really, really straightforward. He is your early game Myrmidon, and he is incredibly unexciting to talk about. He is not Rutger. He fucking wishes he was Rutger. To be fair, Rutger isn't actually that strong, it's just that FE6 is a weird game for weirdos. But anyway, Guy is a C tier unit, probably towards the top end. He's perfectly average. Guy will join you from chapter 13, you need to talk to him with Matthew, with pretty respectable bases. He'll receive a little bonus on Hector hard mode. I want to say it's not that much. It's not Raven levels of super good stats or Rutger bonuses. It's +1 to every stat on average, I want to say. It's instead of 22 health, it's 24 or something. Instead of 6 strength, it's 7 strength, stuff like that. So they're not super significant, but it helps him a little bit. So Guy's start is actually pretty good. I have no issue with Guy's start whatsoever. He's one of the few units in your army who will be consistently doubling basically everything at base, which is wonderful. It's always really nice to have a unit who is consistently doubling. No issues there. Especially helped by the fact that the Killing Edge will allow him to one-round a good amount of units, even if, and I feel like this doesn't get talked about enough, even if the Killing Edge does slow him down by a fair bit, because Guy's con is garbage. For some reason, Guy has 5 con, which is the same as Urk. You're a Myrmidon. I get, Guy is introduced into the story, he talks to Matthew, and it's I'm gonna join your cause because you helped me when I was fucking starving to death. So maybe that's why he has no constitution. The man has no meat on his bones. But yeah, Guy's start is very strong. It's very quick, decent amount of strength, reasonable bulk, can dodge tank very well if you give him a forest, and there's a bunch of axe units. No issue with that. The issue with Guy, as we've discussed, is that he's a sword-locked infantry unit, which means that he has no form of consistent 1-2 range at all, and that is rough. As for growth rates, they're not even really that great, looking over them again. 70% speed growth is cute, but his speeds are already high enough to the point where I don't really need that much speed. That's super overkill. If I could have it my way, I'd take 20% of that speed and stick it into skill and strength instead. Because I think the biggest issue with Guy is that he just doesn't scale very well outside of getting very lucky levels. There's a lot of those units in FE7, as we're finding out. But yeah, Guy's strength just doesn't scale at all. 7 strength is what he'll usually start with. And with a 30% strength growth, it means he'll level strength very, very slowly, and his damage will quickly fall off. Again, enemies aren't super strong in FE7, but it's still nice to be able to one-round them, and unless he consistently gets strength, or you find an infinite supply of killing edges somewhere, Guy will not be one-rounding for very long. So the fact that Guy has insanely high speed and the ability to become the Quickster with 40 speed doesn't fucking matter, because you need 12 speed to double in the halfway point of the game, or something like that. You don't need that much speed, it's super overkill. Guy seems really impressive at base, mostly because of the killing edge. Like, most of Guy's damage comes from the killing edge. Take that away from him, replace it with an iron sword, he won't be one-rounding anything. It's rather unimpressive. I think the only reason he's in C tier as opposed to D tier is just because it is nice to have a unit that is helpful in the early game, because the early game can be rough due to the fact that I'd say more than half of your units in the early game are just straight up bad. Whereas Guy is nice in the early game, but he will very rapidly fall off. I guess we should talk about that. I know a lot of people are like, why is Rutger considered like the best unit in FE6? And then a unit like Guy, who has almost identical stats and recruitment time, is considered a middle of the pack unit. And the answer is, one, FE6 is a much harder game than FE7, and you kind of need Rutger, because Rutger is both super fast, like the only unit who's capable of one-rounding anything in your entire army, and he gets insane hard mode bonuses, and he's really, really consistent. Like, you need Rutger. FE7 is a much easier game, and you don't need Guy. I'll put it like this. If FE6 had FE7 markers, Rutger would be worse. Also, Swordmaster bonuses are just better in FE6. They get 30 crit instead of 15 crit. So Guy is just substantially worse, promotion-wise as well. So yeah, Guy just feels kind of unnecessary, especially if you're leveling Lyn. They kind of just fulfill the same purpose. Whereas Lyn will get a promotion item where she's only competing with one other unit for it. Whereas Guy is competing for the Hero Crest, which is like, that's some pretty heavy competition. You're competing with Raven, you're competing with both of the fighter bros if you're using either of them. Like, Raven just uses it better. We'll get to Raven, but Raven's just a better unit, man. I'd rather take Raven any day of the week. What does Guy get from promotion? He gets plus 15 crit and a bunch of like, kind of nice stats. Like, it's not super impactful. The crit is the only really nice thing. He doesn't get 1-2 range. Raven gets 1-2 range with hand axes, so his promotion is immediately better. If Raven's promotion made him lose stats, but he still gained hand axes, it would still be a better promotion. Either way, Guy, yeah, he's very average. He's fine. He's a middle of the pack unit. There's nothing wrong with using him. You can totally use him for as long as you want, but I just don't find. I just find that he just tapers off a bit. If he gets some lucky strength level ups, he can become a very good combat unit. But again, it's FE7, so you want a good enemy phase, and his enemy phase will only go so far when you don't have access to 1-2 range. Simple as that. Next up is the most important unit in the entire list. It's Merlinus! Merlinus is not going to be talked about, and I'm just going to go ahead and... Wait 1 sec, let me just... Yep, there we go. Now he's off the screen. We won't be talking about Merlinus, because Merlinus is not a unit in this game. Not even like in FE6, he's kind of a unit, so you can actually talk about him, because you can manually deploy him in FE6. FE7 Merlinus is not a unit, he's like a stage hazard, or an attraction, or a side objective that you have to guard every now and then. He is your convoy, he's nice to have, he's not a unit. You have no control over him whatsoever until he promotes in like the last 3 chapters, at which point, like, woo, he can move around, it's a moving convoy. It doesn't matter, I'm not discussing Merlinus. Next! God, there's a lot of boring units in FE7, we've just gone through a big boring patch with all the boring units that I don't like. So let's try and get out of this like misty cascade of utter dullness with Priscilla. Priscilla is really, really straightforward. She is an A tier unit, probably towards the top end. She's like almost going into S tier with how stupidly powerful she is, but I don't think she quite hits the mark. I'll place her below the dancers, I think. That sounds about right. Priscilla's really, really straightforward. It's kind of like what I talked about with Serra. It's just Serra has some nice early game utility, but Priscilla outclasses her in basically every way. This review won't be very long. Priscilla is good because she's Serra with a mount and a better staff rank innately. While with Lyn mode, Serra could have a higher staff rank at this point. I want to say you can probably get Serra to B rank with Lyn mode investment. It doesn't matter. Getting weapon rank is so easy in this game, and the warp appears pretty late anyway. Like all of the good all of the good staves in Blazing Blade appear pretty late. Like other than the sleep, which appears in chapter... before Dragon's Gate at the very least, because it's vital to Dragon's Gate. Either way. So you don't really need high staff rank until late game. It's really not that impactful. And she'll probably be healing every turn anyway due to her ludicrous mobility. Priscilla's on a horse. Have I mentioned that? She's on a horse. Welcome to fucking FE7 where 99% of the good units are on horses. This was balanced back in GBA days. This was the Wild West. This was the Dark Ages. Got a horse? Bing! You're good. Priscilla's just fantastic. She has amazing utility. She even has rescue drop utility as a healer, which is really, really nice due to her amazing aid and 7 move, and the fact that she can Canto. That's really great. She starts with C rank, which is great. You can use stuff like the barrier and the restore staff at base, which is really, really good. She's required to recruit Raven, so you're even incentivized to use her. Like, that's all great. Her bases are actually kind of crazy for a level 3 Troubadour. Other than HP, which is super low at 16, everything else is like actually reasonably high, and her growth rates are perfectly good to match that as well. Her availability is excellent. She has what, like 2 or 3 fewer chapters than Serra, but she just does so much more because she can just keep up with your good units. And her growths are good, and her base, like, she's just better, man. She gets access to a better promotion on average, I'd say, just because Valkyrie will get her to 8 move and give her Anima magic instead of Light, and I'd say Anima is better than Light on average. Maybe Serra's combat's a bit better, but did you know, listen closely, Priscilla's on a horse. Therefore, she doesn't have to care that Serra's combat might be slightly better, because if you look closely, Priscilla's on a horse. Therefore, she's just better. My superiority horse. Yeah, Priscilla's a really, really boring unit to talk about because she's good simply because she just kind of does a bit of everything. Like, she doesn't have combat until promotion, but it's fine just because she has rescue drop utility, she has staff utility, she has mount utility, she has great availability, great mobility, she just does a little bit of everything, and it's nice. And I want to say her bulk is high enough to the point where she'll even be able to take a hit if you really need her to. And I'm sure there's a bunch of you that are wondering why I was giving La Rochelle so much guff, despite the fact that she seems similar to Priscilla, while I'm basically just constantly kissing Priscilla's ass. And the answer is, it's pretty much just availability. If La Rochelle joined when Priscilla joined, I would be much more favorable to La Rochelle. But she doesn't. She joins halfway through the game as a level 3 Troubadour with horrific base. Pretty much, she is basically just Priscilla, but she joins halfway through the game. Imagine if Priscilla joined in, like, Kinship's Bond. She'd be way worse. But she doesn't. She joins from chapter 14. So there's pretty much nothing wrong with this girl. She's real good, just don't talk about her feelings for her brother, because they get kind of complicated. Priscilla, A tier. And here we go with potentially the only good sword-locked unit in the entire game. It's Raven! That's so Raven. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Raven is kind of an interesting unit, because he kind of functions as the Rutger of FE7 in a lot of ways, in that he's taking a traditionally, like, well, Mercenary is, like, usually pretty good because it promotes interior. You get the idea. Like, usually being sword-locked is really bad, but Raven manages to be a very strong unit, even though he is sword-locked until promotion. So Raven is going to go ahead and go into A tier, probably towards the bottom. He's not super strong, but he's definitely a pretty good unit. Yeah, Raven's interesting, because I will just say this to establish, if you're not playing on Hector hard mode, Raven's incredibly, like, whatever. But due to Hector hard mode giving him stat bonuses since he is recruited as an enemy, Raven becomes pretty damn solid. Like, his bases are just very, very nice. Like, I want to say he starts with 10 strength, 15 speed, a great pool of health. He has like 30 health at base on hard mode, which is absolutely divine. Along with Sea and Swords, which is okay. Good con, enough to wield the steel sword without getting slowed down, I think, which is great. But the fact that he's just super fast. He hits really fucking hard. Like, Raven makes a really good first impression. Just his bases and his ability to kill things is really, really good. I will say that Raven's bulk at base outside of health is kind of like fighter-esque. He usually starts with around 5 defense and like 2 res, which is pretty poor, not helped by low luck. So that's not great, and we will get more into that once we get into like Raven's late game. But Raven's early game, despite being a sword-locked unit, is actually very good. And I'd say he transitions into mid-game pretty well just because there's so many axe units, and he mulches through axe units, because base 10 strength paired with a steel sword and the ability to double almost everything he fights just means he's really, really good as a player phase unit. He's also helped by pretty good growth rates. 55% strength growth for a mercenary is alarmingly high. Like, I want to say that's one of the highest strength growths for like a non-axe unit thus far, and it is very, very good. 45% speed is pretty good. 85 health. Yeah, no, I have no complaints about his growths, except for his bulk, but we'll get to that in a sec. So yeah, Raven just seems to be very impressive. I have no issues with Raven's, like, combat ability, despite the fact that he has no 1-2 range. But once he gets to promotion with Hero, as we've established with Guy, once he gets that first Hero crest, he's probably the best user of the first Hero crest, just because the promotion helps him so much, as it will give him a nice amount of stats, gives him, I think, +2 speed, but more importantly, it gives him E and axes. Once Raven gets E and axes, he can use hand axes. This eliminates his 1-2 range issue, albeit at the cost of some speed, because his con isn't good enough to use hand axes without getting slowed down, which is, it's unfortunate. Raven's hard mode bonuses just allow him to absolutely clobber enemies and makes him far superior to units like Lyn and Guy, because he requires no investment. He just joins with those bases, and whoop-de-doo, you have a good unit. But yeah, as I've said, along with not having any 1-2 range until promotion, which can slow him down, you might want to just level him up a bunch until you get him into Hero. I wouldn't recommend rushing him into Hero. Like, get him to like 15 or 16 and then promote him, or something like that. But yeah, lack of 1-2 range hurts him. But, as I've mentioned multiple times, I actually think Raven's biggest issue is his lack of bulk. Raven isn't a super glass cannon, like he's not a Lyn or like a traditional Pegasus Knight level of glass cannon, but he can be pretty flimsy in combat. Raven's defense at base is like 5, and his defense growth is, I want to say, 20%. It's pretty low. And like, even with the hero promo gains, I think hero gives him +2 defense and +2 res. Like, even with that, his defense, I find on average, like, I'm gonna just go ahead and say, level 15 Merc Raven that promotes into a level 1 hero is probably gonna have like 9 defense or something like that. Something just not very good. Like, 9 defense for a unit who you want to be an enemy phase unit because they have access to hand axes isn't great. Like, his speed is good, but it's not high to the point where he's going to be dodge tanking everything. You could also remember, like, with dodge tanking, you need to be able to take at least 1, preferably like 2 hits when dodging hits, on the off chance that one of those 20% or one of those 15% actually hits, so that you can retreat. Because otherwise, if you're a dodge tank that's flimsy to the point where you die in 1 hit, you can't dodge tank, because 1 hit will just send you to the afterlife. I find that Raven's really, really good in the mid-game when you don't need that much bulk to be an enemy phase unit, but once you hit late game, his mediocre defense catches up with him, and on maps like Victory or Death or Cog of Destiny. Cog of Destiny he's really bad on, because like I've talked about his bad defense. Cog of Destiny is like 90% magic units. Raven is fucking awful on that map, because his res is just, he's never going to gain res. He will have like 3 res as a level 10 or a level 10 hero. It's not okay, dude. I think that's the biggest issue with Raven, is that his combat is good in the mid game, and I'd say in late game his combat is still good, but it's just he's not really a great enemy phase unit, and he kind of gets overshadowed by units who are really good enemy phase units. Like, for a direct comparison, I'll compare him to Harken. You'll get Harken in the late game if you picked him over Karel, which if you have 5 brain cells you will do, and Harken is pretty much just Raven, but better for the most part. Raven probably has a bit better offense if you decide to invest into him, and like you recruit Harken in chapter 26 or whatever. But on the other side, Harken's bulk is so much better. Harken has fucking incredible bulk. Like, Harken's willing like 17 defense and like 10 res, whereas Raven has like half of that. It's really not a fair comparison. So let me just summarize. I feel like I've been going over the same points a lot. Raven's really good in the early game, he's pretty good in the mid game, and he's kind of like not great in the late game because he gets overshadowed by other units who also have good combat and don't just melt at the first sign of sight. It's poor bulk, that's what holds him back. But I think he's still A tier just because he is a no investment unit that does a lot in the early game and does a lot in the mid game. And capping out our mage trio is none other than Canas. I like Canas. I don't think anyone doesn't like Canas. He's one of those characters that everyone just kind of appreciates because he's not the first playable dark mage, but he's like the first well-known playable dark mage, so to say, because this was the first localized Fire Emblem, and this was probably people's first exposure to dark magic. Canas is he's a remarkably simple unit, honestly, compared to the other mages. Probably won't be here for very long. He's a B tier unit. Again, probably towards the lower end, but he's still a pretty strong unit. He's fun. I like Canas. I got no issues with Canas. As I said with Urk and Lucius, I do think an invested Urk and Lucius are superior to Canas just because they have time to grow, and like they will just have much better availability. Like without Lyn mode, they have slightly better availability. Like Lucius literally has 1 or like half a chapter of a Canas. Like Canas is so much better than Lynless Lucian, so to say. With just Hector mode, he's far superior to the other 2 mages. Canas, along with having pretty all-round, like, nice bases, they're not amazing. Like, I think his HP is a little low for my liking. If he had, like, 25 HP, I think these bases were great. I think that's literally the only stat I don't like here. 10 magic is good, 8 speed is enough to double occasionally, but not super often. 5 defense, 8 res is actually great physical and magical bulk. I got no issues with that. So having great bases and pretty decent growths, like his growths aren't fantastic. Out of all the mages, they are definitely the lowest. He's more of he's not really an all-rounder type. He's more of the bulkiest. He's the bulkiest of the mages for sure, because his defense growth is 25%, same as Raven's, which is surprisingly bulky, and 45% res, which is pretty nice. I think the best part about Canas is just he has the best of the 3 magic types. Anima is okay magic, like it's not fantastic. You get access to bolting if you can grab it. I forget if there's an easy to access bolting tome, but whatever. And light just isn't very good all round. Whereas dark gets a lot of utility tomes. I really wish they would do more stuff with like tome types in a lot of Fire Emblem games. Like I feel like dark gets the nice end of the stick, and that's like Flux is your generic damage tome. Then you have stuff like Nosferatu, which allows you to tank by sucking up health, or Luna, which just negates enemy res, or an Eclipse, which drops an enemy's health to like stuff like that. They get interesting abilities. Whereas Fire is just damage, Thunder is just damage. I guess really boring. Make more interesting tomes. But yeah, the fact that Canas has access to all of those unique weapons is really, really helpful. Although most of the time he's just going to be using a Flux Tome. I find that, like, Ark and Lucius can become really explosive units, you know? Like, their stats will become really high, they'll deal a ton of damage, they'll double a lot of stuff. Whereas, like, Canas is just really reliable. The most common way that a lot of players use Canas, well, maybe not the average player, but a lot of, like, hyper-efficient players, we'll call them, the elitists, those filthy elitists. The way that they use them is that they will early promote Canas. When I say early promote, I mean like actually early promote, like 11 or 12, maybe even 10. Because Canas' promotion actually fixes they kind of fix his biggest issues. And FE7 like stat thresholds aren't high to the point where you need tons of stats. Once a level 10 Canas promotes, he'll probably have like around 13, maybe 14 speed, which is a ton. That's a surprising amount. Druid gives him +3. He'll probably gain one in 2 levels to 10, maybe 3 levels to 11. He'll get some extra bulk. He'll get +4 health to help his big health issue. Like, his promotion does so much to help him. And doing this makes him just a mid-game powerhouse. He'll fall off in the late game for sure if you do this, but his mid-game is insane if you do this. Like, I'd say he's one of the best mid-game units in the game if you decide to early promote him, at the cost of basically having no late game, because he doesn't scale at all. He will have amazing staff utility, he'll have access to a good weapon type, almost A rank in Dark when you promote him, which is fantastic. You can use stuff like Luna on him, but, like, okay, I'm gonna state this now. A lot of people really like to hype up the Luna Tome. The Luna Tome is obviously an insanely powerful tome, because it has really high crit and really high hit, along with just negating enemy res. But in order to make it actually good, you need to have a really high magic stat behind it. Canas' magic isn't going to be that high. It'll probably be like, by the time he promotes, probably like 13, maybe 12. Not super high. Even if you decide to like promote him at 15 or something. Like, his magic isn't super explosive. The reason Luna is perceived as so powerful is because Athos has capped fucking magic. So of course he's going to obliterate everything. He's attacking with 30 true damage with a really high crit chance. The best part about Luna is it's absurdly high hit and the crit. But yeah, I think that's kind of it for Canas. He's a very, like, simple unit. He's pretty much the definition of good. Like I talked about how Guy is the definition of average, Canas is just the definition of good. Pros, good weapon type, good magic, like pretty decent all-around stats, a good promotion to Druid that helps him out a ton, a nice amount of speed that allows him to double basically all important unit types, maybe outside of like Nomads once he's promoted. That's all great. Bad parts? If you decide to do this, he has very middling late game, especially compared to the other 2 mages, if you decide to invest into them. Like I said, his stats are decent, but they're not fantastic. They're good, but they're not great. And his bulk, while nice and definitely the highest of all the mages, isn't high to the point where it can be like an amazing enemy phase unit. He has weaknesses, he has strengths. He's a good unit. I like Canas. Very, very simple. Oh, cool, a unit I get to berate because he's stupid and ugly and I hate him. It's Dart. I am Dart's biggest hater. I think Dart is fucking awful. If I could have it my way, if I could have just personal preference completely guide the tier list, he would be an F tier. He would be below Wallace and Will. But because this is an unfair and unjust world, I have to place him in D tier, where he probably belongs. Arguably, maybe a little bit high for him, but I'll be generous because this fucker, like, I'm shaking my fist. I fucking hate Dart. This is probably my least favorite unit in the entire game. I probably dislike Lowen the most just because he's super boring, whereas Dart is like active hate. I do not like this unit. I'll talk about the most important Dart feature towards the end, but for now, let's go ahead and discuss what Dart does well. Dart is a pirate. Pirate is a decent class. It's better than fighter just because it promotes to Berserker. Berserker is obviously lovely, just because you get water walking, 15 crit. It is just basically a strictly better version of Warrior. Along with, we'll get back to those bases. Along with good growth rates. Hey, Dart, these are good growth rates. Hey. Dart does have good growth rates. 65% strength and 60% speed is phenomenal. I believe that's like the highest strength and speed growth pair in the entire game. It's super high. Very, very good. Well, I mean, I wish his defensive growths were a bit higher. Even something like 30% defense would be nice. But even 70% health for a Berserker type isn't actually that high. He's able to use hand axes due to having axes as a weapon type, as long as being axes, which is good. And now that I've discussed every good part about Dart, let's go into the stinky. Dart is bad because his bases are bad. Because his promotion is convoluted, but we'll get into it. And his con is bad. Dart has 12 strength and 8 speed at base. 8 speed at this part of the game is fucking atrocious, and it's even worse because his con is so bad. Dart has 10 con as an axe user. Come the fuck on, man. He starts with a steel axe and a hand axe, both of which slow him down. I believe the steel axe makes him lose 5 points of speed, meaning he has 3 speed in his joining chapter of the Dread Isle. Meaning he gets doubled by basically everything. And because Dart's bulk isn't actually that bad, it's 34 health and 6 defense. 34 health is a good amount, and 6 defense is okay for a fighter type. he'll still get absolutely shredded by Pegasus Knights and Nomads that are littered throughout the chapter. So that's really bad, even compared to someone like Dorcas and Bartre. Like, Dorcas and Bartre have no con issues at all, and Bartre's speed can be remedied just by growing him. And Bartre also has better availability, but his dart is worse. It's way worse. Bartre's a meme unit, whereas dart can actually become something good. You just need to invest very heavily on him and keep a fucking eye on him and make sure he's not getting slowed down by a specific type of weapon, aka most of the axes. So yeah, while Dart's growths are really good, and he definitely has the potential to become an amazing powerhouse unit, great enemy phase unit due to having pretty good health, potentially very good strength and speed, and hand axes, that's all great. We need to now talk about probably the most interesting part about Dart, which is what they decided to do with this promotion item in this game. For some inane reason, Insys decided that the Ocean Seal, aka the item that you use to promote Pirate to Berserker, one, be one of a kind. There's literally only one in the entire game, but more importantly, number two, it's twice as expensive as every other promotion item. I don't know why. I have absolutely no fucking clue why they decided to do this. Obviously, you can just promote Dart with Master Seals, but Master Seals, or Earth Seals, or whatever they're called, appear really late, so I'm just going to discuss the Ocean Seal. The Ocean Seal is really nice to have because you can sell it for 25,000 gold. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of gold to put in my coffers. When you are comparing the Ocean Seal's, like, use to its value in money, so to say, like, it can promote exactly one unit, it can promote Dart, or you can sell it for 25,000 gold and never have to worry about money ever again. He's like Farina in a way, in that he basically just comes with a massive price tag. If you want to promote Dart, it's basically going to cost you 25,000 gold for a unit who's okay. Like, he's not even that good. By the time Dart promotes, you'll probably have Hawkeye, and Hawkeye's just better. Like, Dart has better potential, but FE7 enemies aren't that strong, man. Just use Hawkeye. Hawkeye's so much better. Hawkeye doesn't cost 25,000 gold. I'm destitute. That's Dart. Would I rather have 25,000 gold or a mediocre pirate? The answer is I'd rather have 25,000 gold, because money talks. I could use that money on weapons. I could use that money on stat boosters when we inevitably get to secret shops. I could use that money on stuff like physics, on men's, or just, like, it's just really good to have money in the pocket. FE7 isn't, like, a particularly money-stringent game, but it's just good to have reliability. And you know what isn't reliable? Dart! Dart isn't reliable, because I've talked about his good growths, but that's just luck. He can also just get stat screwed. And if Dart doesn't get, like, strength speed every level, he's not going to catch up with the rest of your army. He starts behind, so you need to feed him kills. That's Dart. He's just so painfully mediocre, and he costs so much money that I've never liked him. I've used him before. Every single time I've used him, he's been a disappointment. Just use one of the fighter bros, or use Raven, or, you know, just use Hawkeye, because he's a berserker who costs nothing and just joins for free. Like, I don't care how much Dart wants me to pay for his college fund. It's going straight in the army coffers, and I'm not going to look back. Dart, he's very mediocre. Just there are better units. I know there are Dart fans out there. People are freaks! Moving on. Feels like it took us absolutely ages to get to the second Pegasus sister, but without further ado, let's talk about Fiora. Fiora's a cool unit. She's very no-nonsense, not particularly interesting character-wise. She's just very plain Jane, and I'm perfectly fine with that. She's not eep like Florina, or give me your money like Farina. She's just a good old regular person. Anyway, now that I've gone off topic for like a whole minute, Fiora is an A-tier unit. I am hesitating a little bit there. But towards the lower end of A tier, I will just say that. I think Fiora is kind of an interesting unit, but she's also, like, relatively simple to talk about, and they're just the flat-out blanket statement. With Lin mode, Florina far, like, outclasses Fiora. It's not even close. But with just Hector mode, I would say Fiora is superior to Florina. So I'm glad we got that out of the way. Anyway, let's start discussing Fiora. Fiora will join from Dread Isle onwards. She'll join with an Axe Reaver and a Javelin, I believe, both of which aren't particularly great weapons for her, if we're being perfectly honest. Because, like her sisters, she just doesn't have very good con. She has one more point of con than Florina at 5, which is like, whoopee! It's one extra point of speed on average, which is nice. I'm not going to say it's not nothing, but it's nothing super fantastic. Along with pretty decent bases. I have never really had a problem with Fiora's bases, maybe outside of HP. 21's a little bit low, but like 6 defense, 7 res is good. 8 strength is really nice for a Pegasus Knight. 13 speed is good. It's enough to double things, but only with like a slim lance. That's the problem with Fiora. In fact, yeah, I think that's the overall, or like just the core issue with Fiora and why she's kind of on the lower end of A tier. Like, the reason she is so high is just because Pegasus Knight is a fucking busted class, and if you want something to invest into, she's a very good candidate for stat boosters and some such, just because if you haven't, say, leveled a Florina at this point, this is the next best thing. So while she may have a mediocre start, she can, like Florina, just grow out of control pretty quickly. And I feel like there's just a good amount of chapters for her to level into. Like, I don't think it's late to the point where she's out of the running for investment, so to say. Like, I know I complained about Dart and was like, oh, he joined so late, why would I invest in a unit like this? But Dart's stupid and I don't like him. Whereas I like Fiora, and me being biased towards unit is fine when they're a pretty Pegasus Knight. That's the thing with Fiora, is that she has this chapter to gain some XP. It's not great for her, because it's filled with nomads and some such, so she could be in danger. Dragon's Gate, which actually has a lot of reinforcements that she can just level off of. Like, you need to guard Merlinus in the bottom right, and there's a lot of reinforcements that spawn in and around, like, turns 7 onwards, and they're like Pegasus Knights, and they're not super strong. Perfect candidate for grinding Fiora a bit. And then after that is New Resolve, and the enemies in New Resolve are super weak, so she can just level that really, really nicely. Like, she joins just at a really advantageous time. And she's just a good investment unit. One, because all of the fly stuff, fly utility, just a good weapon type with 1 to 2 range, just ignores mechanics, can fly over mountains, can rescue drop, all that good stuff. And like, she's just really nice in a lot of later chapters. Like, off the top of my head, she'll be great in Cog of Destiny because she has good base res of 7, along with a pretty good res growth, if I remember correctly. Yeah, she's got a 50% res growth, so on average, she should be getting res every other level. Like, by the time she should be promoted at that point and have like 15 plus res, which would be absolutely fantastic. She would completely clobber the druids and maybe not the Valkyries, because the Valkyries are super fast, but she would do very well in Cog of Destiny. She'd be okay in Victory or Death, just to get the villages, maybe. There's a lot of physical enemies on that map, so it can be kind of frustrating. Either way, I'm just talking about chapters. Fiora has some pretty good growths and some pretty good bases on a very, very good class, and that's kind of it. I think the only really bad parts about Fiora is that she has a pretty middling start, just because her stats aren't particularly high in the important areas, like her strength is low, and her speed is low to the point where she doesn't double everything. With a little bit of effort, she can grow out of control very quickly. Think Tana in Sacred Stones. Tana has a very similar start. In fact, they have very similar join times. And don't feel like you can't use her just because you've been using Florina either. I actually think the game is pretty generous with Elysian Whip, so competition for it isn't that severe. Like, if you train Florina, chances are she'll get the first one, but then you get the second and the third relatively quickly, and you can get a fourth in Raging Beast, if I remember correctly. So competition for the Elysian Whip doesn't really exist. Yeah, that's kind of it with Fiora. Actually, just a really nice, straightforward unit. I'd recommend investing into it if you haven't used Florina, or if you have used Florina. Nothing wrong with having a brigade of flies, especially in a game where bows are absolute dog shit. Yeah, Fiora, A tier, nice and simple. Next up is a really cool character, someone I've always really liked in FE7's story, but I've never known how to feel about him as a unit. It's Legault. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, Legault is kind of simple to talk about in terms of, hey, he's simple and he's not. I've never really known how to rank Legault, so I think I'm just going to place him towards the higher end of C tier for now, and maybe he'll move up or down depending on, you know, whether I'm feeling spicy or not. But for now, let's go ahead and discuss this ex-Black Fang member, who has some quirks, but is also, like, remarkably straightforward. Legault has kind of annoying recruitment in Dragon's Gate, but it's still perfectly doable. I find that every single time I play Dragon's Gate, I get a little bit better at it, and his recruitment becomes a little bit less annoying. I'd say as long as you have the sleep staff, his recruitment isn't a problem. If you don't, you will probably need to rush a bit, especially if you're not using mounted units. Then it's going to be a genuine problem. But after you have recruited him, you will get a thief that you probably don't need at this point. That's the unfortunate part about Legault, is it's kind of like a Pawn Lithis situation from Thracia, in which Lithis does most of the heavy lifting in Thracia, and then you get Pawn, who is a strict upgrade. But I'd still say Lithis is mostly better just because all of the thief stuff has already happened, so to say. And I'd say that is the same situation here in FE7 when comparing Matthew and Legault, because Matthew has already stolen so much good stuff at this point, and there aren't that many stealables later on in the game, so I feel like Legault just isn't as useful as Matthew. Like, Matthew gets you the Silver Card, an Elysian Whip, and a Guiding Ring right off the bat. Whereas, off the top of my head, the only, like, items that Legault can probably be getting is the Hero Crest and New Resolve, because I will just say this. Legault obviously has much better stats than Matthew on average. Even with Lin mode investment, even with, like, training Matthew, Legault will probably just have stronger combat stats, because his bases are good. 8 strength, 15 speed, great bulk for a thief at 26 health and 8 defense, weirdly bulky, along with honestly kind of similar growth. His growths aren't really anything to write home about. I actually think they're worse than Matthew's across the board, but his bases are bad at the point where it doesn't really matter that much. So chances are you're probably going to replace Matthew with Legault once he's recruited, just because of like averages and some such. Maybe Matthew will end up stronger, and in which case then Legault is even worse, but on average Legault will be stronger. And there are, as I said, there are still stealables later on in the game, but there's not that many off the top of my head. Maybe I'm just forgetting. Maybe I'm just a forgetful fool, but I feel like Legault just doesn't have nearly as much utility as Matthew. And also at this point, it's not unique to him, so to say. Like, Matthew can also steal these things. So instead, what you'll have to look for with Legault is things that he can do well, instead of things that only he can do, if you understand what I mean. Legault is okay at combat. He's fine. He's perfectly okay. Like I said, his bases are perfectly good. Nice bulk for a thief, which is good. It means you don't have to protect him that heavily, especially when enemies aren't that strong. But the problem is with Legault, much like the person next to him on the tier list, is that he is sword locked. And unlike someone like Guy, who does actually get a decent promotion, I wouldn't even recommend promoting Legault to Assassin, just because Assassin promo gains are like non-existent. It's like +1 strength, +2 res, a bit of HP. It's like nothing. It's barely worth it. Don't bother. So Legault's combat will only be so good because he has no 1-2 range, and he's even worse than Guy because his promotion doesn't even help his combat. And it doesn't give him any move either. Like, Legault is pretty much what you see is what you get, because his growths aren't very good, and his promotion isn't very good, and he has no 1-2 rank. Like, there's no, like, surprise with Legault. What you see is absolutely what you get. He will steal stuff occasionally if you want him to, but there's not that much to steal. He doesn't have that much utility. Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. I'm putting him in C tier just because he is a nice replacement for Matthew, and you will still need to open doors and open chests and stuff. And extra vision in Fog of War maps like Battle Before Dawn, that is really nice. So he definitely has some use, but his uses are definitely less frequent than Matthew, and they're definitely less, like, required than Matthew. Like, Matthew is required in a lot of early game just to get these really important items. Whereas Legault is probably going to be brought into stuff like Living Legend to get hidden items, Battle Before Dawn for vision and opening doors and such, and then, like, a couple of other maps, but he won't see that much use. And by the time you get to Battle Before Dawn, you'll recruit Jaffar, and at that point, Legault's basically done. Like, he's fine. Maybe this is a bit high for him, but I'll leave him there for now. Legault, a very simple unit. Cool character, though. And next up is a super interesting unit. Let's go ahead and talk about Isadora. Isadora is probably the most interesting unit to talk about in Blazing Blade, in my personal opinion, because I feel like to this day, people still argue whether this unit is actually good or not. And it's fascinating. It's genuinely some intriguing discussions with this one. Honest to God, I'm not 100% sure either. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and place her in B tier for now, towards the middle. I think she's a middle of the pack B tier unit. She's good, but like when I say B tier units are usually units that have very clear strengths and very clear weaknesses. Isadora is definitely one of those candidates, know what I'm saying? Because this unit has a lot of weaknesses, but also some good strengths. Isadora joins as a level 1 pally. Yippee! In Chapter 22, joins in Kinship's Bond along with Rath and potentially Heath if you recruit him, with very good question mark bases. These bases are good. You know what? Yes, they are good. Let's just go over her good parts. Isadora, obviously Paladin is fantastic. Don't need to go over that again. Isadora's stats are good and bad. Her strength and speed are good. For a level 1 Paladin, these are decent stats. 13 strength may be a little bit low. 16 speed for a level 1 Pally is fucking fantastic, though. That's excellent. The bad part about Isadora's bases is that her bulk is pretty lacking. It just isn't really there. 28 health with 8 defense is low. 6 res doesn't matter. So Isadora is potentially a good enemy phase unit, but not right away, and we'll get more into that in a sec. As for growth rates, they're not super important. She's level 1, so she will have a fair amount of time to level, but she obviously won't level up very quickly. Her growths are fine. For a pre-promote, they're exactly what you'd expect. I kind of wish she didn't have such a high speed growth and had like a higher defense and strength growth, but hey, what can you do? So she will grow like fine. She'll probably average 2 to 3 stat level ups of like HP speed defense, HP speed res, stuff like that. She'll consistently get speed. Isadora's like speed stat is never an issue, not attack speed. We'll get to that in a sec. In regards to her weapon rank, she has A in swords, which means she can use basically every sword at base, which is great. B in lances, which means she can use almost everything at base, which is great. And D in axes, meaning you can use the hand axe, which is all I really fucking care about. So basically perfect weapon ranks. Like, she could have A, E, E, and that would basically be perfect, because FE7 is a really messed up game. Like, Isadora's weapon ranks don't really matter for the most part, because, like, ignore her Lance and Axe rank, since we have to go into the main reason why Isadora is such a contentious unit. I talked about her bulk and how it's a problem, and that's, like, a problem that you can fix, but the big, core, fundamental issue with Isadora is her awful 6 constitution. Every single time I play FE7, I'm like, Isadora has low constitution, right? It's like 8 or 9. It's like quite low for a cav or a paladin. And then I look and it's like 6! It's fucking 6! It's like guy levels of awful. It's like Pegasus Knight levels of awful. Like, I get you gotta play the female tax. If you have a vagina, you gotta have low con. Because Fire Emblem just works that way for some fucking reason. Them women can't have high constitution. But, like, 6 con is absolutely atrocious, man. I get she has high speed, so she will still be doubling a good amount of things, even when she's getting slowed down by weapons, but she literally can't use anything heavier than a fucking iron sword without getting slowed down. As a paladin! That's so bad! So, when I said her weapon ranks don't really matter that much, it's because Isadora is largely going to only be using swords. Like, if you wanted to use something like the javelin or the hand axe, she's going to be losing, like, 5 or 6 speed. I think, like, 5 to 7 speed, which is real bad. Like, it's still enough to double the occasional thing, but let's say 9 speed with a hand axe that's not enough to double anything meaningful. It's rather poor. So Isadora, despite being a very good enemy phase class, is not actually a very good enemy phase unit due to very poor bulk and the fact that her con completely screws her over. Isadora obviously doesn't cost anything right away. She is free. You get a level 1 paladin with pretty good, like, great offensive bases, but just lackluster defensive bases. Her growths are fine. Her class is excellent. She joins with an angelic robe, and she does make good use of that. 7 extra health will help her bulk a lot, but you can also use that angelic robe on, like, literally every other unit. Basically, no other unit doesn't want 7 extra HP outside of, like, healers and dancers. So there is some pretty fierce competition for that angelic robe. Like, I wouldn't mind giving that to Heath or Fiora or Florina or either of the calves. Like, it's up for debate. You can use Isadora for a little bit and she'll be very, very helpful as just a paladin that consistently doubles with swords, but if that's all you want to do with her, she won't last very long because she needs to have her weaknesses patched up through stuff like stat boosters. If you want Isadora to be a good enemy phase unit, you will need to invest into her, which, like, there's a lot of other units you can invest into who do the same thing but better. Like, your Christmas calves will probably be better at this point. There's a chance Lowen could be better at this point, and Lowen has better availability as to the Christmas calves. Marcus will probably be better at this point just because Marcus actually has good bulk. If you want to use Draco shields and angelic robes and potential body rings on her, I will say the body ring doesn't have that much competition. I'd say only her and the Pegasus Knights really benefit that much from the body ring. So that's nice, but the body ring also isn't that frequent. But giving her that 2 extra con would help her a lot, and it would allow her to use some lances without getting slowed down. Isadora's just kind of a frustrating unit, because it always feels like she should be better than she is. I will say, if she had good con, I'd place her up a full tier, and if she had good bulk, she'd probably go, like, maybe even so far as top 5. Like, she'd be fantastic. But the way it is, she has good player phase offense, a great class, great rescue drop utility, great mobility, all that. But she just has some really glaring weaknesses that slow her down and prevent her from being, like, any higher on the tier list. I couldn't place her in A tier. She's not an A tier unit. Con and lack of bulk just really slow her down. Isadora, really annoying unit. I really wish she was better. Such a cool character. Ooh, our first Wyvern Rider. It's Heath. Heath is pretty straightforward to talk about. There's not a whole lot we need to discuss with Heath. He is just a very, very solid all-round unit that I know a lot of people don't like. He's a bit contentious. He's a bit, like, debated. I've never been the hugest fan of Heath, but I know there are some people that will, like, live and die by the Heath. But I am fully willing to admit that he's probably an A-tier unit similar to Fiora. He's very similar to Fiora in a lot of ways, with slightly worse availability, but slightly better bases. Yeah, Heath is definitely a strong unit, but he's not perfect. Let's go over Heath. Heath will join with Isadora. Well, I mean, you have to recruit him first. He has basically half the chapter that Isadora and Rath do in Kinship's Bond. He doesn't really do that much in Kinship's Bond, just because by the time you recruit him, the chapter's like halfway done at that point. And he isn't particularly amazing in Kinship's Bond. But after that, he'll have plenty of chapters to grow. As long as you're recruited before Raging Beast, you don't really have any complaints with, like, oh, there's no chapters to level. Like, Raging Beast is basically just free XP the chapter, because all the enemies in that are so weak. And Heath will join with decent bases. I'm not going to say good. I think decent bases is more accurate. You get some hard mode bonuses, but they're not super severe. I think it's like, again, it's like 2 extra points of strength, maybe 1 extra point of speed, a bit better bulk, but it's not super severe. But yeah, Heath's bases are good. His strength is good on an average of like 13. His bulk is good, 12 defense, 38, 3 HP, I think? That's good. But the biggest problem with Heath is just his very middling speed at start. Much like how I talked about, Fiora won't be doing very much damage at base due to her low strength. Heath has the opposite problem, where his strength is perfectly good. It's just that he is rather slow at base. 8 speed at base, I believe on average, is poor. That's not enough to double anything, and some faster enemies will actually double you. Now, that's not to say his growths are bad. Heath's growths are actually pretty damn good. In fact, a little bit, or it's not really off topic, but you're probably going to be getting the Athos drops soon if you decide to do Genesis because you hate yourself for some reason. And I will say Heath is actually a great user of Athos drops, just because it'll boost his strength growth up to 55%, his skill growth up to 55%. 50% speed growth is much more comforting to my heart than 45 for some reason, even though the difference is like 1 point in 20 levels on average. It'll just make Heath a little bit better. It'll give him that maturity increased. Heath's growths are perfectly fine. They're actually pretty damn good. But I find that in order to make him good, I think you should probably just invest into him a little bit out of the gate, so to say. Like I said, he's really similar to Fiora in that you should probably just be dumping a couple boosters on him as soon as you get him. Whereas Fiora will be faster and generally just harder to hit. Heath will just have better survivability through bulk and just raw damage. Like, they have similar weapon ranks, they have similar classes, they have the same mobility of just skipping mechanics and having rescue drop utility. That's all great. It's really just a case of whether Heath gets those consistent speed level ups or not. Or if you decide to dump Speed Wings on him. And this is probably like the best Speed Wings candidate in the entire game. Because boosting him from 8 to 10 speed. 10 speed means he won't get doubled by anything, and he'll be close to doubling things. And a Heath that doubles shits out damage. He does a bajillion fucking damage. Heath's combat can become incredibly powerful should he start to double. And like, I know I talked about Isadora, it's like, it's up to you whether you want to invest into it. I always just have the opinions like, if you can invest into flyers, why aren't you investing into flyers, man? Flyers are busted. If you have the option to invest in a flyer and it doesn't cost you a ludicrous amount of resources, like it's 1 or 2 boosters that you wouldn't be using otherwise, just dump them on the flyer, man. It improves their performance so much. Like, if you have good utility and flyer mobility and flyer utility and all that, why not just give them good combat as well and just make them basically flawless outside of maybe iffy res and the fact that bows could potentially do damage. But it's 2 times effectiveness, so it's not even that bad. Heath is remarkably simple. He's just straight up a really good Wyvern Rider. He's the first Wyvern Rider you get. Technically the only Wyvern Rider you get, since Vaida will be promoted, and he's just very, very helpful. No real competition for the Elysian Whip. In fact, by the time he's about ready to promote, you'll probably be getting close to the first Earth Seal, and again, perfectly good candidate for it. His only real weaknesses are iffy speed, iffy res, and the fact that you do need to put a little bit of investment into him. Not too much. You need to feed him, I'd say, like, maybe 2 to 3 levels worth of kills and maybe stick a Speed Wings on him, and then he's good to go. He's completely self-sufficient. A very, very strong unit. Maybe a bit iffy availability. Fiora's availability is just a bit better. I'd say chances are you're probably not going to be using both Fiora and Florina and Heath, but it's totally possible to use all 3 just because I like flyers and you should too. Oh my god, the first Berserker is showing up. Well, what about that? I know what I said. It's the first Berserker. Look, everyone, it's Hawkeye. Who says I can't do ventriloquism? And anyway, Hawkeye is an incredibly simple unit. He's fucking great. I absolutely love Hawkeye. He's just a very, very strong unit. Very, very simple, going in A tier. There's just a lot of really nice things to love about Hawkeye, and his weaknesses aren't even that bad. Like, all of his weaknesses are very easily just remedied through very traditional means. Yeah, Hawkeye, let's just dive right in. Hawkeye is a pre-promoted Berserker! Whoopee! Like actual whoopee. Enthusiastic whoopee, not sarcastic whoopee. He's a pre-promoted Berserker joining from chapter 23? He joins from Living Legend, the chapter where Pent can die as a green unit over and over again. I don't care if the percentage is low, I've seen Pent die in that chapter way more than he should. Either way, Hawkeye is an incredibly strong unit because his bases are incredible. It is plain and simple, it's like clear as day, his bases are fucking fantastic. Literally all of his stats are good. His base HP of 50 is incredible. That's insanely high bulk for a pre-promote, especially when you compare join it up with his 14 defense. Immaculately high. That is one fucking big chunk of man. What is that? 64 effective HP in a GBA game, along with 10 res as well. So he's even good at killing mages with hand axes because he has A and axes. This character just impresses on every front. He impresses even more with his 18 base strength, which, honestly, for an X fight, honestly, for a level 4 Berserker isn't that high, but it's still, like, a very good amount of strength. I have absolutely no complaints about 18 strength. Good skill, good res, good luck, good defense. Literally, his only, like, mediocre stat is 11 speed, and 11 speed isn't even that bad. Hawkeye's combat right out of the gate is just so goddamn impressive. It's unparalleled. This is what I mean when I compared him to Dart. Like, Dart requires so much investment. He needs an insanely expensive promotion item to even get to Berserker in the first place. You need to give him weapons, you need to give him XP, you need to give him a deployment slot, and all of that jazz. When you could just use Hawkeye, man! Hawkeye will have probably better stats than Dart at this point, likely just invalidating him. Along with better weapon ranks at A. He just starts at A. He doesn't need to grind his weapon rank at all. Although getting from B to A doesn't take that long, but you get my point. Insane durability. I think that's the main thing that separates Dart from Hawkeye, other than the fact that Hawkeye is basically just strictly better, is that Hawkeye has bulk, whereas Dart will almost certainly never get bulk just because his defensive growths are so poor. Like, that's the most underrated part about Hawkeye, is that he just has so much lasting power in combat. He can constantly just dispatch enemies or deal good damage. He might not double everything, because yes, as I have stated, 11 speed isn't great. It's enough to not get doubled by most enemies, but it's like not enough to double anything meaningful. But it is also like fixable through stuff like just giving him the speed wings, or just giving him the Brave Axe. Hawkeye is almost certainly the best Brave Axe user in the entire game, because if he can double, he can use his 18 strength insanely well, and if he quads, whatever he's fighting fucking dies. It's just as simple as that. Whatever he's fighting will just become a corpse very quickly. He's very self-sufficient. He doesn't like need a lot of heals. He's like really, really good for items for healing, if you know what I mean. Like let's just say Hawkeye is isolated in a situation against a bunch of mages. He manages to kill them, but then it's like, ooh, he's at like 10 HP afterwards. Just give him an elixir. Whoop! He's all the way back up to 50 health. It's great. And you can even help his combat with mages with a pure water. Just use items with Hawkeye. He's a really, really good recipient of items. You don't even really need to give him a pure water. 10 res for a berserker is like genuinely good. Do I even need to talk about his growth rates? Do they matter? Like, a base Hawkeye is good enough for almost up to endgame, I'd say. Like, his strength is great, his bulk is great. I don't really care about his growths. He's probably going to get 2 stats on average because his growths aren't very good, but I don't really mind. On the off chance he gets speed. He's kind of like Marcus. They have the same base speed, but yeah, he's kind of like Marcus in that if he does get speed, oh boy! He's going to consistently double, and that's insane. But obviously a 25% speed growth is only slightly better. Dude, I just realized he has a better speed growth than Dorcas. That's fucking depressing. What the fuck? That's insanity. I know it's only 5%, but that's ludicrous, man. Come on. Give Dorcas a break. Not a whole lot to say about Hawkeye. He's just really, really good. He's just really solid. Maybe iffy availability. I don't really have that much issue with it. He joins a little bit late. It's fine. He joins, what, like 2 or 3 chapters after Dart and Fiora. He joins like 3 chapters after Dart. There's no way Dart's gonna be this strong in 3 chapters, man. There's zero fucking chance. I can use 2 berserkers. I don't care. Dart's bad. Either way, yeah. Hawkeye. He impresses basically on every front. The only real issue is, yeah, he might fall behind the rest of your units. You can just like rescue drop him with a flyer and it's not that bad. And his speed is a little bit low, but it's not low to the point where it's like, oh, he's unsalvageable. It's rather easily fixed. Yeah, Hawkeye, just a very, very solid A-tier unit. Some of the best combat in the entire game, and his defenses are absolutely absurd. And now we shall talk about a good unit that probably won't be seen that much on Hector hard mode. Let's talk about Geitz. Or Geitz. I'm never 100% sure how to pronounce his name. I'm just gonna say Geitz. Geitz is a really cool and fun unit. I really, really like Geitz, but god damn is he a pain in the ass to get. Before we even talk about Geitz, we need to establish the fact that your lords will need to have levels equal to, I believe, 49 or higher going into Four-Fanged Offense in order to, like, be able to recruit Geitz. Otherwise, you're going straight to Lloyd's version of Four-Fanged Offense. But outside of his recruitment, I really like Geitz. I think he's a pretty good unit. He's not perfect, but I think he's a nice, decent B-tier unit. He's got strengths, he's got weaknesses. He's not especially complicated, so we shouldn't be here long. Geitz will only join you in the Linus version of Four-Fanged Offense, as I previously stated. He's not difficult to recruit, you just need to talk to him with Dart, with stupid, ugly Dart, I hate him. So you'll need to bring Dart into the chapter, and he will join with... I was about to say excellent. They're not excellent bases, they're just very good. They're just very good all-round bases. He's not like Hawkeye, where I think he impresses in every area except for speed. Like, Geitz is just a bit more offense-focused rather than bulk. His bulk isn't great. He gets some Hector hard mode bonuses, but they're not super significant. It's like a max of +2 stats and everything, I believe. Maybe 3 in some areas. But on average, I feel like he has, I think, 11 defense with 44 health, which is good, but not incredible. It's good. I'm not going to say it's, like, bad bulk. His res is bad, but that's not really that big of an issue. Just don't throw him against mages. The impressive part about Geitz is that he's a promoted warrior with around 19 strength and 14 speed. when recruited, along with bees and axes and bows, which is phenomenal. That's a really, really good start for Geitz. He's really underrated. A lot of people don't really talk about Geitz, obviously because of the caveat that you have to train your lords in order to get him, which is both very cumbersome and just not really efficient. But at the end of the day, if a player was allowed to directly choose between getting Wallace or getting Geitz, most people would just choose Geitz because Geitz is just better. Warrior is a better class. Bows aren't particularly good, but it can be nice to use them on occasion. But just having bees and bows gives him a good variety of weapons to use. I want to say the brave weapons are B rank in this game, so he can use the brave axe right out of the gate, which is great. He's a good user of the brave axe just due to his obscenely high strength. I believe his growth rates are also like quite good for a pre-promote. Like I think he has a 50% strength growth and a 40% speed growth, along with like a good HP growth. His growths are kind of similar to Dart, but the difference being that he doesn't get weighed down by everything because his con isn't garbage. Although I will say 13 con for a warrior isn't actually that great. It's lower than Dorcas and Bartre, I believe, and Hawkeye's obscenely high 16 con. So that's noteworthy, but it doesn't really matter that much. He barely gets slowed down by axes. Geitz is just very, very good in combat. His bulk can be a little bit lackluster, like I said, with some characters like Raven. If you have pretty lackluster rares, you should be avoiding chapters like Night of Farewells, and you could be in some form of danger in chapters like Battle Before Dawn because of the bolting from Ursula and Night of Farewells, as I previously mentioned, and Cog of Destiny, because Cog of Destiny is like 90% mages. So just keep him away from status staves and siege tomes. Other than that, I really would say the only significant issues with Geitz is the fact that, yeah, he doesn't have a mount, so he might fall behind the rest of your paladins and your Wyvern lords at this point, but it's not that big of an issue. Like I said with Hawkeye, you can just rescue drop him if you really want him to keep up with the rest, or you can just move a little bit slower. Nothing wrong with that. I guess at the end of the day, the only, or the most significant problem with Geitz is that, yes, his recruitment is annoying. It's kind of like Xavier in Thrashia, whereas Xavier is just more annoying. How would I put this? Xavier is a micro problem in that you need to have good mechanics in Chapter 18 of Thrashia in order to recruit him. This is a macro problem where you need to have good XP distribution in your army across many chapters at this point in order to get to Geitz. You gotta put levels into Lynn, you gotta put levels into Eliwood, which might be annoying because A, they don't always get good level ups, it's entirely possible they get stat screwed, and you still gotta dump XP into them if you want to get Geitz, which can be very frustrating. Sometimes they turn out good and you get Geitz on top of 2 good lords. Hey, that's great, but it's probably pretty unlikely. So yeah, you could almost consider this like Dart, in that Dart has a steep money cost, this has a steep XP cost, because you could just be dumping the XP that you'd be putting into Lynn and Eliwood into units that would use that XP better, like your Sains, or your Kents, or your Florinas, or your Fioras, or your Heaths, you know what I mean? It's really just a case of, if you like using the Lords, Geitz is like a nice little bonus on top of that, with some good combat at the cost of some iffy bulk, and somewhat, not great availability. But if you don't want to level your Lords, you ain't getting Geitz, and you have to get saddled with the Wallace train. Again, if I was able to choose between them, I'd pick Geitz every time. It's really nice to see like a pre-promoted warrior. I think this is the only pre-promoted warrior in any GBA Fire Emblem, which is crazy. That's such a weird, like, little fact. Anyway, yeah. Geitz, fun unit. I like him. I wish he got some more appreciation. And capping off our Pegasus Knight trio is none other than the money grubber. It's Farina. Farina's kind of an interesting unit, but she's also like incredibly simple to talk about at the same time. If you thought I had some issues with Dart because of his price tag, woo-wee! Boy howdy do I have some problems with Farina because of her price tag. But before we get into discussing her, I will just go ahead and rank Farina. I'm just going to go ahead and put her at the top of C tier, I think. I think that's fair. You could say bottom of B tier. I think top of C tier is about accurate because while Farina might seem outwardly strong, I'm not entirely convinced that this unit is actually particularly good. This might be my hot take unit. Farina only appears in Hector's story, so if you're wondering who this third Pegasus Knight is, there you go and play Hector's story. And she will join with pretty, like, good bases. Great bases for a level 12 Pegasus Knight, no doubt. 10 strength, 14 speed is phenomenal for your level, along with really good bulk of 10 defense and 12 res, and 24 health is, like, okay. It's not great, it's okay. So her bases are nothing to scoff at. They are very, very solid. But there's also a big caveat attached to that, which we'll get to in a sec. Her growths are fine. I'm not even going to bother talking about them. They're, like, nice. They're pretty much just all-round growths. Farina's kind of a boring unit in that I feel like Florina's offense is really, really good, and then Fiora's the nice all-rounder. And then instead of having Farina be, like, the super bulky one, She's just kind of another all-rounder, which isn't especially interesting. But yeah, Farina is obviously a flyer. Flyers are great, blah, 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 flyer utility, all of that jazz. She's very good. She is a potentially very good unit. But, as we are aware at this point, Farina will join you in Raging Beast only if you pay her 20,000 gold. 20,000 gold's a lot of fucking money. As I discussed with Dart's even a lesser case of that, because I'm talking about the market value of his promotion item. You don't have to sell. This is non-negotiable. You do have to pay 20,000 gold to get Farina. And then you come into the big old thing of, well, is it worth it? Do I need a unit like this? And personally, I don't think it's worth it. As I've said, money isn't super tight in FE7, but I just feel like Farina at this point goes into the overkill category. I've talked about how, well, you can raise Fiora if you're raising Florina, and I've talked with Heath, it's just like, you can raise Heath if you're using your other 2 flyers, and this is where I'm drawing the line. If you're using the other 3 flyers, it's like, you don't need a fucking 4th one, man, especially one that costs 20,000 gold. Like, I really wish you would just join with something really nice, like some really good weapons or stat boosters or something, because just a killer lance is just not enough, chief. Or like, join promoted at the very least. If she joined promoted, I'd say easy B tier. Like, she's expensive, but she's worth the investment. Whereas here it's like, she's a good unit, but I'd wager most of the time you don't need her. Maybe in an Iron Man setting she'd be really nice, because she could replace, like, fallen units, but here it's just, like, what is she going to do that other units don't already do? A trained Florina is already going to do what she does. A trained Fiora is already going to do what she does. A trained Heath is already going to do what she does. Like, she's just appeared so late. That's the thing as well. She appears quite late for a level 12 Pegasus Knight. Like, level 12 Pegasus Knight at this point is quite low leveled. It's not impossible to level her at all. In fact, she joins in Raging Beast, which is just free XP the chapter, because all the enemies are so, like, heinously weak. But you just have to ask yourself, do you want another Pegasus Knight? And if you do, you'll get a pretty good unit in return, but I don't know. You know what? Actually, yeah. You know what I want for Farina? I wish she had better con than the other 2. If she had even something as simple as 7 con, I think this unit would be easy B tier. Easy great unit. But as it stands, she just feels like what if Fiora turned up, like, 5 chapters later with slightly higher bases. Because her bases aren't even that much higher than Fiora's, honestly. They're like decent bases, but they're not high to the point of absurdity. She could be useful in maps that Fiora was good in and Florina. Like, this is a copy-paste unit. She's very, like, unexciting for the most part. She has a good lance rank. She starts with AN lances, which is cute, but weapon rank just grows so quickly, but I don't know. Personally, it's up to you. This isn't like Dart, where I say it's not worth it. Here's like, I don't think it's worth it, but having another flyer is never a bad thing, and money isn't that tight. And unlike Dart, who gets kind of overshadowed by units like Hawkeye, I wouldn't say Farina really gets overshadowed by anyone outside of a trained Florina at this point, or a trained Fiora. It's totally possible to train her. Falconite is a good class. She has a lot of good things, but I think at the end of the day, it's just whether you want to spend 20,000 smackaroos on a unit you basically already have. Think Renault from Sacred Stones, but joins earlier and on a better class, so slightly better. That's kind of it for Farina. Very straightforward unit. You got the cash, you want to spend it, go ahead. You don't, keep the money and watch her fly away. And to finish off our S tier units is none other than Pent. Lord Almighty in heaven, he hath bestowed upon us a sage with correct bases. Pent is ridiculous. Pent is pretty famous in FE7. He's an easy S tier unit. There's nowhere else you can really put him. A lot of people think he's the best unit in the game. I personally don't. I think Lin Mode, Florina, and Marcus are much stronger. But Pent is definitely, like, at worst, top 3. I will also make note that all of our top 3 units have, like, magenta and lavender in their color schemes, which is a little bit peculiar. Don't know what the agenda was at Insys for FE7, but alright. You go lavender, chads. Either way, yeah, Pent is absurd. Let's just glide through this character. Pent, like, you know Pent at this point. Pent's like a really famous character. Pent is ridiculous because he's Pent. He joins in chapter 26. I forget the name of it. It's the chapter with Vaida where she has the Uber Spear. With an Alfire and a Physic, which is an amazing inventory right off the bat. Having a Physic in your inventory just to start with is like, hey, you're already on my good side. Wait a minute, you can use that! Because you're a Sage with A in Anima and A in Staves, meaning your weapon ranks are done right away. Pent has amazing utility due to the fact that he can use literally every staff at base, which is disgusting. Another A he has is a free A support with his wife, Louise, which not super impactful if you don't decide to use Louise, obviously, but it is just nice to have. It's basically just free combat stats, and I won't say no to that. But yes, the real reason Pent is so obscene is his bases are just so... oh my god, they're just so obscene, man. 18 magic, 17 speed on a level 6 Sage, along with 21 skill, which is insane consistency. That's just ridiculous, man. It's through the roof. I don't know why FE7 decided to make so many of their pre-promotes just strictly better than the unpromoted equivalent. Like, Urk is just it's so difficult to justify using Urk when you know Pent. Like, Pent is a countdown clock to Urk becoming irrelevant. I know you can just use both, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's really, really difficult to look at, like, a trained Urk. Like, if you had a level 6 Urk at this point, level 6 Sage Urk, which would be totally possible, almost certainly be lower than Pent's, maybe outside of speed. Which is just so depressing, yeah. No, Pent's ridiculous, his combat is absolutely absurd, his bulk is surprisingly good for a Sage, he has 33 health and 11 defense, meaning he can take hits, and his speed is also high to the point where he can be a reasonable dodge tank, especially helped by the Louise support. He has permanent 1-2 range due to the fact that he's a Sage, which is a good class. Like, his weapon ranks are done, his stats are done, who cares about his growth rates? They're not even that bad, that's the most ridiculous part. His growth rates won't really matter for the most part because he won't grow that much, he'll probably gain like 2 stat levels on average. I don't care, his bases are good enough to bring him into endgame. Like, Pent can act as a dodge tank, he can act as a person who just takes hits if you need him to, he can act as staff utility, he can move freely through a desert, he can just be permanent 1-2 range, he can do good chip damage, like he can constantly do good damage, he just does everything! Literally the only thing slowing Pent down is a lack of horse. That's it. He requires no investment, he requires no items, stat boosters aren't necessary on him. You could stick a speed ring on him if you want him to double absolutely everything. Go ahead, he doesn't need it. Like, his only issues are somewhat low availability due to the fact that he joins pretty late. He joins with like 10 chapters left, but that's still plenty of time to be like easily a top 3 unit in every single chapter you bring him in. He's disgusting. Pent is like genuinely absurd, to the point where his FE8 incarnation with Sally has been nerfed in basically every single way, and Sally is still like an incredibly strong unit. That should basically tell you just how incredibly strong Pent is. Easy S tier, anywhere else would just be incorrect. And slightly less impressive is his wife, Louise. Although I do appreciate that we just firmly have a couple in Fire Emblem. This very rarely happens. I wish this would happen more often where pairings are fixed, and I like that you can't change that. I appreciate that they can't get another A support. I think that's cute. Either way, Louise is a little bit unfortunate in that she's nowhere near as strong as her husband, but she's still a decent unit, in my opinion. I think people shit on Louise a lot. I see a lot of people put her in really low-end tiers, and I think that's just completely wrong. I think Louise is both the strongest archer in the game and a C-tier unit. I think she is reasonably good, with obviously the same fair share of weaknesses that archers have. Louise will join in the same chapter as Pent with a silver bow, which she uses wonderfully well, as she has an A rank in bows, and a white gem, so I appreciate the 10,000 right out of the gate. Much like how Pent joins with a physic, I very much appreciate that Louise just joins with a fat stack of cash. Appreciate it, girl. Keep doing it. But helped by the silver bow is the fact that Louise's bases are very solid, especially for a GBA archer. 12 strength is decent for a level 4 sniper, but more importantly, 17 speed is fan-fucking-tastic. I love Louise's speed. It's so high. Like, Louise's speed she's kind of like Isadora, but like to an even greater extent. And that, obviously she's a sniper, so she has no enemy phase whatsoever, but her player phase is incredibly good. Like, with the silver bow, which she doesn't get slowed down by at all, because I believe the silver bow weighs 6 and Louise's con is 6, so no issues there. Louise will be consistently one-rounding squishier units with no issue, and dealing like 80% of the health of tankier units. Like, Louise's combat is actually very good. Even with 2 times effectiveness, she has like a good niche in combat of just being a good player phase unit. Again, like for a comparison, Inez in Sacred Stones fulfills a similar role, whereas Inez hits harder, Louise is faster. Honestly, I would say 17 speed is just like a really nice solid number to the point where she's basically doubling everything meaningful. In fact, a really great use for her is bringing her into Cog of Destiny because she has 12 Reza base. Along with that much speed, she isn't going to be getting doubled by Valkyrie, so she will be a really good way to lure those units out. Hell, she even has high luck. She'd actually be really good for dealing with the Lunar druids. Because if you don't have high luck, you can face crit chances. Plus Pent support. Actually, yeah, I never thought about that. Louise is fucking great for Cog of Destiny. That's actually really nice. With Pent support, high luck, high speed, she's actually great for dealing with druids. There you go, she has a niche. A lot of characters would love to have a niche. Look at Louise, she deals with mages. She's actually a mage killer. And unlike Will and Rebecca, she requires no investment. Look at this, another pre-promote just completely making her unpromoted versions just irrelevant. They don't matter. Why would I train Will or Rebecca when I can just wait until this chapter, get Louise for free? She has an A support, she has perfect weapon rank, she has incredibly like solid bases and good growths. Like her growths aren't even that much worse than Rebecca's and Will's. In fact, I want to say her growths are like almost identical to Will's. which is just like, what's even the point? What is the point of Will? I don't understand the point of this unit, other than to disappoint me. Obviously, she has the same weakness as Pent in that she is, but like, well, she has okay bulk, 28 health, 9 defense is okay. She shouldn't be facing physical combat for the most part. She's good against mages, but 28 health is still a little bit low. And obviously, she has poor availability like Pent. And she does a lot less than Pent does in combat. Obviously, Pent will have staff utility and constant 1-2 range and being bulky enough to take some hits, whereas Louise does not have constant 1-2 range, has no staff utility, and can't really take many non-magical hits, which is unfortunate. And I think at the end of the day, Louise can't really go any higher than C tier, just because it's still FE7. If you don't have a good enemy phase, you really can't go any higher than the middle of the list. I will say, she's still the strongest archer. I don't care how good Rath can potentially get. Louise is just superior just because she joins with high bases. I think that's it for Louise. There's not really much to discuss. Just a really nice, delightful unit to have. A lot of people shit on her. I think she's genuinely pretty good. As far as archers go in GBA games, this is like the cream of the crop. This is the high tier, baby. On an archer tier list, she'd be pretty damn high. Louise, C tier. I'm gonna be real, I've tried to record for these two characters separately like 3 times now, and it's just gotten kind of messy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about these two together. Pretend they're a couple, it's fine. Harken and Karel. Or Karel and Harken, more accurately, just because, I don't know, it's easier to talk about the weaker unit first. Harken and Karel are relatively easy to talk about due to the fact that you can only recruit one of them. This is not a Wallace Geitz situation where you're building up the entire game to get one or the other. You get to pick between these two. So it's very, very easy to pick between the two of these characters. I would say one of them has amazing strengths and some minor weaknesses, while the other one is the total opposite. He has some major weaknesses and some minor strengths. So without further ado, Karel is a D tier unit, and Harken is an A tier unit. So let's just go ahead and discuss this dubious duo. As I mentioned, you can only recruit one of these bozos in Pale Flower of Darkness, be it the Kenneth version or the Jeremy version. If you are given the option, I forget how exactly the recruitment works. It's like the number of doors you open going into the chapter, or like before turn 10. It's a really convoluted recruitment, just look it up, it's fine. But as far as unit strength goes, it's really, really straightforward. Harken is just better Karel, like in virtually every single way. It's kind of depressing. Karel is a swordmaster, very, very straightforward. We've gone through pretty much every single sword locked unit up to this point. He's no different. He has the same issues. No 1-2 range, kind of iffy enemy phase, pretty lackluster availability joining from Pale Flower of Darkness, which is a radical chapter name, just thought I should mention that. And yeah, no, very, very similar weaknesses to Lynn and Guy, with poor availability. And Karel, honestly, like, isn't that good. Like, if we were just talking about Karel without his comparison to Harken, he would just not be very good, because Karel's bases really aren't that great. Like, if you look at them, they're not that high for a level 8 swordmaster. 16 strength is like okay. 20 speed honestly isn't that high. Like 20 speed is only a little bit higher than Pent, who joined earlier and on a much better class. Like if you're a pre-promoted swordmaster at this point, I want you wielding like 24 speed or something. I want you to double everything. Upon a second inspection, his defenses aren't actually that bad, but it doesn't really matter that much. He's still just gonna get pipped with javelins and magic and some such. That's the thing with Karel. It's like, what does Karel do better than Harken? Karel gets a plus 15 crit bonus from being in Swordmaster, and does have good con at 9. 9 con for a Swordmaster is actually weirdly high now that I'm looking at it, so he won't get slowed down by heavier swords, like blades and such, which is good. That is nice. He comes with a Wodow, which Harken does not. I believe there's only 2 Wodows in the game, and the Wodow it's okay. It's a Swordmaster exclusive weapon, so that's nice for him. It's a cute little bonus. It's a nice little box of animal crackers for him to take to school with him. But instead of the Wodow, instead of this nice little snack you could have at any time during the day, you could just pick Harken and get the Brave Sword instead, which is not just a nice little snack, it's a fucking nuclear bomb. That's the thing, is like, everything Karel seemingly does uniquely, Harken just does better. Harken's bases are better. Harken's growths are about the same, honestly. Like, Karel doesn't have particularly great growths. Harken's class is much better, because he has access to hand axes. Harken's weapons are better, because he joins with the only Brave Sword in the entire game. If you don't pick Harken, you ain't getting the Brave Sword. And again, since I'm allowed to pick between another Wodow, there's another one you can get, or the only Brave Sword in the entire game that multiple units could make great use of, including Harken, I'm picking the Brave Sword every time. Why would I not? Like, that's the thing. Why would you ever pick Karel over Harken? I don't get it. Karel can't even recruit Karla for some reason, which has always been really peculiar to me. Like, Karla's entire deal is that she's searching for a brother and, like, wants to strike him down or something. I don't know, it's been a while since I've read FE7's story. Anyway, it's weird that Karel can't recruit Karla, but whatever. It would be a nice little caveat for him. It's like, oh, Karel at least recruits a character, whereas Harken doesn't recruit anyone. Also, I will say, like, Harken also gets hard mode bonuses while Karel doesn't. It's really strange that Karel, the massive edgelord, who's here to strike down his opponents and bathe his sword in blood, appears as a green unit. It's like, oh, where am I going? Bumbly bumbly. And Harken, whose entire character is, dear God, what has happened to our army? I'm like, got that 1,000-yard stare and I'm just wandering through the battlefield completely aimlessly, is a red unit for some reason, instead of a green unit. Like, it should be the total opposite. So, it would have been kind of nice if Karel got hard mode bonuses and Harken didn't. That would actually even it out a bit more. But the way it is, Harken is just so much better because his bases are way better. Harken has amazing bulk, as I've discussed. Like, Harken's bases are some of the best in the entire game. Again, like I said with Pent, this is an endgame ready character. You can just bring Harken into endgame and he will do well. He is phenomenal. Amazing bulk allows him to survive on the front lines for fucking ages. You can just send him out on his own expeditions and he will do very, very well. Constant 1-2 range, a good class, like good offense. Like, there's no bad part about Harken other than bad availability. If he joined any earlier, like, every single chapter he could potentially join earlier would move him up, like, one place on the tier list. He's only that low in A tier because of his bad availability. That's it. Harken is a fantastic frontliner with great 1-2 range, fantastic combat, just amazing lasting power in combat. Whereas Karel has plus 15 crit and a weapon you can get from somewhere else. Yeah, that's terrific, man. That's great. I've seen this homework before. Karel has no utility, middling combat because he doesn't even double everything. Like, he won't be doubling Valkyries and Cog of Destiny, which absolutely blows. His bulk is a little bit higher than your average Swordmaster, but it's not high to the point where it's actually good, whereas Harken's bulk is actually fucking fantastic. It's a no-brainer. Like, if you're using this tier list for a guide, I'm like, oh, who should I pick, Harken or Karel? My answer is, pick whoever you like. If you think Karel looks cooler, pick Karel. But if you want to play with optimal units, because playing with the best units can be fun sometimes, just pick Harken. He's better in basically every way. And ladies and gentlemen, we have finally made it to what is somehow still the most contentious unit in the entirety of Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, or Blazing Blade, or FE7, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Rekanoken? I think that's the Japanese name. So let's go ahead and give a round of applause for Nino! Nino is not a good unit. I don't care how much babying or favoritism you give this green-haired little infant. She's bad. She's not a good unit. I do not give a shit how much you liked her on your first playthrough of Eliwood normal mode. This character in Hector hard mode is a fucking dumpster fire. She's not the worst unit in the game. I don't think she's, like, with, like, Hector mode Will and Lyn mode Wallace and Karla. Spoilers, we'll get to her. But she is definitely an E tier unit. No doubt about it. This unit is absolute tripe. She's complete garbage. You will potentially recruit Nino in Battle Before Dawn. I say potentially because it's not guaranteed due to the fact that Battle Before Dawn's RNG can sometimes completely screw you over, since that chapter is kind of a nightmare. Maybe the most RNG-based, like, chapter in all of Fire Emblem, in that, like, half the time you just won't be recruiting Nino and Jaffar because the AI just decides to not work. To be fair, Nino's AI is actually more consistent. Nino will be having her epic duel against the monk, who she cannot fight on her own, like, really that well. She'll beat him eventually, but the monk also has, I believe, a very small chance to kill her, which is insane because it's an FE7 monk. So you get a nice taste of Nino's overall power level right from the get-go. In terms of Nino's stats, they're not good, as we would expect from a fucking level 5 mage joining from chapter 20 what, like, 7, 28? Battle Before Dawn pretty close to the end of the game. Like, Nino's bases are awful. 19 health, 4 defense. She has an effective health of 23. She's getting one-shot by most enemies at this point. Along with the fact that she only has 11 speed. And I will say 11 speed is good for a level 5 mage, but it don't fucking matter. If you brought a level 5 Urk into this chapter, he would be just as dog shit. But Urk would also have 2 more points of con, since Nino's con is 3 points. 3 fucking points of con. That's nothing. That is actual infancy levels of con. I'm pretty sure Nils... Yeah, Nils actually has the same level of con. And Nils is a fucking sickly child. I made this exact joke in the fucking bottom of the bench video. Due to the fact that Nino has 3 constitution, with her L-Fire tome at base, she's getting slowed down by, I believe, 5 points of speed, which is insane. So she goes to an AS of 6, which is enough to get doubled by, I believe, every single enemy in that chapter, maybe outside of fighters. So Nino's survivability is non-existent. She's going to get absolutely obliterated by every single unit she fights, unless she is doing chip damage. She's very similar to Ewan in a way, but Ewan at least joins earlier and can potentially become a summoner. No, what you actually care about with Nino are her growth rates, because Nino is an Est. She falls into the Est archetype, and that she has good growth, but she joins incredibly underleveled. So you're incentivized to use her, so you get a super powerful unit by endgame. You just have to give her a little bit of favoritism. And by a little bit of favoritism, I mean a massive fucking amount of favoritism. As in the rest of the class won't be receiving any XP levels of favoritism. And in return, what you will get is a mage who will probably get like 4 stat level ups on average. Her growths are good. They're some of the best in the game. 50% magic and 60% speed is very, very good. 50% res is nice. Good skill growth. But at the end of the day, you can potentially just feed a bunch of kills to Nino to get her to become a sage and get her like staff utility and like better weapons and potentially, oh, you can use the Excalibur in endgame. But other than the power fantasy of leveling your S, which can be very fun, I'm not going to pretend Nino can't be fun, and if you want to level Nino, go right ahead. But in terms of being optimal, why the fuck would you ever use this unit? Like, why? Like, genuinely, why? Her availability is dog shit. In terms of strength, she's similar to a level 5 Urk, but Urk joins, what, like 15 chapters earlier? In terms of sages at this point, you could potentially have a promoted Urk who would be much stronger than her, or Pent who would cost nothing and will just join your army as a ludicrous fucking hydrogen bomb in like comparison to this coughing baby. Like, that's the thing. You can train up Nino and she will become very, very powerful, but by the time she reaches like a level 5 sage, you're in endgame, man. Who cares? Athos is going to be soloing endgame anyway, and Pent is still going to be better. Like, I'm not going to look it up because I'll probably like be talking out of my ass, but I'm willing to bet Nino at like a level 6 sage, if you promoted her at 20, would have similar stats to Pent, which just makes you ask the question, why would I level this unit in the first place? Again, we're going back to the Thrashia video. If Nino is a builder gun kit, in which I have to collect all of the parts of a gun, that's fine. But don't give me a fucking rocket launcher in the other room. In the room, like, I had to come through in order to get to this closet. Like, what's the logic behind that? That's really it with Nino. She's a for fun unit. You use this unit because you like her, you liked her from Heroes. It's like, oh, I'll try my best, or whatever she says in Heroes. God, it's Ninoing time. That's fine. I have no issue with that. You want to train Nino, go fucking right ahead. I have always kind of despised this unit because, like, I always think her performance at base is a little bit better than it is, and it just turns out to be so god-awful. Like, she's doing single-digit damage and getting absolutely obliterated by every single enemy she fights. You can give her levels, you can give her stat boosters, you can give her constant babying, you can give her staff XP. Like, she will get utility once she promotes to Sage. Sage promo bonuses are okay, they don't help her that much. She'll start with E rank and staves. Like, she's fine if you train her. That's the thing, she's not even like a character with like 100% growth or anything, so she could still get stat screwed. Like, if you put all of that effort into investing into Nino, like giving her a kill in battle before dawn, and her first level is like HP luck, it's like fucking terrific, great. It's like, it's not like with Eliwood and Bartre in the earlier, it's like, oh, that's fine. We just won't level you. Like, if you took like 3 turns to feed Nino a single level, you'd be fucking fuming at that point. What's the point, dude? Yeah, Nino, for fun, she's awful. I don't care. It's like, well, she'll become as good as... I could just use Pent, man. Why would I not? Well, you're being boring. Yeah, being optimal is kind of boring sometimes, but it's also kind of fun. I'm getting fucking rancid and angry. The vibes are absolutely, like, malignant in here. I gotta move on. Nino, E-tier. And now that we've discussed his potential love interest, which was always a weird thing considering Nino's like 13 or 15, but whatever. Either way, here's Jaffar. Everyone's favorite edgelord. Everyone's probably actual favorite edgelord from FE7. I certainly prefer him to Karel character-wise. Karel is like kind of one note. Jaffar is relatively plain, honestly. Like, it's cool to have a playable assassin who isn't just... Is this the first playable assassin? It is, actually, now that I think about it. Jaffar is kind of a secret character. He's a more interesting secret character than someone like Karla, because his recruitment can be kind of cumbersome. But it's not cumbersome to the point where you are super unlikely to do it. It's mostly just, will I get lucky enough this time? Jaffar is a pretty strong unit, despite having a lot of weaknesses that other sword-locked units have. I'm going to place him in B tier. That might be a bit high, but it's fine. We'll place him towards the bottom. Jaffar will join you. He won't join in battle before dawn, but in order to recruit him, you need to talk to Nino and then have Nino talk to Jaffar, and Jaffar's like, I guess I'll join this army that I have no correlation or affection for, but fuck it, whatever. I'm a mannequin. And then you'll get him in either Night of Farewells, or you'll get him in the chapter after Night of Farewells, which I can't remember. That might be Cog of Destiny. Either way, Jaffar is good, but he's not perfect. He's unlike Karel, where Karel is a case of like, I could recruit this unit, but his bases are kind of mediocre and he still has the same problems of sword-locked units. Jaffar does still have the same problem as sword-locked units, but I would say that Jaffar's bases are just much better than Karel's, because Jaffar's bases are very, very good. Obviously, no 1-2 range does suck, but I feel like Jaffar's, like, just plain old simple 1-range combat is some of the best in the entire game. Because he has 24 speed. 24 speed. This is what I want from Karel. Like, literally, this is what I wanted Karel to be. Very high strength with 19. That's great for a sword unit. Fantastic speed, enough to double virtually everything. He'll be doubling some of the Valkyries in Cog of Destiny, which is great. I want to say Jaffar doubles every meaningful, morph enemy from now until the end of the game, which is genuinely pretty impressive. Along with having surprisingly decent bulk for an assassin, even though he's probably just going to end up being a dodge tank. 34 health might be a little bit low, but 15 defense, 11 res is nothing to scoff at. It's actually pretty good. Helped by A-rank and swords, meaning he can use everything at base except for your Regal Blade. Does anyone care about the Regal Blade? Moving on. And I think most important of all, he doesn't cost you anything outside of maybe a headache in getting him in the first place. Whereas Karel will require you to throw away someone like Harken in order to recruit him, Jaffar requires no investment to get a unit that is just very, very solid right out of the bat. He also has Thief utility. There's not that many chests from here to the end of the game, but it can be nice just to have like another replacement for Legault. This is just what happens with Thieves. You don't promote them, you just replace them. It's like a fucking broken tool. Like, you'll use Matthew for the early game, you'll use Legault for the mid game, and then once Jaffar joins, you'll use Jaffar for the late game. And Jaffar's combat is much, much better than the other Thieves. He is just, yeah. He's an assassin, he has access to Silencer. Silencer isn't super important, but you'll probably see it every now and then. It's cool, it's a neat animation. Most of the time, he'll just be doing like monstrous damage through crits because his skill is incredibly high and just general crit rates will be through the roof. Other than that, yeah, as we discussed, same issues that every other sword locked unit has. No 1-2 range, can fall behind, doesn't really offer much utility outside of just generic thief utility. But I just feel like Jaffar has a lot of uses that make him a good contender for a deployment slot in the late game. Like, I've never really had an issue with Jaffar. I know a lot of people have been like, he's super overrated, and then other people are like, oh, well, he's really fucking good in my playthrough. But I just think he's good. I don't think he's amazing. I think he's good. I think he's just a good unit that you should field every now and then. He's a good pre-promote. He's also level 13, so he's super high level. He's going to gain, like, no XP. And I want to say off the top of my head, his growth rates aren't good. Yeah, looking upon these on second inspection, these growth rates are, in fact, booty butt cheeks. Outside of a 30% defense and res growth, which is weirdly high. Regardless, you're going to use Jaffar for his fantastic basis, his thief utility, and just his ability to be a pretty good dodge tank against a fair amount of axe enemies in the late game. Especially the Kashuna Gaiden chapter, he's fucking incredible in that chapter. He can basically solo the Hector mode Kashuna Gaiden chapter. He's absurd there. Really straightforward unit. He's a cool dude with not that much attitude. And next up is a rather interesting unit. I'd say one of my favorites in FE7 because she's rather interesting to talk about. So let's go ahead and discuss Vaida. Vaida, I don't know the official pronunciation. Vaida sounds cooler, whatever. Vaida is fascinating. Well, fascinating might be a bit of an exaggeration, but she is a cool unit. I'm going to go ahead and place her in B tier for a start. Probably a similar positioning to like Geitz and Jaffar. She's not incredible, but she is definitely a good unit, with the only thing really holding her back being her crappy availability. We've entered the realm where it's no longer like, it's so-so availability. Like, she joins in Cog of Destiny. She joins real fucking late. But she does absolutely have her own purpose in the army that doesn't really get replicated anywhere else. She's kind of interesting. Vaida will join in Cog of Destiny with phenomenal bases, along with hard mode bonuses on Hector hard mode, which is always a big thumbs up from me. I want to say she gets like pretty significant hard mode bonuses just because her level is high. So I think she'll join with like 5 extra HP, 2 extra points of strength, 2 extra points of speed, 2 extra points of defense. God, fucking looking at Vaida's bases just makes me like salivate a bit. It's like exactly what I want in a Wyvern Lord. Vaida's cool, man. Like, she's a Wyvern Lord with just disgustingly high bases in everything except for speed and res. I like that she has clear weaknesses. For strength, Vaida is absurdly bulky. Vaida is so fucking tanky, it's almost a little bit it's a little bit overkill. She'll join your army with around 47 HP and around about 22 defense, which is despicable. That's absurd bulk. That's general levels of bulk, but she's not held down by a class because she's a Wyvern Lord, so she can fly all over the place. So her damage output is phenomenal with really high strength. Her bulk is insane with super high defense. Great consistency with high weapon ranks of A in both swords and lances, fantastic, and around 20 skill, which is really, really good. Her growth rates are nice. She won't be gaining many levels, but like they are pretty decent growth, surprisingly. And another major factor for why Vaida's combat is really like underlooked a lot of the time is that For some reason, she got to pass the female tax. Maybe it's the short hair that makes her far more attractive. What? I didn't say anything. Vaida has 12 con. 12 con is very high. This is higher than a promoted Heath, I want to say, which is really, really cool. I love that Vaida has super high con. She has like fighter level con, meaning she doesn't get slowed down by most lances, and I don't believe any swords will slow her down outside of something like the Silver Blade, which is a joke weapon, so don't worry about it. So that's all great. Vaida's combat and bulk is very good. What's bad about Vaida? Her speed. Her speed's bad. Plain and simple, her speed's bad. Also res. Like, she will not do much in Cog of Destiny because her speed is bad, so she'll get doubled by Valkyries, and her res is bad. So she'll get absolutely obliterated by the most dangerous enemy type in her join chapter. Which means her first impression isn't great. Yeah, Vaida will join with around 14 speed, which is enough to double only like unpromoted fucking shamans and mages and monks and like really crappy enemy types that are very infrequent at this part of the game. She won't be doubling promoted enemies at all. Maybe outside of like generals. So that's rough. She does have a good speed growth, but as I said, she joins as a level 9 Wyvern Lord, so like she's not going to be gaining that many levels. That's the bad part about Vaida. While she is a flyer and has all that flyer greatness, but we'll get more into that in a sec, she just doesn't have the same killing potential as like a trained Heath or a trained Fiora or a trained Florina or a trained Farina. Like all of your other flyers are probably going to be consistently doubling, while Vaida won't, which is unfortunate. She is still useful to have. She's still a good enemy phase unit and can definitely just do a good big chunk of damage. And like her low speed doesn't matter with physical units because they're just going to be doing like minimal damage to it anyway. So she is still a good enemy phase unit. But her lacking speed just, it cripples her a little bit. She's kind of like Isadora. She's like reverse Isadora, where con's amazing, but her speed sucks. But I think another part of why Vaida isn't great is, other than her low speed and low res, is her really bad aid. Aid is a stat that decides basically whether you can or can't rescue someone. I forget the exact calculation, but basically the higher your aid stat, the more people you can rescue. Vaida's aid stat is 8. Which is very low. That's very, very low for a flyer. For comparison, Heath starts with 16, and I want to say gets like 1 or 2 points when he promotes, which is phenomenal. That's like the standard for a flyer. So Vaida having poor aid means she's a really, really bad rescue dropper. Meaning that, while she does have flyer utility and that she gets to ignore mechanics and fly over mountains and all of that wonderful stuff, she isn't good at rescuing. She is not good at it. So she is definitely weaker than characters like Florina and Fiora and Farina and Heath. Farina might be a little bit low, whatever, I gotta have some spicy picks. So she will mainly just be focused on combat. Is she good at combat? Fuck yes she is, and she requires, again, no investment, unlike a lot of these other units. She does have a niche, it's just that the niche isn't as useful as someone like a promoted Heath. Promoted Heath will outshine her. Promoted Fiora will outshine her. She will get outshined by other promoted units, but she definitely still holds her own in combat. I feel like Vaida is actually like maybe the most balanced of the pre-promotes. Because whereas Pent overshadows every other mage, and Harken overshadows Raven, I don't think Vaida overshadows the other flyers. I think she fits into this nice little category of a pre-promoted flyer with really good stats, but doesn't, like, fill every single thing on the to-do list. Like, she doesn't double, she doesn't fight mages well, and she can't rescue. Like, she's really interesting. I really love this character. More pre-promotes like this. Vaida's a wonderful character. And behold, folks, we finally arrived at our most disappointing destination on our little journey through FE7. Without further ado and any, like, applause, please do not clap your hands together, as it is Karla. Karla is the worst unit in the game, bar none. As bad as Wallace and Will are, they are still, like, respectable units in their own right. They can at least, like, contribute chip damage or, like, maybe be a useful, like, defensive wall. Whereas Karla does nothing. Karla is one of the few units in Fire Emblem I would actively classify as worthless. Karla is F tier, without any like question. She is the worst unit in the game, as I've discussed, bar none. So let's just try and get through this quickly. I don't like talking about stinky units, even if they are like hilariously bad. Karla, much like Farina, is Hector mode exclusive. She will only join in battle preparations, the most exciting chapter in all of Fire Emblem, in which nothing happens, an entire chapter devoted to literally just buying shit. That was someone's idea, I can respect it. And in order to recruit Karla, as I discussed like, 5 hours ago with Bartre, you will need to level Bartre to a level 5 warrior and have him compete in the arena in which he will face Karla as an enemy, and he will need to survive combat against Karla, which isn't that difficult, but also he will need to not kill Karla, at which point she will join your team. No, Karel is not involved in any way. For some reason, I have absolutely no clue why. So by going through this insanely arduous recruitment process, I'd argue more convoluted than someone like Xavier or Geitz, you will receive a level 5 Swordmaster. Whoop! T-fucking-do. A level 5 Swordmaster that also comes with god-awful bases. God-fucking-awful bases. Karla's stats are so terrible, it's actually insane. Let's see, let's just go through all these stats and see which one's the worst. Probably just 14 strength, to be honest. Either 14 strength or 18 speed. 18 speed for a Swordmaster is, like, surprisingly low. That's, like, bad. But 14 strength means she is doing virtually no damage. If she doubles anything, which she won't even consistently double enemies, like, she won't double any promoted units, I want to say, with 18 speed, that's rather low. But on the off chance that she does double something, she will be dealing no damage, because swords have innately low might, paired with 14 strength, so she'll be dishing out probably, like, 23 damage on average, times 2, against, like, an average of 17 defense, like, 6 times 2. That Silver Sword hero with 50 health is going to be needing 4 rounds of combat to be dispatched, which is, you know, not good at all, in any way. As we've discussed, sword-locked units are bad, but at the very least, units like Jaffar have great combat to make up for the fact that they don't have 1-2 range, or Gaia and Lyn have great availability, or Karel has a Wodow, which is neat. Or I guess Karla also comes with a Wodow. Regardless, like, you understand why this character is so terrible. Her recruitment process is absurdly convoluted, her stats are bad, her growths don't make up for the fact that there's, like, 3 chapters left, so her availability is also some of the worst in the entire game. She does nothing in Victory or Death. She could be useful in, the Kashuna chapter, the Kashuna Gaiden chapter, where it's all berserkers, but fuck it, just bring a better sword unit. You have a million of them. And then in Light, she's not gonna do anything. She's also super fragile, 29 health! I will also say that a unit joining with 29 health at this point is fucking comical, but 2, the fact that she has the same base health as Bartre joining in the equivalent of chapter 2, is both thematically theming and really fucking funny. Yeah, no, there's literally no good points about Karla. Like, I talked about how Will can at least contribute chip damage and how Wallace can be a defensive wall if you need him to. I'd say Karla is the only unit in the entirety of FE7 who literally doesn't have a single positive. Everyone else overshadows her in combat, which is the only thing she does. She has lower movement than your mounted units. She has no utility whatsoever. Her damage is pitiful. Her stats are awful. Her growths don't matter. Her availability is dog shit. Her weapon type is bad. Yeah, no, there's literally nothing good about this unit. Oh yeah, and her recruitment is like a Rube Goldberg machine level of complicated. There's nothing else to say about this unit. She is comically terrible in every single way. I'd almost rate this unit F-. Like, this is actually just a pointless unit. What a depressing thing to do. Like, imagine you go through the entire process to recruit Karla, this like, ooh, hidden cool bonus unit, the sister of Karel. And then you get her and it's just like a toddler with a knife. And it's like, honestly, a toddler with a knife would probably do more damage than this. I'm done talking about Karla. She doesn't deserve any more time. F tier. Complete garbage. And our penultimate unit also happens to be one of the coolest characters in Fire Emblem. So let's give it up for Renault. Or Renault? I don't know how to pronounce this name. I'll call him Renault, just for the fucking, his name's Renault, I'd fucking go to Tesco on Tuesday level of my British pronunciation. As I said, Renault is a really, really cool character, and I love his backstory, and I love his support. I think this is one of the coolest characters in all of Fire Emblem. But as a unit, strictly speaking, stat-wise and, like, utility-wise and all of that, as a unit, he is not very good. I'm going to go ahead and place him in D tier. You can maybe argue for C tier, but then I'd have to change the tier list infographic again, and I don't want to do that. So he's going in D tier. The top of D tier and the bottom of C tier is basically the same thing. Yeah, Renault is just, not very good. He's not complete garbage like your Karlas or your Wills, but he's definitely very weak. Renault will join you in Victory or Death, which is literally, 2-3 chapters from the end of the game, so he will not have very much time to shine in the slightest. And he will join with weird bases. Renault's bases aren't particularly bad, they're just kind of weird. Because he's a bishop, joining with A rank and light, A rank and staves, which is really nice, I will admit. His weapon ranks aren't a problem at all. He'll even join with a fortify, which is really, really helpful. But in regards to his stats, you may notice that Renault has high defense, high HP, high speed, high skill, high res. Everything's pretty good, except for magic. Even his con is good. Why is his magic low? Character reasons, which I do appreciate. If I was to buff Renault, I would not touch his magic in the slightest, because it's low for a reason, and I do really like that. I will just, props for theming, props for gameplay story integration. Very cool idea just to give Renault low magic to show his class change. I think that's really cool. But in terms of gameplay, it does hinder him very heavily, because he is stuck with one of the weakest weapon types of light and low magic, meaning that Renault's combat isn't very good. He has high speed, so he has the potential to double some things, but like his combat just is very mediocre. It's 1 to 2 range, which is nice. He's a good enemy phase unit in the sense that he is very bulky, and effective health of 58 from hedge kill unit is insanely high. So he can definitely take a good amount of hits. The problem is he just won't be doing very much damage. I think like a lot of people may just use Renault as like a distraction just to keep a lot of units occupied. In fact, like in Victory or Death just spits out units non-stop. It's a fucking clusterfuck of a chapter in regards to unit density. So Renault can just be very helpful in distracting pods of units so you can just rush to Limb Stellar as soon as possible. But after that, let's be real, Renault just becomes a Fortify bot. If you even want to use him as that, there's better Fortify bots. There's no way you won't have another A-rank staff user at this point. Like, you have Pent, you have either like a trained Urk, you have a trained Nino, why not? A trained Serra, a trained Priscilla. There's a ton of ways you could have an A-rank staff user. It's very unlikely for you to not have one. So even his main appealing aspect of having Fortify isn't really unique to him. You're probably just going to give that to someone else. But it is still nice to have an A-rank staff bot in the late game, just to dish out stuff like Physic, a Warp user if you really need one, Rescue is nice. Like, it's still very helpful. It's like Yoder in FE6. Like, they fulfill the same role as like almost a mini Goto, which sounds stupid to say, but they do kind of fulfill that role, as Renault will also not gain many levels. He's level 16, he's super high level. Yeah, Renault is quite simple. He is good in combat at taking hits, at being a good distraction, but his damage is very lackluster, and he won't be like consistently doubling anything. He'll double like occasionally. You might get him to Aureola. He's like a fine user of Aureola, but like just use it with a trained Lucius, or you know, the guy who comes with Aureola. He can be potentially good with staves, but there's people who do it better. Like he's fine. He's a nice little end game unit if you need it. I'm sure in an Iron Man setting, he's quite nice to have in case you don't have any other staff users at that point. But otherwise, he's likely overshadowed by everyone in his field. Still though, an amazing character. If you haven't read Renault's supports, go and read them. They are some excellent shit. Renault Isadora support is phenomenal. That is some good shit. As much as I like to give FE7 some guff, its supports are definitely one of its strongest points. But yeah, Renault, D tier. And we're finally here, performing for you. It's the end of the tier list, so you can join in too. Put your hands together if you want to clap, as I bring you Athos. There will be no rhyming at the end. There is no joy. There is just only Athos. Athos is fucking sick. I love Athos. Athos is probably the coolest Goto in the series. Maybe not the coolest, but he's certainly my favorite. Just because Athos is strong. Like, a lot of Gotos aren't actually very good. Like, Goto himself in Shadow Dragon isn't actually that good. Whereas Athos is fully capable of soloing the chapter he joins in. Light. Again, like I said with Renault, I would probably put him in C tier, but just for my own sanity's sake, I'm going to place him in the bottom of B tier, so I don't have to change the infographic, because I'm fucking lazy. What are you going to do? Sue me? Athos is an Arc Sage. He will join capped, so he has no growth rates to speak of, and his bases are immaculate. He joins with literally capped magic. He'll be absolutely pooping out damage. He joins with the 4-Blaze and S-Rank Fire Tome, the Aureola and S-Rank Light Tome, and more importantly, he has S-Rank and Dark, meaning he can use the Luna Tome, which is probably what you're going to be using half the time. As we discussed with Canas, Luna isn't actually good until you get to Athos, because Athos will make amazing use of Luna due to his high skill and capped magic, meaning he's hitting for 30 true damage, potentially 90 if he gets a crit, against literally every single enemy, including the last boss. This is why people think Luna is busted, because Athos uses it so amazingly. He also has S-Rank and Anima, Light, and Stave, so he can do every bit of staff utility. Just give him the Fortify. He's a great Fortify user due to his capped magic. He will hit basically the entire map, and it will be virtually a full heal. As I stated, like, Athos is just fantastic. He's got good bulk, like 60 effective health is fantastic. He's fast enough to not get doubled by, I think, everything except for Lloyd and Uhai, I believe. I may be wrong in that. Maybe there's a couple extra enemies that double him. Regardless, you should just be using him on player phase to just effectively one-shot these units. In regards to fighting the dragon, he is still very good at fighting the dragon, even if the dragon gets a lucky roll and deals exactly 40 damage to Athos. Just give him an Angelic Robe. I'm surprised a lot of people haven't thought about this. Just save an Angelic Robe for Athos, and then he is guaranteed to not get one-shot by the dragon, and you don't have to worry about that in the slightest. Dragon can't do more than 40 damage at a time, so if Athos has 47 health, don't need to worry about it. It's that easy. Yeah, that's really all there is to it. He's a fantastic unit for endgame. He's a great crutch for players who haven't been training their army maybe as efficiently as they could have. So you can just relax and watch Athos absolutely annihilate every single enemy in that chapter. Just make sure he's topped up, and give him like a Nils buff every now and then. He makes great use of Fila's Might and Nini's Grace. Yeah, no, that's literally it. I'm looking through my notes. Real short, Athos is just a fucking phenomenal unit for the final chapter. Obviously his availability is terrible, literally just a single chapter, but he is absolutely the strongest unit in that chapter. If you got him for any longer, he'd be completely goddamn broken. Probably the strongest Goto in the series, if I had to make a guess. Like, Galzus is really strong, but you don't really need him because you have so many incredibly strong units, whereas it's possible for FE7 to not have that many good units. Also, your deployment slots and Light aren't that good. Like, Light's kind of a tough chapter, just because the bosses are actually quite strong. So Athos is here to make sure that you can see the credits, and what a spectacle he makes of it. Thank you, Athos. You're an absolute delight to use. More importantly, super fun to use. He's animated so fucking beautifully. Like, these sound effects are so good, the unique music with the holy weapons, like, Athos is a big, like, fucking S+ in terms of aesthetic. What a cool dude. He's basically just Gandalf. Love Athos. B tier. And with Athos done, we are finally at the end of our 4-hour tier list. Was it 4 hours this time? I think it's closer to like 3.5. But regardless, this still probably took longer than it should have. Looking through this list, there's definitely a couple of picks that could move around, but I'm not gonna move around. You gotta have, like I said with Farina, you gotta have some spicy picks. I do think Farina that low is maybe a little bit ridiculous. But I'm just going to go ahead and leave these placements here. If you disagree with my placements, feel free to disagree in the comments, and I'll go ahead and look at your reasoning and deem that you're wrong! I'm just kidding. I'll look at some reasonable arguments, and you're probably correct, but this is just my personal opinions. And if you agree with my personal opinions, then that's cool. You're on my nice list, and you'll get access to my secret videos. This might exist at some point. Who knows? Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed, as usual. This will be the yearly tier list. Who knows if there'll be another one this year? If there is, I'll catch you next time. Have a great day, everyone. I'll see you around.